1. Snow is falling from the sky, and the roof of the bus station is covered with white. Kirigiri and I are hiding under the canopy from the snow, looking at the lights of the city in the distance beyond the gray curtains. The return bus haven't yet arrived. The name of the bus stop is in front of the detective library. At the end of February, Kirigiri Kyoko and I went to the detective library. The detective library is a place where more than 65,500 detectives' information files are stored. The detective library organizes each detective's file on shelves according to a unique classification called DSC, Detective Shelf Classification, to make it easier for those who seek help find the detective they are looking for. DSC is represented by 3 digits. The first 2 digits indicate the scope of the detective's expertise, and the last digit is the rank, indicating how much the detective has contributed to solving cases so far. When I first met Kirigiri, my DSC number was 888, the rank of 8. The digit starts at 9 and gradually decreases as the rank increases. 2.5 months after that, I asked the staff to help me update my card, and the number became 885. Look, Kirigiri-chan. Another rank up. Sho, please keep quiet in the library. The staff member reminded me as usual. It's quiet in the library, there is no one else but us. That's great, Yui-1-sama. Kirigiri Kyoko said with a blank expression. By the way, her DSC number has changed to 912 by now. She is at rank 2 in her first year of middle school, so she is already at a rank enough to represent the world. A girl with this much talent has been with me for the past 2.5 months. We solved cases and lived together under the same roof. I owe almost all of my rank ups to her as well. My encounter with her changed my destiny dramatically. However, was it just a coincidence that I met her? Or was it all planned from the very beginning? I can't tell by now. In any case, her presence is irreplaceable to me. Fate is something that, no matter what path it takes, will eventually come back to its rightful course. Once again, I stared at my card with 885 on it. As the digits decrease, I am gradually getting closer to the ideal image I long to be. A detective who seeks the truth and saves people from danger. Above all, what makes this number precious? To me is not just because it represents me, but it's also a record of my journey with Kirigiri. While waiting for the return bus, I was still looking at the card over and over again, and Kirigiri glanced at me out of the corner of her eye and said, "You look happy." She still has the side of her face turned towards me, her white breath quietly blending into the falling snow. Of course, this is a rank 5. I've always felt that this will be the best I could do in my life, no matter how hard I try. I'm afraid you think too little of yourself. With Yui-1-sama's strength, there is room for improvement. Hey, what's going on here? It's rare for you to praise me like that. Today is not my birthday. I only state the facts. If so, then you don't know me at all. My head is not that bright, and I don't have any knacks. To work as a detective, you don't need to be smart or have knacks. But, you are half right, Yui-1-sama. Half? It seems like I know Yui-1-sama, but in reality, I don't know you at all. She looked into the distance, as if she was speaking to someone who was not here. But there are a lot of things that only you know. You're the only one I've ever taken a bath with. I said in a roundabout way, but Kirigiri's attention was almost completely off me. Will there ever be a day when we can put all cases and detective identities aside, and just get along like 2 ordinary girls? I can't imagine a future like that. Kirigiri-chan, aren't you happy? You're at rank 2, there's just a little bit left to reach your goal of rank 0. That's just a transition point. As expected. I said with a shrug. Since it's a transition point, what about after that? Do you plan to continue increasing all digits to zeros and become a 000 rank? 0 is the sign of the highest level. If one continues in accumulating merit, all 3 digits will become 0, and they will be called a 000 rank. In the past, there were only a few people in the 000 rank, and each of them was a super special detective that went far beyond the norm. The armchair Earl, Ryuzoji Gekka. The law enforcer, Johnny Arp. Identity unknown ghost in the mirror, Mikagami Ray. They all passed by us and went away at a frightening speed. The battles with them were so detached from reality that in retrospect it even made me wonder if it was just a dream. I wonder if Liko is having a good time in America right now. 10 is enough, I don't need more. Why? Is it because it's too conspicuous? Speaking of which, detectives of the Kirigiri family can't stand out, right? Not for that reason. Registering in the detective library is not something a detective from the Kirigiri family should do, but there is one thing I have to do regardless. And what's that? I asked, and she started weighing her words, and after a moment of silence she continued. A farewell, she said, looking down. For that I need to get into Hope's Peak Academy. That school has a scouting system, and if you don't have a strong background, they won't even look at you. In that sense, the detective library's numbers are just a simple and effective index. Oh, so you intend to go to Hope's Peak Academy. I feel like I finally understand what her outlook on her future looks like, and what the problems she is taking on are. I'm not clueless about this. Not long ago I happened to meet Kirigiri Kyoko's father, who was a teacher at Hope's Peak Academy after leaving the Kirigiri household. I still remember the look on his face when he said, "I don't have the face to see her," regarding his daughter. He left his family and the detective's pride behind, at least that's what Kirigiri thought. For such a father, she must bear resentment in her heart, however, she is choosing to go to Hope's Peak Academy, which cannot be explained by hatred or resentment. Still, it would also be wrong to say it is out of distorted love. She is a smart person, extraordinary smart. Therefore, she must have analyzed herself objectively and found out that she has been bound by the past. And just as she usually does when solving mysteries, she thought of a way to break this curse, which is to proclaim a farewell to her father, and putting an end to her problems. But can things really be resolved that easily? This is a matter of the heart, not the same as solving a locked room mystery or a cipher. From the very beginning, her father never abandoned her. However, even if I tell her that, she wouldn't believe it, and since he has strictly asked me not to disclose that I've met with him, I can't say it so easily. I hope one day they can reconcile. I stared at the side of Kirigiri's face. A snowflake fell on that tender cheek and melted quickly. A proof that she is here now, alive, and I love that. I wish I can help her out, even a little bit. Kirigiri suddenly raised her head and stared at the road in front. From outside the veil formed by the falling snow, the bus was coming our way. Finally, the bus stopped right in front of us. Kirigiri and I got into the bus and sat side by side on the seats. After a few more stops, an old man in a suit with a felt hat on his head got on the bus. As he passed us, he asked, "Does this bus go to my Euro station?" I nodded and replied, "Yes, it does." "Thank you." He said so, and took a seat behind us. There was a large scar on the corner of the right side of his lips, which left a deep impression in me. 2. Final exams start in March. Since I was busy solving cases, I basically didn't pay much attention to my homework, and the results of my exams were unsurprisingly quite disastrous. "With your marks, shouldn't it be time to reconsider your job?" The female teacher in charge of my class said so with a sting in her voice. I often took leaves of absence from school for detective work, which didn't sit well with the class teacher. You reap what you sow. Kirigiri kicked me where it hurts. She got full marks in almost all of her exams. For someone like her who helped in solving world-class cases, these middle school exams were probably nothing to her. Since last month, Kirigiri has been living in another dorm room in the same dormitory as mine. Before that, she and I were crammed into the same small dorm room. The manager didn't allow that and lent her an empty dorm room. This dormitory is supposed to be for high school students, so this was a special exception. The manager realized that her situation is complicated. Despite not living in the same dorm room, one of us spends most of the time in the other's room, which is no different than before. The two of us are often together. Because no one can tell when an emergency would happen unexpectedly. For now, however, the Crime Victims Relief Committee remains silent. The Crime Victims Relief Committee, headed by the former 000 rank detective Shinsen Makoto, instigates crime victims who are otherwise ordinary people to take revenge, driving them to participate in the Black Challenge, a cruel crime in the skin of a game. Ryuzoji Geka and Johnny Arp were also executives for this organization. However, both Ryuzoji Geka and Johnny are gone now. After the loss of Ryuzoji Geka, the organization should have suffered a heavy blow. As he himself said, it is tantamount to losing an arm. Moreover, Johnny, who was in charge of dealing with the game's violators, also left, and we can say that the organization itself has fallen into an unsustainable state. All that remains is the organization's top head, Shinsen Makoto. We do not know the extent to which this organization is now weakened, and it's possible that it hasn't been affected at all. This organization is Shinsen's soul condensed to form an entity. Johnny once said something similar to this. If this is the case, then no matter how much peripheral obstacles we remove, as long as Shinsen himself is not defeated, this organization will not die out. The mysterious variationist who specializes in disguise and camouflage, Shinsen Makoto. I wonder where he is now, what he is doing, and what his next plans are. After the exams are over, the school will have a spring break until about a week before the graduation ceremony. The third-year students rehearse for the graduation ceremony during this period, but this has nothing to do with first-year me. During the spring break, Kirigiri and I studied together, tried new dishes, and enjoyed brief moments of peace and quiet. For many people, this is ordinary life, but for us, it was special, sparkling, classy, thin, fragile, ephemeral. 12th District Representative. Thinking about it this way, the small piece of paper immediately felt ominous, almost like a cursed object. Regarding this business card, I still hid it from Kirigiri, and I haven't spilled a word to her. My intuition tells me that this thing can't be seen by her. I have a hunch that if I let her see this, something will come to an end. It might be the end of this battle. Or it might be the end of my relationship with Kirigiri. Or perhaps it will be the end of the world. At least one thing can't be wrong, that is, it will definitely expose her to danger again. The thought of it made me unable to play that card. For me, and of course for Kirigiri, we have the right to enjoy our daily ordinary lives, yet now I have to destroy this short-lived peace with my own hands. Who in their right mind would ever do such a thing? Because of this, I have always felt a sense of guilt in my heart. When studying and cooking together, that black rectangle often appeared in the corner of my mind. It really is a cursed object. I can't just leave it alone. Maybe the organization is weakened now, which is a good opportunity to strike at their heart. As soon as I think of this, I feel like I have to do something right away. So, on the last day of the spring break, I finally took action. But it's really just a phone call. Just to test the other side's reaction, that's all, just like a harassment call. This shouldn't cause any trouble, let alone telling Kirigiri about it. That day, I left the dormitory alone and went to the nearby business district. Even though it's halfway through March, the cold weather continued, with pedestrians on the road wearing scarves, gloves, and thick coats. I walked into a fast food restaurant that's doing well and ordered a burger and iced tea. After finding the table with my plate in hand, I entered the phone number from the business card I had written down on my phone. It's okay, of course, the phone is set to private number mode. The other side won't be able to know who the caller is. That said, who would pay attention to a harassment call? I pressed the call button with trembling fingertips. The call went out. The call beeps came out from the speaker. Once. Twice. At that moment, someone's mobile phone inside the fast food restaurant rang. I was startled and looked around the restaurant. A listless couple, children with eyes lighting up at the mountain of fries, a harmonious family, a foreigner with headphones using a laptop. In the midst of such a mundane scene, a man surrounded by a particularly deep darkness is sitting at a dining table. An old man with a felt hat pressed down on his head. It's his phone that's ringing. The phone is flashing on the table with the incoming call light. The old man slowly picked up the phone. Then pressed the call button. At the same time, my phone connected. A little later, the sound of children laughing with each other in the restaurant came out from the speakers. There is no room for doubt. It's the old man. I could barely move or even take the phone away from my ear because of the overwhelming fear. You are? I asked, trembling. The old man then pulled up the corner of his injured mouth and grinned. A good-willed third party. He said so. That striking scar on the corner of the mouth, it's the old man who asked me for directions on the bus a few days ago. I felt a chill as I thought about it. I've been watching you, that's what the edge of his soft smile and crooked wound seemed to whisper. Don't be so wary of me. If I really wanted to hurt you, I would have done it already, you know that well. I didn't respond, but just kept my eyes on the old man so that I could run away anytime he makes any suspicious movements. I was wondering what extra memento that punk American would leave behind, but I didn't expect it to be this. Thanks to him, the hands of the clock can now move forward. What is your purpose? I interrupted the old man with a question. Our purpose has always been one, and that is to give relief to those whose lives have been ruthlessly robbed. We will help you take yours back. Yes, I'm well aware of that. The Crime Victims Relief Committee, the devil that approaches with a friendly face. I don't deny this. We indeed possess enough power to be called a devil in the eyes of the world. It was true until last month. But what about now? It seems that you really know our situation well. But please rest assured, no matter what the situation is, we have no plans to be perfunctory about your relief. We are your companions. My companion? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you want revenge? The old man's whispers reached my ears. Does that mean? I finally realized where the old man was coming from. You want me to be the perpetrator of the Black Challenge? Oh my, I thought you already knew. The black business card, the voice whispering relief, and the persuasion of revenge. This old man is not an ordinary staff member of the Crime Victims Relief Committee, but a business window. The perpetrators of the Black Challenge all join the game through headhunters like him. I've heard this before from an arrested perpetrator. Do you even know where I stand? I wish you guys would disappear from this world. Did you select wrong or something? Do you think I'd ever agree to your invitation? It's not for us to decide, it's you. Life is what you make it. Johnny's words crossed my mind. The old man never turned to face me from beginning to end. He is still blocking his eyes with his hat and staring at what's in front of him. Am I really talking to the old man on the phone? The strange sense of distance made me lose the boundaries of reality. Now, I don't think I need to explain the rules in detail. As before, the murder weapons, techniques, and location necessary for revenge will be prepared by us. Of course, according to the cost of the cards you hold, we will summon a detective. As long as you can successfully avoid the detective and kill all the targets, you will be able to gain a new life and say goodbye to your bleak tragic past. That's enough. I threw out those words, intending to stand up from the chair. However, I suddenly changed my mind. Why am I here? It was hard to get our hands on the one-way ticket, so I should use it effectively. If I go along and pretend to accept what he says, maybe I dig out some information related to the organization? Since the fight with Johnny, the Crime Victims Relief Committee has been inactive. For Kirigiri and I, it was a much-needed time of peace and quiet, but I can't just let go of Shinsen. Besides, if we let Shinsen go silent like this, it would give him a chance to breathe and make a comeback. I sat down again, took a sip of iced tea, and pressed the phone to my ear again. What do you mean by revenge? I don't have anyone who I want revenge on. When I said that, the old man grinned. Lying is wrong, you know. There is one person you want to kill. Who? The real murderer who killed your sister after kidnapping her. That sentence made my mind go blank for a moment, as if my heart had been pierced and a sharp pain passed through my chest. The smell of blood spread in my mouth, and my hand holding the phone started shaking. You know who the real murderer of my sister is? You should already be well aware that our investigations are seamless. He is right. All the perpetrators of the Black Challenge that I had encountered so far had received information on the real murderer and reason for revenge from the organization, which drove them to muster up their courage to face this unconventional game. The leader of the organization is a former 000 rank detective. It should be easy for him to uncover the truth of unsolved cases and find the real culprits. There should be no lies, falsehoods, or mistakes in this information, since the true perpetrators who are the targets for revenge are the essence of the Black Challenge. They know who the real killer of my sister is. This fact makes me tormented in an indescribable emotion. It isn't anger, it isn't sadness, it's something akin to envy. Even I don't know the circumstances of her death, but these people of the organization know. Why not me, but them? The person who knows the truth cannot be someone else, it has to be me. If I don't say I will participate in the game, you won't tell me the name of the real killer? Yes, that's the rule. Is that so? We have invited many crime victims to participate in the Black Challenge, but this is the first time that we have chosen an experienced person like you to play the role of the perpetrator. The ones who have played the perpetrator before can be said to be laymen, even if they were provided with many excellent criminal techniques. It's quite difficult for a novice to beat a professional detective. However, you are not only a detective, but also a capable person who has been exposed to various Black challenges, and you can easily move the audience's emotions. Can I meet those audience members? Normally, we don't consider this kind of request, but since it is your wish, we will accept it. There might be a lot of customers who want to meet with you anyway. Of course, the condition is that you agree to participate in the game. What about Shinsen Mikado? Can I meet him? We will try to get in touch. We will support you in a form acceptable to you so that you can enjoy the relief process. Relief, huh? Finding the murderer of my sister has been my long-held wish for years, and I can even say that this is why I still exist. If I agree to them, this wish can easily be fulfilled, and at the same time, the grudge with Shinsen can be done with. He can't show himself again, otherwise neither I nor Kirigiri Kyoko will have a future. This is an opportunity. In that sense, what they are offering is unquestionable relief. But, can this really save us? So, have you thought of an answer? The old man spoke to me, who was silent and lost in thought. His voice brought me back to my senses. The noises of the fast food restaurant revived around me. There is no need to rush to a decision. We will wait one night for you to find the most suitable answer. Don't worry about others, and focus on what relief means to you. Please think about your life and find the answer. The old man slowly stood up from the chair, took out a small piece of paper from the inside of his suit, and placed it unobtrusively on the table. The graduation ceremony. With the snowy wind blowing in the air, the upper-class students, each with a blush on their faces, entered the church one by one with nervous expressions. Those of us underclass students went back to the classroom after watching them leave, and after listening to the instructions for the closing ceremony tomorrow, we were dismissed soon after. On the way back to the dormitory, I saw a young girl standing with her back against a Zelkova tree. It's Kirigiri. She is looking in the direction of the church from a distance, her hands in the pockets of her coat, and she is exhaling white breath. In the shade cast by a few rays of sunlight leaking through the clouds, her profile is almost indistinguishable from the soft snowflakes, which looks like as if she would soon disappear into nothingness. She noticed my presence and turned to me. I waved at her, she seemed embarrassed, looked away, and got away from the tree. What are you doing in a place like this? I trotted all the way to her side. Everyone has to attend the graduation ceremony of middle school, right? Did you sneak out? She shook her head. Because it has nothing to do with me. Again, it's like it's someone else's business. You'll be graduating in 2 more years. It's hard to say. I think at least by that time, I won't be here anymore. Because of work? Still staring into the distance, she nodded. Really, I thought I could be with you until graduation. In the silence, the church bell rang. Me too. Never mind, let's skip it. I grabbed Kirigiri's wrist and said, there's a place I want to take you to, okay? WH what? Kirigiri looked unusually flustered with wide eyes. I pulled her and left the school grounds. We got to the business district. Fashionable clothes and cute stationery are almost all available here. For students living in the dorms, this is the only place for entertainment. I brought Kirigiri into a general store, a store I had my eyes on for some time. We went to the inner shelves, where hair accessories like rubber bands and hairpins are displayed. Didn't the last case ruin your ribbons? I thought you would need new ones. I've been looking for that for you. What do you think of these? I pointed to the colorful ribbons displayed on the shelves. Kirigiri looked at them, and her eyes, which had been narrowed stubbornly, softened a bit. Choose the one you like, and I'll buy it for you. Sure, but... It's okay, really. Rather I feel bad since I can only buy the cheap stuff for you. Which one do you want? I said so, and Kirigiri glanced at the shelf for a while, then looked back at me. I want Yui-Wan-sama to choose it for me. Really? Then I'll choose. I saw a red ribbon, held it in my hand and put it on her hair to see the effect. This one. No, maybe that one. After a while, I picked up the ribbons one by one and looked at them, meticulously deducing the right color and size for her. In the end, because she said she didn't like too much flare, I chose black ribbons with a little purple tinge. When the clerk put the ribbons into the paper bag, Kirigiri kept her eyes glued to the clerk's hands. I took the paper bag and we came out of the store. Now let's go back to school. School? The graduation ceremony shouldn't be over yet. You are going there? Yeah, with you. We walked through the school gate and straight towards the school building. The church is that way. Here is a special seat. The school building is quiet, with only a few students who haven't finished school yet in it. Kirigiri and I climbed up the stairs to the floor above the top one. At the end of the stairs is a door. I unlocked the door with a particular method, and behind the open door is the roof. There are no footprints on the thin layer of snow, as spotless as a brand new notebook. We quickened our pace a little and headed towards a spot where we could see the church. The door of the church opened just at this moment, and the upper-class students who attended the graduation ceremony were escorted out with the sound of the bell. It's incredible. The third-year students look a little more mature than when they went in. It's true that a person matures as they progress through life. That's not what I meant. I said with a bitter smile. You have to become an adult who understands romance a little. What do you mean? Kirigiri narrowed her eyes and said as I pushed the paper bag I just bought to her chest. Here. Thank you. She said as if she had been caught off guard. Today is White Day. This is the return gift from before. Right. The laughter of the graduates came from below. Around the church, well-connected students are in groups, some laughing with each other and some taking pictures. A little further away, there are students crying alone. On this day, previous lives are over and new lives are about to begin. It's not too late, I'll tie it for you here. I took the ribbons from Kirigiri's hand and asked her to turn her back to me. I looked at her hair and noticed that the 3-strand braid on her right side is loose and is about to fall apart. As always, you're not good at braiding this side. I untied and rebraided the 3-strand braid, then solemnly tied the ribbons to the braids on both sides. It was only then that I finally got the feeling that Kirigiri Kyoko was back. Great detectives are always inseparable from their iconic features. In her case, perhaps it is these ribbons and 3-strand braids. I don't know why, but it feels very appropriate to ask Yuyona-sama to help with braiding. Kirigiri said while stroking her 3-strand braid. That goes without saying, because I'm very skilled at it. Can I ask you for help next time? Of course. I nodded, and Kirigiri smiled cheerfully. Seeing her expression, my sister's smile flashed through my mind. That's the smile I've lost forever. I once swore to take revenge on the man who stole that smile. And yet I am still unable to give an answer. Yui-sama. Kirigiri's face became icy. Did you receive another black challenge? She must have sensed something from my expression. No, I didn't receive any. Is that so? That's good. How can I hide such an important matter from you? And I also feel that if I don't have you WTH me, I certainly wouldn't be able to solve the case. If I did receive it, you would have been the first to know. Kirigiri didn't say anything more. I did not lie, I told the truth. It's just that I didn't mention the other thing. The voices of the graduates eventually faded away and could no longer be heard. At some point, the clouds above had cleared and the sun is shining brightly, but despite this, snowflakes continued to fall all around us. The cold wind caressed Kirigiri's ribbons, and Kirigiri and I are the only 2 remaining black spots left in the pure white world. It's reassuring that the Crime Victims Relief Committee has been silent since then. Kirigiri said, looking down. During this period of time, they must be gathering their strength and are probably still plotting some new criminal scheme somewhere right now. When I think about it, I can't help but feel uneasiness. It is rare to see Kirigiri expressing such undisguised anxiety like this, probably because the shadow of Shinsen on her is so big. It's no wonder that her grandfather was killed by Shinsen, in addition to the few lives lost before her eyes. For a middle school student, the reality she had to face was too cruel. I'm equally uneasy. I leaned my body close to Kirigiri and said. The physical contact allowed her body temperature to pass over, and at the same time, I have a feeling that I will be seen through by her at any moment. But it's not good to be anxious. They will definitely take advantage of this. Although they appear to be inactive now, maybe they are actually waiting for us to take the bait. Take the bait. I thought of the old man with the hat. Was it a fishing line or a lifeline that he threw out? That's quite calm for someone like Yui-sama. What's with the smart mouth? I said half jokingly. Not all cases are related to the committee, and there are many other people who also need the help of detectives. Don't we have to do something for these people? Yes, no matter what kind of case we encounter, we must have the ability to solve it, so that we can be recognized as detectives. She said sternly. I hope I never forget that look. And also, I hope you don't look at me with that look. I'm lost for an answer. Hey, Kirigiri-chan. What should I do? If only I can say that out loud. Will things change? Her white fingertips brushed along the new ribbon that played with the wind, and in those innocent eyes watching all this, I searched for the answer I should choose. No, the answer was clear from the start. She is everything I couldn't save in the first place. And everything I have to save now. Inadvertently, I glanced at the clock on my phone. Noon had passed, and it is almost 1 p.m. Kirigiri-chan, let's go have lunch. She nodded slightly, and we left the rooftop. 4. In the winter of the year I turned 9, my younger sister Mayu was killed. I always came home from school with my sister, but we happened to be separated that day. I had to stay after school because I was late in turning in my handwork. My sister said she was going home with a classmate of hers and left after school. I thought that since it was with a friend, I have nothing to do with it, so I didn't stay with her. Thinking about it now, that was the first mistake I made. My parents had to go to work, and no one was home during the day, so the kidnappers naturally grasped the situation. They boldly parked their vehicle in front of the house and took my sister out, who was home alone. The kidnapper must have pretended to be a relative of the family or something, and tricked her out through the intercom doorbell. When I got home, a black van was parked right in front of the house. Although I thought it was suspicious, I didn't expect that my sister would be in the van at that time, and opened the entrance door as usual. The door was unlocked at that time. However, I was still oblivious of the tragedy that was happening around me, and I was even thinking that my sister was just too careless, so I wanted to say a few words to her. As I took off my shoes and was about to enter the house, I heard the sound of the door opening from behind. I was startled and turned around, then saw stars scattering in my field of vision. I next found myself down with my hands on the floor. The back of my head was burning hot. Tears fell unconsciously. I was beaten. Immediately, a figure like a huge pillar appeared, standing beside me. At that moment, I thought I was going to be killed. For the first time, I felt the fear of death. The memory of what happened after that is a little fuzzy. I grabbed the kidnapper's legs tightly, fought back with all my strength, and wrestled with them, that much I still remember. Finally, the kidnapper gave up on me and went out of the house. I was delirious, but I managed to call my mother's workplace for help. Then, in my gradually fading consciousness, I heard the sound of the vehicle leaving. I woke up in a hospital bed with a bandage on my head. My mother and the nurse were relieved, and at a distance, my father's expression was solemn. A scene I remember very clearly. No one told me a word about what happened then. I didn't know until the next morning that my sister had been kidnapped. While I was finishing my breakfast in the hospital bed, my mother appeared in the ward accompanied by several strange men. They said they were from the police and wanted to ask about the man who attacked me. But I didn't know anything about the attacker. I barely saw the other person's face, and I didn't even hear a voice. I could only give the testimony that the other person should be a large man, considering the height and strength of his body. My mother looked very disappointed, and the police officers had the same solemn expressions as my father. Yui, listen carefully, my mother said to me gently. The bad guy who wounded you up took Mayu somewhere. Can you remember anything else? By that time, the kidnapper had called my family twice to demand a ransom, and the police had begun their investigation. The kidnapper never said the usual line of call the cops and I'll kill the hostage, perhaps because it was obvious that the incident would alarm the police after they left me, a witness, at home. The incident came to an end 2 days later. My father prepared the ransom and went to the place designated by the kidnappers, which was a public restroom around a nearby hilltop lookout. Following the kidnapper's instructions, my father opened the door of the men's side, and Mayu was inside. Her body was already cold. Since then, there have been no news of the kidnapper, and the investigation stalled. As the sole eyewitness to the event, my testimony was highly regarded, but unfortunately, I was unable to respond to people's expectations. I couldn't remember what the kidnapper looked like, much to my chagrin. It was not clear whether the kidnapper intended to take only my sister, or whether I was also a target of their attack. If it wasn't my sister but me who got home first, I might have been the one who got kidnapped. According to police, my sister appeared to have been killed shortly after being kidnapped. The kidnapper killed the hostage from the start, and then demanded a ransom. I wonder if this was planned by them from the beginning, or if it was an impulsive crime. There are so many things that are unclear to me. Of course, to this day, the kidnapper hasn't been caught. That incident was the moment when I decided to become a detective. I was so incompetent for not being able to save my sister, and I was so useless for failing to give an eyewitness testimony. I wanted to make amends for my mistakes as much as possible, so I became a detective. And, to be honest, I wanted revenge on that kidnapper. After losing my sister, my life was a complete mess. The incident also ruined my family. My parents had mental issues, their temperaments changed drastically, and there were even heated arguments about who was responsible for my sister's death. Whenever that happened, I felt very uncomfortable, as if I am the one being blamed. I was thinking more and more often that I should just die. The only salvation for me was the detectives who were responsible for the case. While the police gradually scaled down their investigations, they were still persevering in tracking down the kidnapper. In the end, I started to yearn to be like them. In order to avenge my dead sister, I had to become a detective myself and solve the case, and it didn't take long for me to start thinking of this. Taking the opportunity of high school, I left home. My parents opposed it, but from the results, I think it was the right thing to do. At least my life found a purpose. I wanted to be a detective, a hero who saves people from danger. And one day, the kidnapper who murdered my sister will pay for his crime. If I hadn't set my sights on becoming a detective, I probably wouldn't have met Kirigiri. After meeting her, I felt rewarded for the first time in so long for being a detective. So I do not regret my destiny. I have not done anything wrong. Isn't that right? Kirigiri-chan. However, even now, when I'm not in a certain frame of mind, I can hear that sound coming from somewhere. It's the sound of the vehicle going away. Was the sound I heard in my gradually fading consciousness really the sound of the vehicle? Wasn't it mixed with my sister's voice? Or maybe, wasn't that the scream of my sister? As long as I have not completed my revenge on the kidnapper who killed my sister, the screams may not stop. So I have to make a decision. It's 2 p.m. now. There is still an hour left before the arranged time with the old man. After eating pasta for lunch at the restaurant, Kirigiri and I went back to the dormitory and parted ways to go to our respective dorm rooms. Along the way, there were times when I nearly blurted out my secret, but barely restrained myself. I left my dorm room immediately after that. And went to the park designated by the old man. I don't have an answer yet. I couldn't decide on an answer. Even so, I can't let such a precious source of information go in vain, but the time limit is approaching every minute. I arrived at the designated spot before the old man and decided to hide and observe the situation. Having said that, is it really necessary to obey them? If I watch the old man from a distance, I might be able to figure out where he will come from and go to. In the snow-covered park, there are traces of children's trampling everywhere. In the afternoon sunlight, the snow looks glistening, almost blinding. A young child is playing on the slide alone, with a smiling mother standing by, a very peaceful scene. The old man is nowhere to be seen. I found an apartment building near the park and climbed up the escape stairs. Being in a high position, I should be able to surveil them without being discovered. It's an old building, with noticeable cracks in the concrete surface. It's so quiet inside that it almost made me wonder if anyone really lives here. I turned across the platform from the second to the third floor, and there is already someone there. A slender man in a suit is sitting on the top stairs. For a moment, my heart beat violently, thinking that the other man is probably just a resident of the apartment smoking. I nodded slightly to him in greeting before planning to pass him by. The man then opened his mouth and said, "You don't seem to have made up your mind yet." This sentence made my heart tremble. Goosebumps broke out all over my body. My legs were so stiff that I didn't even dare to look at the man. A stranger. Yet I'm very familiar with him. Would you like to talk to me before the appointed time? The man stood up slowly and dusted off his suit. You are. Long time no see, and nice to meet you. I am Shinsen Makoto. 5. Guided by the man, we made our way to the nearby park. There were plenty of chances to escape, and he never looked back at me even once along the way, nor did he show any sign of keeping an eye on me. Was it because he is so sure that I wouldn't do anything? In fact, I did not dare to take any action. In front of me was his defenseless back, but I could only meekly follow him. He must have seen through me anyway. How else could I react to the unexpected appearance of the evil's head? I did my best just to keep my nerves from panicking. We sat side by side on the benches under the eaves of a gazebo. On the opposite side, I can see the slide, where the mother and son are still playing. Once again. I haven't seen you since we parted at the Norman's Hotel, the man said with a smile. The detective auction. It was one of my favorite techniques. It was quite the tour de force. The charm of it was that it meshed organically with the game setting. He said pleasantly. There is nothing worthy of mention in his appearance. He has the face of a man in his 30s that can be seen everywhere. His body does not show any striking features. His demeanor is like air, and his voice is as soft as the rustling of the woods. Is this also a disguise? Or is this the true face of Shinsen Makoto? And could this be the very top of the Crime Victims Relief Committee that's against us? What do you want from me? I said, trying to stay calm and tit for tat. I am now sitting on a bench side by side with Shinsen. What kind of meaning is hidden in this strange and harsh, thin ice situation? And yet, he eased the tense atmosphere with a steady smile. Your tone is exactly the same as Kirigiri. Maybe it's becoming more and more similar because you have been together for a long time. She is your target, right? Yes, you're not wrong, but you're probably misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. You've done so many horrible things to her, and yet you still say it's a misunderstanding? I have no intention of laying excuses. It is true that I made excessive demands on Kirigiri. However, it is precisely because she possesses enough power to change the world that I did that. You can't deny it either, right? The power to change the world. I don't know if it's right to conclude that, but her abilities are indeed different. Her power can bring the truth distorted by impossible crimes back to its original form. Perhaps this can indeed be said to be a power enough to change the world. Even if that's the case, why are you so obsessed with her? This part is what you're misunderstanding. I'm not obsessed with Kirigiri. Eh? Your expression is unexpected. It seems that you really did misunderstand me. What misunderstandings? Are you going to claim righteousness now? Or are you going to start telling me about your tragic past? No matter what you've been through, what you've done to her is unforgivable. I couldn't control my emotions and let out my voice. You're finally starting to be you. As a detective, you should be more honest about your feelings. I don't want to hear you explain detective theory. That's not polite. Shinsen put his hands in his pockets and changed his folded legs. You think I'm trying to snatch the Kirigiri family name, don't you? Is it not? Sadly, you are way off the mark. It's most likely an idea instilled on you by Fukito-san's son. It's a very one-dimensional way of thinking. Your purpose is not to inherit the Kirigiri name. It would be disappointing if that's all you think I'm capable of. Shinsen sighed in a pretentious manner. Things of this magnitude are easy and don't require me to pour all my efforts into it. In that case, what exactly do you want? You are already standing at the top of the detective world. What goal is there that a person like you want to achieve even if you end up falling? The same as you. Shinsen whispered, still staring straight ahead. I want to save all those who are tormented by fate. Oh please, don't talk like you and me are kindred spirits. No, we are alike. You just haven't made up your mind yet. Those words startled me. Ryuzoji Gecko once said this to me. Ryuzoji wanted to invite me to join the organization, and of course I refused, but in essence, you're on our side. You'll get your hands dirty for those who ask you for help. I'm not. I said clearly. A smile appeared on the corner of Shinsen's mouth, and he slowly shook his head. The negative of a negative is not necessarily a positive, especially regarding human hearts. What do you mean? Let's get down to business, he said, pulling his hands out of his pockets and crossing his fingers on his lap. I'm here to be a lobbyist. Lobbyist? Oh, that's what's happening. It's black or white. A detective or a criminal. In the next black challenge, I want you to play the role of the perpetrator. Is this a threat? I asked, putting on as strong a face as I could. Yet my knees are shaking with fear. By no means. Shinsen replied with a blank expression. As per past experience, it is useless to force others to play the role of the perpetrator. I know this very well. The perpetrator needs to have a determination as strong as a perfectly locked room, that is, a motive. For this reason, their usual tactic is to incite those seeking revenge. You want me to willingly be your pawn in order to avenge my sister? This kind of thing, do you think I'll agree to it? If so, your plan is a failure. I forced myself together and spouted off. If the murderer of my sister is right in front of my eyes, I would indeed want to kill him. Not long ago, I may have actually done so. But now, I can tell you very clearly, I will not do it. I will not be the perpetrator. It's ironic, I've grown up past that because of your black challenges. I see, that means you're not the same person you used to be. Yes. I made up my mind and nodded in response. If I refuse his request, I might be killed on the spot. Even so, I am not willing to be forced to play the perpetrator. I will never be the perpetrator. Still, you really haven't changed at all. What are you trying to say? I asked, and Shinsen stared straight at me, as if looking into the depths of my eyes. For you, that irreplaceable person changed from your sister to Kirigiri Kyoko, that's all. He whispered as if he was gently admonishing a disobedient child. For a moment my mind went blank. The pain was like a transparent blade had pierced into my chest. If something happened to Kirigiri Kyoko, you. Shinsen's words made me stand up subconsciously and fiercely glare at him. There is no need for me to say anything, as I have foolishly expressed it by my actions. No need to be so flustered, there's still time. Shinsen smirked slightly. It's the devil's smirk. It's only now that I'm finally beginning to regret coming here. It was a completely rash decision and a mistake to think that I could outmaneuver them, even a little. Do you want to kidnap Kirigiri Kyoko? I won't do something that roundabout. Looks like you still don't get it. Shinsen pointed to his side and motioned me to sit down again. Let me make it clearer. I swallowed back 1,000 words and sat down on the bench as he instructed. Do you remember what I told you at the Norman's Hotel? I can see people's deaths. It's not some supernatural ability, it's created by observation and reasoning. That was for real? Yeah, I've been like this since I was a kid. Just by seeing someone, I can predict that person's death. Just by walking down the street, I can imagine what's going to happen in that place. It may sound strange to you, so as an example, it is similar to weather forecast. Modern weather forecast, thanks to the accumulation of past data and the improvement of observation technology, can predict the weather quite accurately. However, in the past, observations were very limited, so it couldn't predict accurately. To put it simply, this is the difference between you and me. Yeah, you and I are completely different people, I still understand that. Then, imagine this situation, there is a person in front of you, you know they are going to die, but you can't save them. He said that, and kept silent for about 10 seconds to encourage me to imagine it. And, this kind of people fill the streets of the city. You want me to feel sorry for you? You can't save the people you're supposed to save, so what? Is that why you started the Crime Victims Relief Committee and began playing these absurd games? Foo-foo, that's harsh. But in short, you're right. Yeah, I think I kind of understand what's going on in the heads of this criminal organization. Then, let's talk about Kirigiri Kyoko next. He said this and glanced my way, as if observing my reaction. I pretended not to see it and looked in the direction of the slide. The mother and son who were there are now gone. If you think I'm going to take something from Kirigiri Kyoko, you're wrong. On the contrary, I want to give everything to her. Huh? I had trouble understanding that and couldn't help but express my confusion. That is everything about detectives. She is the ideal vessel for the ultimate detective. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to be the ultimate detective. But she is different, she can become a detective powerful enough to change the world. Shinsen wove those lines in a flat tone. At that instant, the bridge of understanding that was barely standing between me and him completely collapsed. Sure enough, he is the head of the Crime Victims Relief Committee, Shinsen Mikado. I can't save the world from the moment I figured this out. I spent all my time searching for the ultimate detective who can surpass me. Kirigiri is just one of countless candidates. Fate is really beautiful because she just so happens to be my mentor's granddaughter, and our fate was to meet. Even so, I'm not treating her differently because of this. Everything so far was an experiment-like behavior to find the ultimate detective, is that what you mean? If there's a term that could more accurately describe it, it would be the rite of passage. It is like a cult ritual at the end of the day. I wonder how many people were sacrificed for this ritual. If she is the ultimate detective, what does it mean to you? What I can't do, she can. Shinsen's words began to harbor enthusiasm. The relief of the world. What on earth does relief mean? It literally means saving humanity. It's probably difficult to understand for someone like you who can't predict the future. Maybe you even think I don't look normal. Objectively speaking, I indeed killed too many people, but one day, my actions will be proven right. Of course, I have absolutely no idea what he is talking about. The world will come to an end one day, and Kirigiri Kyoko will be the savior of all mankind? If this is true, would you want it to be like this? Right now, Kirigiri Kyoko is transforming into a detective qualified to become a savior. However, it's not enough. There are times when she doesn't follow logic through to the end. Isn't that par for the course? She's only a 13-year-old kid, isn't she? Talent has nothing to do with age. If it goes on like this, she will miss the opportunity to make a decision at critical moments. In order to solve the case, she must give up all her emotions. What Shinsen said reminded me of the family motto of the Kirigiri family. Detective work comes first, even over the death of a family member. So, in order to live as a detective, you have to give up the human part of yourself? If so, who is the detective trying to help? Why does a detective exist? Okay, you can almost understand the current situation. For Kirigiri Kyoko, the last piece she lacks is you. Only after Kirigiri Kyoko identifies you as a perpetrator will the ultimate detective be born. I am the last piece. Can she give up all her emotions, follow logic, and identify my crime? This is my request to you. Please let her become perfect. If this continues, she will usher in her own destruction before saving the future. This is also to prevent things from developing to the point where she depends on your help. You think I'll listen to your nonsense? Yes, you'll listen, as long as it's for her own good. For her own good? If you refuse to participate in the Black Challenge, our organization will get rid of Kirigiri Kyoko. That's... Everything has been arranged. After eliminating her, the plan will start from scratch, except there won't be much time left. The result may lead to the destruction of the world. It doesn't matter if the world is destroyed or not. My choice will determine whether Kirigiri Kyoko will be killed. I was too simple-minded. Even if they don't kidnap Kirigiri, they can still hold her as a hostage. That's right, she is now a hostage. Is that why they chose me? Chose someone like me who couldn't successfully rescue a hostage in the past. A cry for help resounded in the back of his mind. I looked left and right around the empty park, looking for her who couldn't possibly be here. You don't seem to have made up your mind yet. Shinsen turned his calm face to me and said, that's for sure. I looked down for answers. No matter how much I want to help Kirigiri, I cannot be a part of their crime. But if I don't listen to them, Kirigiri will be killed. Revenge is indeed my purpose in life. I will never let go of my sister's murderer, and one day I will avenge her with my own hands, as this has always been my wish. They will set everything up for me, and they will help me kill the one I hate the most, completing my revenge. And at the same time, Kirigiri Kyoko will be saved. For me, this is the same as saving my sister who I was not able to save before. It's an irreproachable plan. I shuddered at the thought that the man with the calm smile next to me is the one who conceived this entire plan so far. Someone once compared him to a dark star, and perhaps that's what he is. He is more of an endless darkness than a person. To agree to participate in their plan, or to reject them. It wasn't these two options that left me in doubt. But the third option. If I kill Shinsen here and now, won't it be all over? A dark nebula, once unreachable, is now within range. For this moment to come, we fought their organization to this day. Isn't that why I followed the clues Johnny left behind and came all the way here? Eliminating the last enemy. But, can I do it? How can I do it? Your eyes have changed. Shinsen's words made my heart skip a beat. At the same time, a shadow was cast on Shinsen's face. Unfortunately, even if you get rid of me, the plan will not stop. Didn't I say it just now? Everything has been arranged. He said as if he just read my mind. By the way, I can tell you that because of your efforts, the size of our organization has indeed shrunk, and now the remaining people are pawns who only follow orders blindly. However, it also means that the organization has become a rational apparatus. It is a device with a built-in program that offers revenge as a game. That means, even if I am gone, the organization will continue to operate as programmed, and the Black Challenge will continue as usual. So there's no point in killing me here. Oh really? At least no one will do anything to Kirigiri-chan, right? Would you like to try? Shinsen spread his hands and said. The tense air froze in the cold wind. The stagnant time turned into crystals, encircling us like thorns, making it impossible to move. I was speechless as I confronted Shinsen in silence. Shinsen smiled lightly. I really can't underestimate you. You are really thinking of killing me. Because this is the only option I have left. If this enemy can be eliminated, then I am willing to take the initiative to kill. Is that really the only way? Shinsen said that, took out a handkerchief from the inside of his suit, placed it on his knees and started to unfold it. Inside the handkerchief is a strange object. At first it looked like a small box, but after gradually unfolding it, it turned into a dagger before I knew it. The shape of this dagger is striking. The blade is unusually slender, not so much a dagger as it is a large ice pick. It looks a bit like a baton. Faced with the sudden strong murderous aura, I wanted to run away immediately, but my body didn't move, and I couldn't take my eyes off the white as snow blade. This dagger is perfect for piercing hard objects. Shinsen said while holding the tip of the blade with his fingertips. What is he going to do to me with this dagger? Of course, I also prepared a gun, but I can't bear to have blood on you. He said so, pressing the tip of the blade against his own temple. Right, this is exactly the scene I once predicted. Shinsen's expression is full of serenity. In this great story, I am just one of the supporting characters. W.H. Watt R. The last enemy doesn't mean me. For Kirigiri Kyoko, the last enemy is you, Sammy Dare Yui. As Shinsen said so, and began pressing his palm against the bottom of the dagger's handle to exert force. The snow-white blade did not encounter any resistance, and was pushed into his temple inch by inch. I couldn't even make any sound, and kept looking at him until the last moment. The calm expression on his face was frozen like this. When the stoic expression on his face froze up, the hand that was pushing the dagger slumped down when about a third of the blade was left. Stop, Shinsen. A loud voice from out of nowhere brought me back to my senses. A strange old man came running toward the bench where we are sitting. One step too late. The old man put his hand on Shinsen's neck, who has collapsed on the bench. Why you are? I asked in a dry, hoarse voice. I'm Kirigiri Fuhito, Kyoko's grandfather. 6. I got up from the bench and froze in place, staring blankly at the old man who suddenly appeared. As the head of the Kirigiri family and a detective who is still active in the field, Kirigiri Fuhito is often absent from the country because his job requires him to deal with important people in various countries. But I heard that he just returned home recently. You must be Sammy Dare Yui-kun. We talked on the phone the other day. Kirigiri Fuhito said while nervously stroking the white beard on his chin. I answered yes in a voice that didn't even break into a whisper. I have been monitoring his movements since returning to Japan. He said, looking down at Shinsen. Yet, he escaped my eyes so easily and simply passed away. I heard that Kirigiri Fuhito and Shinsen used to be a mentor-disciple duo, but I don't know why they parted ways. If they didn't sever their mentor-disciple relationship, perhaps it wouldn't have ended this way. After confirming that Shinsen has died, every wrinkle on his face was filled with sadness. This man suddenly put a dagger on his head and... Don't worry, I know you didn't do it. Okay. I reluctantly moved my trembling legs, trying to stay away from Shinsen as much as possible. This man. Shinsen, is he dead? He's not breathing. He can't be helped anymore. Why? I don't understand at all. Why did he suddenly? While I was panicking, there was a sudden sound of a thud from behind. When I looked back, an ant with a pale face is standing at the entrance of the park, looking over our way and trembling. A plastic shopping bag has fallen at her feet. Pia! The ant let out a scream, left the plastic bag in place and ran away. This is going to be a problem. Kirigiri Fuhito looked at his watch. The police should arrive within 10 minutes. Samidare Yui-kun, you'd better get out of here immediately and leave the rest to me. But. I tried desperately to think with my confused mind. If this goes on, Kirigiri-chan, You don't need to worry about Kyoko. No matter what his intentions were, there is no way Kyoko will lose to him. I know both of them very well, so I can say this with confidence. I think so too. Even if it's me who's playing the perpetrator? I swallowed this sentence back, because the words don't tell anyone flashed across my mind. I wonder how much Kirigiri Fuhito knows more than me. He must know that his granddaughter has become the target of the organization, but for the detectives of the Kirigiri family, maybe this is just a trivial matter. There is one thing I want to confirm with you. This man is Shinsen Mikado, right? Yes, that's right, this face is the Shinsen I know. This morning, he sent me a coded message to tell me where he is. I thought it was just the usual game. But it looks like I was called here with the task of confirming to you the death of Shinsen Mikado. The death of Shinsen Mikado is an undeniable fact. Shinsen Mikado is dead. In other words, I lost the third option. He threw away his own life so easily just to block my fallback. There are only two paths left. To participate or to withdraw. Samadare-kun, a detective is a way of life. You have to live out your own detective style. Then, at least, I will not regret it. I agree. I'd love to help you right away if I can, but the souvenirs he left are a little tricky to deal with. Kirigiri Fuhito said, pointing to the dagger still stabbed in Shinsen's head. This is something I gave him before, and I'm sure my fingerprints are still on it. You may be suspected by the police. That's what he is using to trip me up. But don't worry, I have hundreds of ways to prove my innocence. The bigger problem is that you are here, and if the police know of your presence, things will get complicated. You should go now. Yes. I quickly left the gazebo. After exiting the park gate, I looked back, and Kirigiri Fuhito was looking down at his disciple's body with a sad face. A siren sounded in the distance. I ran, but didn't know where to go. Breathing was difficult. Tears rolled down my cheeks involuntarily. 7. After wandering aimlessly for a while, I arrived at the station. I was pushed around and shoved onto the train by passengers who were in a hurry to get home. I was exhausted and sat down when I saw a seat that happened to be vacant. An old man suddenly stood in front of me, and I subconsciously stood up to give him my seat. No, it's fine, I'll get off at the next station. I was stopped by him and sat down again. The old man's voice sounded familiar. The scar on the corner of his mouth twisted with a grin. Well, do you have an answer? The next morning, I saw in the mirror a pair of red swollen eyes. I washed my face on the sink, and the cold water on my face refreshed me. Then I tidied up my sleep hair, and as soon as I changed into my school uniform, there was a knock on the door of my room. Opening the door, Kirigiri Kyoko, who was already dressed, is standing outside. Good morning. What's wrong? It's too early for school, isn't it? I asked casually, but soon noticed the serious expression on her face, and couldn't help but take a deep breath. In the mailbox, there was this. She took out a black envelope from her bag, with a bright red wax seal stuck to it like blood. No way. I hope it's fake. However, this is undoubtedly the challenge letter announcing the start of the Black Challenge. To avoid looking at it, I stared at the clock. It's a bit too early for school. Should we open the envelope later? Why? Kirigiri asked as if she is suspicious. Because today is the graduation ceremony. It'll be over in the morning, and we can open the envelope after that. You want to attend the graduation ceremony? That's not what I meant. In that case, we can't hesitate. I think we should confirm the contents as soon as possible. She said with urgency. Is there any reason to be in such a hurry? I'd rather ask why you are so relaxed about it. Don't you have any concerns, Yui-wan-sama? Why was this letter sent to me and not to you? This is the first time that this kind of thing has happened, so there must be something different from the previous ones. Certainly. She sensed the abnormality of the situation. If I continue to refute, I might inadvertently make her feel uneasy. I see, then you can open the envelope at 7 sharp. Gotta finish breakfast before that. Kirigiri seems to be too anxious, a small frown creased between her eyebrows, and finally nodded in acceptance. We came to the cafeteria of the dormitory and took the white bread from the shelf. After toasting it with a toaster, I nibbled on it silently with Kirigiri. I pretended to be watching the news on TV and deliberately didn't say anything. Even in this tense atmosphere, being able to spend a casual breakfast with her makes me feel like I want to cry from happiness. The Black Challenge timer counts down after the challenge letter is opened. If the perpetrator can kill all the targets within 168 hours, it will be game over. The unsealing time was set at 7 a.m. to make it easy to calculate the time. Then the news channel signaled 7 o'clock. Without any hesitation, Kirigiri opened the black envelope, took out and unfolded the paper inside. A message to the detective. Listen to the cry of the black. Location, Sirius Observatory, 1.5 billion. Murder weapon, dagger, 50 million. Murder weapon, Karadoxin, 30 million. Murder weapon, knockout drug, 10 million. Technique, locked room, 400 million. Miscellaneous, cash, 100 million. Miscellaneous, chains, 50 million. Total expenditure, 2.14 billion. Based on the above expenses, summon the following detective. Kirigiri Kyoko. Sure enough, it's me playing the detective role this time. So they are still after Kirigiri-chan? I read her name written there over and over again. I hope I'm mistaken if possible, but no matter how many times I read it, there is no doubt that it is Kirigiri Kyoko. About the Sirius Observatory, it's a location we've been to before. She already accepted the information calmly. Although the location is the same, the circumstances of the case seem to be completely different, and there is no locked room or anything like the last time. Speaking of which, 2.1 billion, that's a really outrageous cost. Ah, this Karadoxin, I feel like we've seen it before. It's the poison that was used as a murder weapon in the case prepared by Ryuzo Jigeka. Not only this, but the other items are all things we've seen so far. Is it possible that the same techniques will be used? It will be easy to solve if that's true. Kirigiri pondered, cupping her cheeks with her hands. If the perpetrator this time made a plan that deliberately references our previous cases, then there is a high probability that Shinsen is behind this. That was really sharp. With just the crime notice, she can see the whole picture of the case. What exactly is Shinsen attempting to do? She murmured thoughtfully. Maybe Kirigiri-chan being chosen to play the role of the detective was purely based on the total expenses? In the Black Challenge, the higher the amount of money spent on the items and techniques, the higher the DSC rank of the would-be summoned detective. In the end, the standards of the summoned detectives are also decided by them with no restrictions, so they will definitely choose the detectives that are most suitable for them. Kirigiri said with a cold tone. This challenge, should we accept it? Of course. Contrary to what Kirigiri said, she lowered her eyes worriedly. We're so close to reaching Shinsen, I have such a hunch. It's too dangerous, maybe there's no turning back. I have no intentions of turning back. I have no place to go back to from the beginning. But there's this place. How I wish I could have said that. The words that came out of the mouth of this 13-year-old girl were too sad, and I could only listen in silence. Because the game has already started. After that, I visited the faculty office and told them that I would be absent from the graduation ceremony. The class teacher gave permission without asking me anything. I think because it's a common occurrence anyway. I went back to my dorm room to get my stuff. I had lived with Kirigiri before, in this small room. The room was tidied up to the point where I wouldn't feel ashamed even if my parents suddenly came to visit, but now it even gives the impression of loneliness. I threw away all my diaries and photos too. There is no place to go back to, it's the same for me. Most likely, I will never come back here. I put on my coat hanging on the hanger and walked out of the room with my backpack on. In the cafeteria, Kirigiri stuffed bread and bottled drinking water in her bag, seemingly paying no attention to the gazes of the other boarding students who had just woken up. What are you doing, Kirigiri-chan? There is a high probability that the perpetrator will drug food or drinks, a lesson learned from last time. So these are precautionary measures. I see. I followed her example and put snacks on the shelf into my backpack. Of course, I put in chocolates and candies for emergency use. I also prepared a thermos of mineral water and black tea made according to Kirigiri's recipe. We picked up our slightly bulging bags and left the dormitory. We passed by the students heading for the school building and walked through the school gate. This is the end of our daily life. We walked forward without looking back. Not long after we left the school, a jeep pulled up from across the road and braked hard in front of our eyes. While realizing what's going on, the driver's window was lowered, and a woman in her mid-30s leaned forward with her elbow on the window frame. Going to the scene, yeah? Wanna hop in? She greeted us with a brisk tone. Immediately I put on a defensive posture. Who are you? Like you, I'm a detective. She pulled out a detective library registration card from somewhere and showed us. Yukimura Shiroko, DSC number 880. Name's Yukimura Shiroko, pleased to meet ya. Number 0. I couldn't help omitting. Rank 0 is a rank that a detective cannot reach without the talent and performance that surpasses others. And like me, it's the 88 number that specializes in solving kidnapping cases. It's what I desire to be. Oh, never mind the rank. I've been out of the business for a few years now, so I'm kind of. I have no plans to ride a stranger's car. Let's go, Yui-one-sama. Kirigiri didn't let her finish the sentence and began to walk away. Then Yukimura threw another one towards Kirigiri's back. Are you going to the Sirius Observatory? Kirigiri stopped. Why do you know this? Instead of Kirigiri, I asked her. I'm better at gathering intelligence than anyone else. As you can see, I have a small head, but a big brain. Yukimura smiled jokingly. So, you are Samidare Yui-chan, and over there is Kirigiri Kayakagen, right? This way, we're no longer strangers. So, what are you going to do? I just happen to be heading in the direction of the Sirius Observatory. How about we go there together? Thank you for your offer. Kirigiri is still uninterested. I hurriedly grabbed Kirigiri, who was about to continue walking. It's a rare opportunity. Let's get in the car, shall we? Seriously? It's too dangerous. I think so too, but... I whispered. Isn't it better to find out the intention of this person while we're at it? The destination looks the same, and we will have to meet her again when we arrive there. Moreover, you are the person who is playing the detective this time. You don't need to worry about getting hurt according to the rules. In Johnny Ark's absence, who is enforcing that rule, there is no guarantee that the rule will be followed. That's true, but... Is there a dispute? Yukimura stuck out her neck and peered at us. No, it's nothing. Can you give us a ride? So it's not troublesome? No way. All right then, thanks for your kindness. Let's get in the car. I pushed Kirigiri in the direction of the car. At the end of the day, we can't go there without a car, so that's the best thing to do. It would be nice if that's the case. Kirigiri reluctantly sat in the back seat. Considering her past experience, it's understandable that she doesn't want to ride in someone else's car. However, it is also true that we do not have the means to travel to the crime location. After I also got into the back seat, Yukimura started the jeep. Reflected in the rearview mirror, the school building was gone in the blink of an eye. Thank you very much for your kindness, it's a great help. I spoke from behind to Yukimura in the driver's seat. Don't sweat it, I also needed someone to talk to, she said with a smile. Having said that, it's not 100% charity work. Ah, don't be wary, I have no plans to do anything to you. How much do you know about the situation? I asked frankly. Almost all of it? I know you girls are taking on the Crime Victims Relief Committee, the kind of cases you have solved so far, and what happened with the committee's leaders. Yeah, that's about it. The car stopped because of a red light. We met Yukimura's eyes through the mirror. She is a fair-skinned beauty with bright eyes. Her long hair is tied together with a hairband by the neck. While waiting for the green light to move again, she spoke. Haven't you received a new challenge letter? Yes. I nodded honestly. Was that challenge letter really sent by the committee? Because of this question, which I have never considered, I was at a loss for words. The envelope and letter are the same as before, and the wax seal is unique to them. Kirigiri replied. Although I don't think it's fake, why do you suspect it? Scratch that if this true. Answer me, what do you know? Kirigiri asked. Fufu, as expected of the little detective girl who drove them to near destruction, she is as thorny as the rumors say. Enough is enough, now answer me. Shinsen Mikado is dead, have you perhaps heard about that? Shinsen is dead? Kirigiri's eyes widened. At the same time, I froze with the same expression as hers. It wasn't an act, but from the bottom of my heart. What shocked me was not Shinsen's death, but the fact that this truth is this widely known. It's just what people are saying, there's no definitive evidence. But, judging from the source of the information, the possibility of it being just a rumor is very low. If you specifically don't know, then I can't say it's definitive. There was also a rumor that maybe you girls did it, and it doesn't look like that. When did he die? How did you die? Kirigiri asked. Huh? At least it didn't look like an ordinary death, and the police are already taking action. Well, to be honest, that's the extent of that source. Did she hear that from police-related personnel? It seems that she has not been informed of the details. It's hard to believe. Kirigiri buried her body in the seat with a livid face. It looks like her grandfather hasn't contacted her about it yet. If the police arrived immediately after that, it would make sense why he couldn't get in touch. Shinsen is definitely still alive, and this is the proof of that. Kirigiri showed the black challenge letter to Yukimura. Even if that's true, you can't use this as evidence. If it's someone with foresight like Shinsen, he should have built a foolproof system in order to keep the organization running even after his death. Then, the Crime Victims Relief Committee has already turned into the ghost of Shinsen. The ghost of Shinsen. Maybe so. The organization, which was already invisible to the eye, has now transformed even more into a ghost that embodies the figure of Shinsen, standing quietly behind us. In place of the stunned and silent Kirigiri, I asked Yukimura a question. How did Yukimura-san know that we received a challenge letter? It's information from a certain source, and that source is confidential. I also had them look you girls up. It's amazing that you're still in school. You must have fought to the death against that criminal organization, haven't you? I don't like to get involved in other people's businesses, but I felt compelled to help you. So you came just to pick us up. That's right. That's not all, is it? Kirigiri interjected sharply. What are you planning? What is your purpose? Thorny as expected. Yukimura said with a smile. Of course, I don't plan to be charitable. I told you just a while ago, but you weren't interested in my words. I'm targeting the hidden fortune of the Crime Victims Relief Committee, that is, Shinsen's inheritance. Shinsen's inheritance? I had to raise my voice. You also know that he got a lot of money to support his activities, right? The so-called closed circuit? They say that the rich people pay for the access ticket to carry out the screening of the game, and then use the funds obtained to spend on the expenses of the next game. But the extra money is already a huge amount, since a percent of the total money is returned to him if the perpetrator got a game over. So, from that we can conclude that an astronomical amount of money had flown into Shinsen's pocket. Now that Shinsen is dead, his fortune is in limbo, is that what you mean? That's correct. Then I got the information that there are clues in the Sirius Observatory that indicate where the hidden fortune is, or that the fortune itself is sleeping there. Yukimura said excitedly. Contrary to her imposing manner, the scenery outside the car is no longer a noisy street, but a continuation of a silent forest path in the snow. The fine snow on the edge of the road fluttered in the wind. I don't mean to be rude, but don't you think it's a little eyebrow-raising? It's better to just strike out. If I miss, I'll just look for the next target. But I'm sure I'm going to get a hit when you girls, who have a history with him, are going to the location in question. Look, my senses are ringing. It's a sign that I'm on a roll. Did you not consider the possibility of a trap? Kirigiri said, with a hint of contempt in her tone. Of course, treasures are always accompanied by traps, and I don't think this will be an easy job to accomplish. We've been to the Sirius Observatory before, but we didn't see anything like what you said. That was a few months ago, right? The situation of the organization has changed a lot. Shinsen predicted the change of the situation, and it is not unbelievable that he transferred his fortune in advance. Vague words. Does Shinsen's hidden fortune really exist? That's it. If you help me with my treasure hunt, I'll give you a share. How about it? Not interested. Kirigiri responded immediately. Really, that's fine. I'll still help you. But that means all the fortune is mine, so I don't want to hear complaints about that. Oh, and don't get in my way. Yukimura turned on the car radio, and while slightly wiggling her head, she began to hum along with the tune playing. The nervousness of going to the battlefield is completely absent from her. This is how calm a zero rank is. Having said that, Shinsen's hidden fortune. Elements that I have never thought of have been added to this challenge. If there is such a thing, it will really be a huge amount of money. It's not surprising that there are people who want to take away that inheritance even if they commit a crime. As usual, Kirigiri stared at the white scenery through the window with deep spring-like eyes. What she is thinking couldn't be inferred from her face. The news of an approaching storm was on the radio. The snow hitting the windows gradually turned into something more qualitative. It's already halfway through March. This amount of snow is, well, not a match for my Chichan. As Yukimura said, the car drove very powerfully, passing through many obstacles and heading to the depths of the mountain. Then after an hour or so, suddenly, Yukimura stopped the car in the middle of the road. Looking straight at what's going on, there are fir and birch trees growing in a scatter, and there is no road in sight. From here on out, we can only walk. Yukimura sighed. We got out of the car and the icy air stung our faces instantly. Like shards of glass scattered in the air, the snow coated the sky with a pale silver color. Can I ask you to lead the way? Yukimura buried her face in her scarf and said. That's impossible. I don't even know where we are. I replied. Huh? You're kidding, right? Didn't you say you've been there before? The last time it was someone else who led the way. Although we did get off the car halfway like this and walked up the mountain. Is this the way? I don't know. I looked back at Kirigiri. How about you? Kirigiri-kun, do you remember? The route up to here was not the same as before. Oh, really? That's weird. I've investigated it properly. Yukimura began to panic. Is it okay to look like this? Can our daunting adventure really make it to the end? Wait. Calm down, Shiroko. Right, there's a map. Let's check the map first. Yukimura returned to the car, unfolded the map in the driver's seat, while Kirigiri and I stood looking at her from a distance. A strange noise came from behind us. It was a sound often heard in historical dramas, that of a horse's hoof trampling the ground as it gallops. Looking back, there really is a white horse running towards us. For a moment, I thought my eyes were tricking me. But there is no doubt that it is a horse, and looking closely, a tall man is sitting astride the horse. The hem of his coat embroidered with the national flag of an unknown country is fluttering. In the wind blowing snow and fog, the white horse's breath remained in the air like a trail. He stopped the horse beside us and looked down at us from above. Western appearance, slender eyes. Long reddish hair, tied back in a ponytail. And, for some reason, he is holding a picture frame in one hand, a frame without a canvas, in front of his eyes, and looked down at us again through that frame. No dot. He said disappointedly. What do you mean no? How rude? Yukimura said in a sharp voice. The man on horseback ignored her and turned the frame in the direction of Kirigiri. Then he began to look at it as if he is appreciating a painting. You are the only one who can barely be considered a yes dot. Wait a minute, you're really... Yukimura interrupted. Don't judge girls so casually from high above. Sorry about the looking down part, I'm riding a horse after all. That's not what I meant. Are you also here for the fortune? In that case, it's better to give up and turn back from here. The man narrowed his eyes and said. This sentence made the air instantly tense. This man is also eyeing the inheritance of Shinsen. Things of value can only be owned by those with character. Therefore, all the inheritance of Shinsen will be claimed by me, Yuhane. He left these words and rode off in vigor through the trees. Combined with his Western aristocratic look, it was like watching a scene from a movie set in the Middle Ages. That guy, I hate him. Yukimura looked in the direction of the forest with a bitter expression. Is he an acquaintance? No chance, it's only to the extent that we have worked together a few times. Yukimura kicked the snow beside her feet. DSC number 880, Yuhane Kanji. He's the kind of guy who walks around in clothes that the word uncool doesn't even begin to describe. If you want to maintain your mental stability, stay away from him. That man is also rank 0? And a detective who specializes in solving kidnapping cases like us? Unfortunately, that's the case. It looks like he's going to the Sirius Observatory too. Kirigiri looked at the direction where the man disappeared to with the same expression as usual. As long as we follow the footsteps of the horse, you will reach the building. Ah, that makes sense. I exclaimed. It's still uncomfortable to follow in that guy's footsteps. Come on, let's get ahead of him. Yukimura shoved the map into her pocket and closed the car door loudly. Then she entered the forest first. I hurriedly tried to catch up with her, but Kirigiri didn't leave where she is standing. What's wrong? I turned around and asked her. What do you think, Yui-One-sama? Do you really believe Shinsen is dead? Still doubtful about it. I actually think so. I don't think the guy would die so easily, but if the two of them, who are zero-rank detectives, got that information and came here, the credibility of that information should be very high. My opinion is the same. In fact, my contact with my grandfather who was tracking Shinsen has been cut off since 3 days ago. Considering this, there is no doubt that something must have gone wrong with him. I see. If Shinsen is dead, why should I move forward? Who am I going to fight against? Kirigiri wandered her gaze in confusion. This is the lament of her who was given the fate of fighting criminals since birth. It's a fact that the Black Challenge is still going on. Aren't there other enemies that should be fought? An enemy who should be fought. The perpetrator. The culprit we will catch in this case, right? Yeah. Kirigiri raised her head and looked at me with stern eyes. That's more like it, Kirigiri-chan. I brushed off the snow clinging to her bangs. It made her a little shy, and in order to hide her expression, she turned her back and started walking forward. I tried to catch up with her, advancing side by side. Compared to that time, your expressions got richer. That time? Kirigiri tilted her head. When we first met. Wasn't it the same time as now, walking in the snow together? You weren't putting on a face that could be called an expression at all, making it look like you were already frozen from the cold. Maybe it was actually frozen. Kirigiri said emotionlessly. Because it was very cold. Although you said then, for me, being a detective is the same as being alive, do you still think this way now? Of course. Kirigiri replied immediately. I don't know a way to live other than that. Have you ever considered giving up being a detective? I once imagined myself not being a detective, but I could only vaguely paint a picture of nothingness. After I realized that it was the same as imagining the world after death, I stopped thinking about it. Is that so? That's so you. Thank goodness for it. Thank goodness? Ah, well, I was wondering if one day you'll say, I give up being a detective. You worry too much. The only time I will stop being a detective is when I die. How about you worry about yourself more? Don't you want to become an ally of justice? Who knows? I lowered my head and answered. Even so, I'm looking forward to it. Kirigiri said nonchalantly and walked forward quickly. With mixed feelings, I followed her in heavy steps. Continuing to move forward along the footprints on the snow, and soon seeing Yukimura's back. Surrounded by a coniferous forest without a road, she is standing among the trees, pointing somewhere. Looking at the place where she pointed, there is a huge sign. The paint on the sign had peeled off because of rust, and it's impossible to tell what was written on it. The only words I could barely read are welcome and despair, and the place where picturesque was originally written was changed to desperesque with red spray paint. This thing, it's familiar. I muttered, and Kirigiri nodded. There was this when we came here before. But not only was it not as rusted as it is now, but the place where the sign stands looks different from before. I can sense someone's intentions. Yukimura said with her arms crossed. I have a hunch that I'm getting closer and closer to the fortune. After that, the three of us continued to follow the footsteps of the horse, and soon enough, lights are vaguely seen in front. It's just afternoon, and the warm light dyed the surrounding snow a layer of red. As we got closer to the light, we clearly saw a small building inlaid with glass around it. At the same time, a white horse can be seen running towards us from the direction of the building. There is no one on its back. The horse just passed us by as if nothing had happened. Tired of your master already? She said this to the horse. I can't see the figure of Yuhane around. Did he enter the building? We hurried to the building. And finally, we arrived at the Sirius Observatory. I didn't expect to come back here. For Kirigiri and I, this was also the starting place. Now that Shinsen is dead, returning here can only be considered fate. Or maybe even planned? Come in quickly. Yukimura opened the glass sensor door and went inside, with Kirigiri and I following behind her. The Sirius Observatory was built in the shape of a pentagram when viewed from above, modeled after the Sirius star that shines in the winter night sky. Because Sirius is a double star of two sizes, the observatory consists of two buildings that are connected like twins. The surrounding glass-encrusted building that greeted us is the smaller building B. Building B is both a foyer and a separate building. Building A, which is the main building, is right next to building B. There is no corridor connecting the two buildings on the ground level. You can only enter building A through the underground passage from the foyer. Looks like there's nothing here. Yukimura said as she toured building B. I don't see Yuhane, although there were footprints of that guy outside. Hasn't he already moved to the main building? Yes, let's hurry up too, we can't fall behind. Yukimura walked down the stairs leading underground. The stairs are dark and steep. If you stumble on it, you would fall to the bottom of the darkness in one fell swoop, I think. Holding hands, Kirigiri and I cautiously walked down. Going down the stairs to the underground. The passage extends straight ahead, and a door could be seen at the other end. A strange man appears to be sitting in front of the door with his back against it. There is an old scar in the shape of a crescent moon on his bald head. A sturdy chest can be seen from his loosely draped military jacket. Wearing thick boots, hands on cheeks, and arms resting on crossed legs. Although he looks very rugged, his eyelashes are very long, his cheeks are blush, and the lips are smeared with bright red lipstick. It looks like a woman's makeup. What are you looking at? The man said in a gruff, scary voice. And no, I'm so sorry. I frantically looked away. On the other hand, unlike that man, Yuhane was pacing aimlessly in front of the door. He noticed us and opened his arms in a welcoming gesture. You're late. I've been waiting for you. Huh? You clearly were the one who sped up. Yukimura sighed with her hands on her hips. You seem to be in a bind. As you see, we're being denied entry. Because of that ridiculous-looking doorman? Yukimura pointed at the bald man sitting in front of the door. No, he's our colleague. DSC number 920, Kadomi Senshi. Ever heard of him? 920? I couldn't help raising my voice. Then, that person is also a rank 0? And the number 9 at the beginning means he is good at solving murder cases. 2 I think is specialization at dealing with robberies and other violent crime cases. You're making too much noise. Kadomi slowly stood up. His face, which is illuminated by the lights at his feet, is wearing a perfect makeup that could rival a model. No matter how I look at it, he looks like a woman with high sense of aesthetics. On the other hand, his delicate makeup face is a big contrast to his tough body. Regardless, I thought there'd be some formidable characters coming. Not a woman and some brats. Kadomi said sarcastically. Era, are you dissatisfied that it's us? Yukimura met his taunt. Far from that, it's convenient. Naturally, the fewer rivals, the better. When he said rivals, that means I whispered to Kirigiri. Maybe that person is also here for Shinsen's inheritance? Yes. And that person seems to be the first to arrive. The ability to detect Shinsen's death before anyone else, the ability to gather information to find out where the inheritance is hidden, and the ability to act and get to the scene as quickly as possible. It's impossible to come here without such abilities as a detective. Even if we only look at his DSC rank, we can tell that he is definitely not an ordinary person. It's a contest for Shinsen's inheritance. Kirigiri squinted her eyes and said. A contest, huh? 3 ambitious zero-rank detectives have gathered here aiming for Shinsen's inheritance. This is certainly not some coincidence. The contest just mentioned is only a superficial motive. For the perpetrator, the real motive is likely to be something completely different. Kirigiri has already interpreted the core of the case to this point. It is precisely because she has overcome many black challenges that she is familiar with the organization's behavior. So, what are we doing here, gathered in a place like this? See the device over there? Kadomi pointed to the 5 devices lined up on the wall. There are 5 glass panels about 1 meter high, standing side by side like tombstones. Although it looks like a device, there is no such thing as a button or a switch anywhere on it. The only thing that can be regarded as a feature is a round hole with a diameter of about 15 centimeters open on it. I see, so this is the open sesame part, right? What does that mean? This is probably the authentication devices used to enter the main building. If you put your wrist through this hole, Yukimura actually put her right hand through the hole in the device. See, the registration was successful. It seems to identify individuals by the vein pattern of the wrist. After a beep sound, the words "please register the other wrist" appeared on the glass panel above the hole. It seems to be a transparent LCD panel. Yukimura then put her left hand through the hole, and the words "registration completed" appeared. Looks like both wrists are required to register. That's fine. Then, I'll go in first. With a smile on her face, Yukimura tried to open the door in front of her. But the door didn't budge. If it can be opened this way, I'd have already opened it. Kadomi sneered. It looks like the door won't open if we don't finish registering all 5 devices. Yu-Hain said. That is to say, at least 5 people must gather to enter the main building. That's why they were waiting for us. Kadomi, Yu-Hain, Yukimura, Kirigiri, and me. That's exactly 5 people. Now, get your registrations done, brats. That goes to you too, Yu-Hain. Kadomi urged. I thought of at least hitting back at him with a comment, but we can't move on if we keep butting each other here, so I stood in front of the device in silence. Hey, you. That one's already been registered in, you can't register in it too. Use the device next to it. Kadomi threw this sentence at me from behind. I reluctantly moved to the device next to me. Yu-Hain, me, and Kirigiri stood side by side and started to register in the device. Yu-Hain-san, you haven't registered yet? I spoke to Yu-Hain next to me. If this device is set up with a poison needle or something, it would be game over for me. I'm neither stupid nor lousy to touch poison food with my hand. Yu-Hain said without flinching. In other words, in order to confirm the security of the devices, he didn't want to act until he saw someone registering with their wrists. It's true that once you become a detective, you get awfully cautious of everything. After all the 5 devices were registered in, the sound of the door unlocking was heard. Yukimura, who was close to the door, grabbed its handle. The door opened easily. From there, the underground passage extends straight forward for about 20 meters. Floor-buried lights placed at equal intervals dyed the entire path orange. The game starts. This is where dashing is important. See ya. Yukimura hurried forward. Kadomi and Yu-Hain followed, while Kirigiri and I were the last to pass through the door. Walking down the cold passage, I whispered to Kirigiri. There weren't those authentication devices before, right? Kirigiri nodded silently. Assuming that the Sirius Observatory was renovated into a hidden vault for Shinsen, the existence of those profound authentication devices is understandable. But things shouldn't be that simple. That renovation is undoubtedly linked to the technique. The path soon became a staircase to the top. As the detectives walked up fearlessly, Kirigiri stopped at the bottom of the stairs, staring at the floor. What's wrong? Only the buried light here is dim. Kirigiri pointed to her feet. The floor is inlaid with circular frosted glass, and the light is glowing softly inside. But from the looks of it, it's not so different from the others. Yui-wan-sama, did you bring a screwdriver? Fufu, I did. I took the Phillips screwdriver out of my backpack. You have got everything in there. They say detectives should always carry 7 kinds of tools with them at all times. Do you do the same, Kirigiri-chan? I don't need to. I'll be fine as long as Yui-wan-sama is around. Am I your luggage porter? While talking, Kirigiri used the screwdriver to remove the screws holding the embedded light frame. What is it about this simple lighting that made her feel so uncomfortable? But clues to solving cases are always in these trivial places. The screwdriver removed all the screws, yet it still doesn't open. Kirigiri wanted to confirm the lighting inside, but the glass panes are stuck in so tightly that it didn't look like they would come off. This isn't glass. Kirigiri rubbed the glass with her fingertips. It's thick ice. Ice? Why ice instead of glass? It's a mystery. When Kirigiri stood up and folded her arms, a voice called to us from above. Hey. Yui-chan, Kyoko-chan, can you hear me? It's Yukimura's voice. I looked up at the top of the stairs. It's pitch black everywhere and I can't see anything, and it's impossible to identify the silhouette of Yukimura who was supposed to be there. We ignored the floor lighting and went up the stairs. Hey. Yes, I can hear you. I replied to the darkness. Anyway, climb to the top first. We climbed up the stairs as she said. No matter how much we climbed up, you couldn't see a light. What is the problem? Soon we reached a ceiling. Here, it's covered. This is a trapdoor that can't be opened from the inside once it is closed. Can you try opening it from your side? I felt my hands on the ceiling and pushed up. Then the door opened easily and the light from the interior came in. Yukimura is standing in that direction. So we can only open it from that side of the stairs. Kirigiri and I climbed the stairs and entered the room. It's so cold. It's so abnormally cold inside that I couldn't help but say it out loud. That was the initial impression. The breath I exhale is becoming snowy white and linger for a while. Hey, don't close the door, cause we'll be locked inside. Just leave it like that. Kadomi raised his tone. I hurriedly released my hand from the door and kept it open. Standing inside, I can see the entrance to the underground. It's a square hole in the floor. I must take special care not to fall there because there are no fences around it. I turned my eyes from the floor to the surroundings. The central hall I'm currently in is pentagon-shaped, with a door on each of the 5 faces. Behind each door is a guest room, the same as last time I have been here. There are also places that are completely different from before. There used to be a large round table in the center of the hall, but now, in the center is a thick pillar. It doesn't look like an ordinary pillar. Through the translucent glass-like pillar, I can see the other side of the column in a twisted state. This is an ice pillar. The diameter of the pillar is about 2 meters. It's a size that even adults can't wrap their arms around. And for some reason, the pillars are surrounded by iron grills. It's like an ice pillar imprisoned in a bird cage. The distance between the iron grill and the column is about 50 centimeters. It seems that I can barely touch the surface of the ice if I try reaching in through the gap in the grid. The pillar extends all the way to the ceiling, but doesn't appear to be supporting the roof. After all, the Sirius Observatory, as its name suggests, was originally an observatory with a dome-shaped ceiling that could be opened. Originally, there should not be a pillar in such a place. This pillar, what is it? I asked to myself. But no detective answered that question. Even if there was a prior investigation, no one confirmed the existence of this pillar. As if floored, I approached the ice pillar and touched the iron grill. At this time, a buzzer suddenly rang inside the hall. WH what? What did I do? The door is still open. The door is still open. The door is still open. Along with the loud buzzer, a voice of a machine sounded. It made me plug my ears. Shut up, shut up. Somebody stop it. Yukimura shouted as loudly as the buzzer. The door is still open. The door is still open. The door is still open. Door? Does it mean the entrance trap door? Yuhane pointed to the hole in the floor and said, Shut the fuck up. I'ma lose myself if this continues. Hey, brat, shut the door. Kadomi said. Is that okay? If I do, we'll be locked up. I tentatively checked with him, but my voice was completely drowned out by the sound of the buzzer. When I wanted to ask again, Kadomi kicked the door down and shut it. At the same time, the buzzer stopped beeping. After silence fell, we all regained our composure. Can't move forward without cutting off our return path. What a bad situation. Kadomi frowned while stroking his bald head. Almost like bank robbers locked in a vault. Yuhane looked around with the picture frame. Almost like? You absolutely are. Kadomi scoffed with a snort. Oh please, the only robbers here are you guys. Then what are you? The heir to the legacy of the great detective. The one representing the next generation of detectives, the king of the United Detectives. Go to hell. Fucking hyena. Fufu, a no dot. Yuhane looked at Kadomi through the frame, and Kadomi raised his middle finger at him in response. Let's leave these stupid guys alone. Yukimura came to me and Kirigiri. It's just the prologue so far. With all these strange authentication devices in the weird buildings, I'm getting more and more convinced that I've got a hit. But we don't know what dangers there will be yet. I said quietly. Indeed, if this building is left by Shinsen, it's not surprising that there are dangerous traps all over it. It's your turn to shine here. You have been here before, yeah? Please help me point out the differences from before. It'll most likely be the key to the treasure. Treasure, I said while sighing. First of all, there was no such thing as an authentication device before, and there was no door at the entrance to the stairs. And then, this pillar too. And, well, I looked around. In addition to the pillar, there is another thing that I'm very concerned about. The door to each room. At first glance, it's just an ordinary double door, but looking closely, there is no door handle on either side. Small holes are open where it should be the door handles. And oddly enough, there are chains hanging down from the holes. From the left and right sides of the double doors, one in each hole, a total of 2 rather strong-looking chains extend to the ground in our direction. The 2 chains then split to the left and right, extending towards the doors of their respective adjoining rooms. Finally, the chains are attached to the door handle holes of the next rooms. This way, the doors of the 5 rooms look like they are connected by the chains. And also these chains. I'm very concerned about them. Yukimura said and pushed open the door of the adjacent room. As expected, the door opened easily. I observed the interior of the room from the main hall. The room gets narrower as it goes deeper. From a bird's eye view, the room is an isosceles triangle, with the deepest point being the vertex. A bed is in the center of the room, a closet on the right of the door, a toilet and bathroom on the left, and a dresser and a small refrigerator on the deep left. The same as before. The deep half of the 2 equilateral walls of the triangle are glass windows, which were used as viewing windows for stargazing. The curtains are now closed, so I can't see outside. Next to the vertex of the triangle is an astronomical telescope, a large diameter Newtonian reflecting telescope. In last time's case, that became an important prop to complete the technique. The interior structure doesn't seem to have changed much, said Kirigiri. But before, the door was singular, not a double door like this. Right, you remember it so clearly. I see. Yukimura went into the room while echoing. Did the chains look like this before? The chains passed through the holes in the doors, extending further into the room. Yukimura followed the chains to the depth of the room. Then she stopped beside the bed. Look at these. Yukimura grabbed what looks like gray circles from the bed. Those are handcuffs. The handcuffs have locks attached to the end of the chains that connect to the holes in the door. The case a few months ago suddenly flashed through my mind. The day I met Kirigiri Kyoko. When I woke up, I was handcuffed to the bed. That was the moment my battle with the Crime Victims Relief Committee began. I can already see the rules of the game. Kirigiri murmured softly. Already? I tilted my head. What's going on? Kirigiri-chan. In the 5 rooms, there are 5 sets of handcuffs, and there are 5 of us. Get it? Kirigiri shrugged. No. I didn't get it at all. We just did the 2 wrists registration. That was for these handcuffs. I'm guessing the handcuffs are also equipped with sensors to read vein patterns. In other words, when the 5 people who have registered at the entrance are handcuffed in their respective rooms, something will happen. What will happen? We have to try them to find out. That's too dangerous. Because these are handcuffs, right? And that chain. The left and right sides are connected to the next rooms, aren't they? That means the chains of the handcuffs connect to the next room's handcuffs, right? That's right. If all 5 of us wear handcuffs on the left and right sides in our respective rooms, the chains will be connected in a loop, which means that they will form a big circle. What is this? This is too abnormal. Why do we have to do something like that? I said emotionally, lowering the volume so that only Kirigiri could hear it. The chains and its cost was written in the miscellaneous section of the challenge letter. Which means it has nothing to do with the killing technique. Do we have to play this kind of game? Yui-Wansama once said, if you want to move forward, danger is unavoidable. I don't want to live under Shinsen's shadow anymore. I want to move forward. I don't think he is really dead. As long as I don't deliver the final blow, the game won't end. Kirigiri-chan. I didn't mean that with what I said. You don't have to remember my words. It's almost as if I'm leading you to your death with it. We're now at a point where we can't go back. I muttered to myself. Kirigiri agreed with that. Don't worry, Yui-Wansama. I'm a detective. When I die, I'll die fighting. That's not what a child should say at all. So, you finished discussing? Yukimura craned her neck and looked our way. What are you doing? Or gonna do? Because as far as I'm concerned, I need you girls to help me out. Aren't you afraid, Yukimura-san? I asked her. It was just a passing question. Even a zero-rank detective should be afraid of death. Of course I'm aware of the risks. But when I think about what I can get, I naturally get excited. As expected, it's for the money. Yeah. Well, it's for the kids at the end of the day. Kids? You have kids? Yeah, haven't I told you yet? A 5-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl. Dropped them off at my mother's today. I was startled. I did not expect her to be a person with children. Of course, detectives have families too. But why? In the detective persona I imagined, there is absolutely no room for a family. When I had a child, I gave up my detective activities for a while. But a lot of things happened, so I decided to come back. This time it's a comeback battle, and I won't lose. Yukimura said so, and snapped a handcuff on her left hand. Ah. Then the right hand was also handcuffed. I could only watch silently. Yui-wan-sama, let's go to the next room. We went back to the main hall first. I don't see Kodomi and Yuhane. Which rooms are they exploring? We stopped in front of the door of the next room. Yui-wan-sama, choose this room, and I'll choose the next one. Kirigiri-chan, do you really want to do it? Kirigiri nodded silently, and walked to the next room alone. That back, as always, is still very petite, just the back of a 13-year-old girl. I'm still confused. Is Shinsen really dead? There is no doubt about that. At first, I thought maybe Kirigiri's grandfather who appeared later was actually a fake, a disguise of Shinsen, but it's probably not the case. The biggest obstacle for Shinsen's plan to go smoothly is Kirigiri Fuhito. To stall him, it would be most effective to use the police as a distraction. It may be fair to say that the whole horrifying suicide play was carried out for that purpose. So, the Kirigiri Fuhito that appeared in that place must have been real. Then, what about the possibility that the man who died in front of my eyes was actually someone else disguised as Shinsen? That's even more impossible. Is there anyone else who could have done that kind of death? Even if appearances can be disguised, no one can imitate that anomaly. And the fact is that Kirigiri Fuhito himself confirmed that he was Shinsen. It is true then, Shinsen is dead. Even so, I still feel like he is alive. Not only that, but he feels so close that I could feel his breath on the back of my neck. Is it because of this strange building? I opened the door in front of me while thinking. Handcuffs are on the bed. 2 iron rings usually joined together by a chain. However, the chains of the ones that are in front of me are not connected to each other, but extend separately from their respective rings, and then pass through the holes in the door, connecting to the 2 adjacent rooms. That is to say, this is not a pair of handcuffs, but halves of 2 pairs of handcuffs spanning the adjacent rooms on the left and right. It's not the same hands that share the chain, but the hand of someone in the next room. I picked up the handcuffs, one marked right and the other left. Should I really do it? It started with handcuffs too. Maybe I've been linked to something since then. I don't want to live in Shinsen's shadow anymore. Kirigiri said so. She is afraid. No wonder. She has seen a number of bodies in person, even those of family members. I am sure of it. The only one who can protect her is me. I handcuffed my hands. That's it. Whatever the outcome, I will move forward with my chest held high. I left the room dragging the chains hanging from my hands, and just happened to bump into Kirigiri who came out of her room. Of course, she also has handcuffs on her hands. This way my left hand and her right are connected by the long chain. Also, my right hand is connected to Yukimura Shiroko's left. Next to Yukimura is Kodomi, and next to him is Yuhane. And finally, next to Yuhane is Kirigiri, which completes the closed loop of the chain. Yukimura noticed me walking out of the room and pointed straight ahead of her. I finally noticed the change in the main hall. The iron grill surrounding the central ice pillar has disappeared. It looks like only the iron grill slid under the floor and is stowed away. Evidence is that a circular gap can be vaguely seen in the floor. I crossed the gap and approached the ice pillar timidly. At this moment, the door of the room opposite the ice pillar slammed open, and Kodomi walked out. So we can get close to the ice pillar only after everyone's handcuffed. His hands are also handcuffed. At the same time, the door of the room to his left opened, and Yuhane appeared there. It's a natural safe. So beautiful. While shaking the chains of his handcuffs, Yuhane looked at the ice pillar through the frame. Everyone is handcuffed. So, there is no turning back. Yui-wan-sama, look in the ice. Kirigiri pointed at the ice pillar. Looking closely, through the translucent ice pillar, a small black object can be seen in the middle. It looks like a cube. The size is best compared to that of a handbag. Sealed inside the ice. Something is in the ice. What is it? Anyone has a lighter? Kodomi asked no one in particular. But no one answered. I have a lighter in my backpack, one of the detective tools of course. But I didn't reveal it. Can't be helped. Kodomi muttered, crouched down on the spot, and rolled up his trouser. A small holster wrapped around his boot was exposed. Then he drew a small gun from the holster. I'll get that box. He raised the gun immediately and pointed the muzzle at the pillar. It's the early bird gets the worm kind of problem. That's dangerous, put that barbaric thing away. Yuhane tried to stop him. Shut up. Kazumi pulled the trigger at the ice pillar. The sound of the gunshot was deafening. Then on the surface of the ice pillar, white ice foam splattered. The smell of gunpowder began to spread throughout the room. It's a familiar smell, I didn't want to remember it. Yup, self-defense gun won't cut it. Kodomi said while playing with the smoke from the muzzle. One bullet hole about 2 centimeters deep was left on the surface of the ice pillar. The bullet casing rolled around exhausted near the ice pillar. Gotta find another way. Kodomi put the gun back in the holster and went back to his room. Immediately afterwards, Yuhane also silently returned to his room. I didn't expect there to be a gun. I muttered. It doesn't seem to be useful here. Yukimura said while observing the bullet mark on the ice pillar. Even with bullets, it won't be an easy thing to get that box out of there. Is that box Shinsen's inheritance? God knows. At least that should be the next step. The 5 people who have completed the registration at the entrance connected themselves with the handcuffs in a loop, and the iron grill opened up. Thinking about it this way, we are indeed a step closer to the core. It was originally a security device that made to be lifted only when 5 organization executives were gathered. Yukimura said. Because the core executives are gone, a gap was created, so we were able to enter smoothly. It's all thanks to you girls. It is true that Shinsen and Ryuzoji Geka are no more. But they and Johnny Arc together were 3, not 5. Are there other executives? After all, the handcuffs are simply a trap, rather than a security device. They were prepared to trap us here. Then, let's have an operation meeting. Yukimura beckoned to us and made a gesture to let us sit nearby. We leaned our faces to each other and crouched near the ice pillar. From here, the game will officially start. No matter the method we use, we must get our hands on the frozen box. Of course, it must be before Yuhane and Kodomi. No matter the method, how exactly? That's what we're trying to figure out right now. I stared at the ice pillar. The ice pillar is about 2 meters in diameter, and the box is in the center, so if we want to take it out, we need to remove about 1 meter of ice. It's a different story if we have dozens of bullets, but we don't have anything like that, and Kodomi looks the same. So we have to consider other methods, like melting, cutting, digging. Do you two have any props that can come in handy? I cast my eyes at Kirigiri. Should I show Yukimura the contents of my backpack? I asked without words. Kirigiri nodded with no hesitation. At this stage, she seems to have decided to go along with Yukimura. I opened the backpack and turned it over. Yukimura immediately found the lighter among the objects scattered on the floor. What, you brought this? That was a very smart judgment not to reveal yourself just now. Yukimura grinned. And the only other useful thing is the screwdriver. She laid the two tools side by side on the floor. The lighter is just the kind sold in convenience stores, the so-called 100 yen lighter. On the other hand, the screwdriver is only a small tool with a length of about 15 centimeters, and the shaft is also very thin. This alone is not enough. Did Yukimura-san bring anything? I prepared my lockpicking tools, but it isn't useful this time. Yukimura shrugged. Anyway, let's try these two first and see if we can beat that ice monster. Yukimura stood up with the lighter and the screwdriver. First is this. Yukimura held the screwdriver upside down and stabbed the tip into the ice's surface. But unsurprisingly, it was only slightly scarred. It will take a long time to dig to the center. How about the lighter? I don't think this alone can do anything. But let's try it first. It just so happens both Kodomi and Yuhane have shut themselves up in their rooms, so while we're at it. Yukimura lit the lighter and brought it near the surface of the ice. The part that came in contact with the fire was then scorched to black, with almost no melting. The ice burnt? Yukimura rubbed the burnt part with her fingers in surprise. If you burn it directly with fire, the gas part will be scorched, Kirigiri said. It's better not to burn it directly, but to melt it with heat. Learned something new. I'll teach it to my kids. This time, Yukimura lit the fire a little further away from the ice pillar, and the surface of the ice slowly started melting and becoming wet. But as a whole, it wasn't that much of a change. As I thought, it's not working. This is better kept as an igniter. Oh well, I'll give it back to you. Yukimura handed out the lighter. I took it and put it in my coat pocket. The ice safe seems to be stronger than it looks. It is unlikely that we will be able to break through it if we try to pry it open without a plan. The other detectives have noticed this too, each shut in their rooms to figure something out, I think. We can't do anything now. Let's split up and explore the surroundings first. Maybe we can find a useful tool that can take out that box. Kirigiri and I agreed with Yukimura's proposal. All good? This is a race for a huge inheritance. You don't want to hand over power to those weird guys, right? If you dawdle, you'll get jumped on, so I'm counting on you. Yukimura said admonishingly, and then hurried back to her room. Yui-wan-sama, let's investigate the rooms together. I moved around the hall as if being led by Kirigiri. In the process, was careful not to let the chain get tangled. What a troublesome technique Shinsen made. On the way back to my room, I suddenly noticed a cabinet installed on the wall. This looks familiar. It's the switch that opens the dome. Kirigiri noticed my gaze and said, that's right. Because the building was originally used as an observatory, the ceiling dome can be opened and closed. The ceiling has mirrors the same as before, reminiscent of the hell of mirrors. Kirigiri and I that are distorted into a strange shape in the concave mirrors looking down at us from above. I opened the cabinet and flicked the switch. But nothing happened. It was possible to open the dome before. Let's put that one aside for now. More importantly, Yui-wan-sama, look at this. Kirigiri pointed to the mercury thermometer hanging on the back of the cabinet lid. The thermometer indicates -10 degrees Celsius? I was surprised and confirmed the scale several times. No wonder it's so cold. But I don't think the temperature outside is that low. We can assume that the temperature was adjusted to maintain the ice pillar. What a ridiculous alteration. It's warmer outside when it's snowing, so even if I cry because of the situation we are in, my tears would freeze over. The rooms are warmer than the hall. Let's go in. Kirigiri entered my room first, and I followed her. After closing the door of the room, it does feel warmer than the hall. There are no gaps around the door, so privacy looks good. However, the chains of Kirigiri's handcuffs are caught in between the double door, and there is no way to avoid cold air leaking in from it. Kirigiri looked around and sat on the bed, and I sat next to her. Kirigiri-chan, what do you think? Has the Black Challenge already started? It's not wrong to think that the Black Challenge started when all 5 people were gathered. Oh right, that's true. In other words, one of the 3 detectives is the perpetrator? Not necessarily. It's also possible that we might lose consciousness, and the other 3 become corpses. The same as last time. True. Nauseating memories. In the past, in the case that happened at the Sirius Observatory, apart from me and Kirigiri, the 3 detectives who accompanied us became disintegrated corpses overnight. Only me and Kirigiri survived. Never want to try that fear again. I naturally clenched Kirigiri's hand that was on the bed. The handcuffs clinked together, making a dry metallic sound. For the 2 of us to go back alive this time, let's carefully grasp the current situation. Kirigiri said with the same calm expression as usual. I nodded silently. First, the handcuffs. Kirigiri raised her wrist. It doesn't look like there is a keyhole. I think it's electronically controlled, like the remote control key of a car. That means it can't be opened by picking the lock? Although unlocking requires finding the remote control key, I don't think we will find it so easily. It would be very inconvenient to wear handcuffs all the time. Wait, on second thought, isn't it impossible to change clothes? Clothes aren't that big of a problem. No, it is a big problem. I think even in the worst case scenario, it will automatically be unlocked after 168 hours. It's okay for a week or so. You can't shrug this off like that. Kirigiri-chan is also a girl, so she should pay more attention to this kind of thing. I still care a little bit. Kirigiri touched the ribbon that tied her hair, the gift I gave to her. Well, the tops can't be changed, but it's a good thing that the bottoms can be. Thank goodness I put down the backpack first. I said with a sigh. Anyway, what an unexpected way to hospitalize visitors by chaining them together. The long chains continue from the left and right handcuffs to the outside of the room, literally binding us. Usually, when it comes to the chains of handcuffs, it's only about 10 centimeters at most, just connecting the left and right rings. But the chains of the handcuffs we are wearing now are not only much longer, they drag to the floor, and are attached to different persons' wrists on both left and right. These chains are roughly 20 meters long. Is it that long? How about we try measuring it? Yui-wan-sama has a measuring tape, right? Yeah. I took the tape measure out of my backpack. Yui-wan-sama, please move to the deepest part of the room, which is the apex of the triangle. I will also go back to my room and do the same thing as you. Kirigiri walked out of the room with the tape measure. She is very active at such times and looked very excited. When she went out, I felt the chains connected to her getting pulled several times. She came back after when the measurement was over. I've roughly grasped the structure of the building. The depth of the rooms is about 6 meters, which is the length of the high part of the triangle. Then the base is about 4 meters, which means that the hall is a regular pentagon with a side length of 4 meters. If connected persons stand in the depths of the rooms, the shortest chain length to the doors is 6 plus 6, 12 meters. Then the chain that passes through the hall is be about 3 meters when it's tightened. So, that means? The length of the chain is about 20 meters. After subtracting it, there is still a surplus of 5 meters. All in all, even if the handcuffs are connected, there will be no inconvenience in moving in our respective rooms. So that's how it is, got it. The problem is that the chains connect the 5 of us in a circle, and the center of that circle is the ice pillar. That means, unless we melt the ice pillar, we can't escape from this building? Even if the ice pillar is gone, as long as the chains go through the doors, there's no way for everyone to get out from a window together unless the handcuffs are removed. I can finally comprehend the situation. We are trapped in this building. And it was by our own hands. I wonder if that's the price to pay for messing around with Shinsen's inheritance. According to my reasoning, the remote key needed to unlock the handcuffs is in that frozen box. Kirigiri said. What about the inheritance? I don't think there is such a thing, but it can be in that box too as some kind of data storage device, or a piece of paper with the next clue written. At least the inside won't be gold or silver. Anyway, to beat this ridiculous game, we can only try melting the ice first, right? Yes, let's follow Yukimura-san's instructions for now. To be honest, that woman is also untrustworthy. Because I have been betrayed by detectives several times so far, I don't trust anyone except Kirigiri-chan. The same as for me, except it's Yui-1-sama. So Kirigiri-chan actually trusts me. After I said that, Kirigiri averted her eyes and muddled the answer. So, how do we get the box? If possible, I'd like to get to it faster than the other detectives. I stood up and looked around. Although Yukimura said she will be looking for a useful tool, the rooms only have minimal furniture. The only thing that can be considered is the astronomical telescope by the window. I figured it out. How about using the lens of the astronomical telescopes to collect sunlight and shine it on the ice pillar? I couldn't help but raise my voice at my unexpectedly good idea. We have seen the gathering sunlight technique used before to create fire, but is it possible at this angle? Kirigiri tilted her head. A south-facing window should be fine, right? Of course, the condition is that it should be daytime and the weather is clear. Even if the angle of sunlight is not that good, we can just use the dresser. I approached the small dresser set against the wall. It's not very big, so it can't be too much of a hassle to move it around. We can use its mirror to adjust the position of the sunlight. When I tried to move the mirror to the window, I felt something strange. No matter how I tried to move it, the dresser wouldn't budge. On closer inspection, the feet of the dresser are screwed to the floor. What's this? The beds, the refrigerators, and all other furniture are fixed to the floor. Kirigiri sat on the bed and said calmly. You noticed? Yes, when I was investigating my room. But why? Is it to prevent us from using the sunlight focus? It's to keep it from being used for purposes other than what it's intended for. An example is, if you move the cupboards and dressers to the main hall, it can be used as fuel and be burnt. Furthermore, the bed sheets and blankets are also riveted to the bed, so that it won't be moved out. To prevent the curtains too from being removed, it is fixed in place with metal parts. Even if it is taken out, it will be difficult to burn it because of its non-combustibility. They fixed the furniture in place to protect the ice pillar? I guess so. In that case, there's no point in holding a lighter. There's nothing to burn. That's not true either. Kirigiri stood up from the bed and opened the refrigerator abruptly. In addition to a few pet bottles of mineral water, it was also filled with brick-like objects. Kirigiri picked up one of them. It is a stack of banknotes. It is something that a high school girl would almost never see in her daily life. But I have seen it before, and I would even say it caused me trauma. In a previous black challenge, it was used to trade with our lives. 20 million in total. 20 million. I sucked in a breath of cold air. The same amount was put in the refrigerator in my room. It's probably the same in the other rooms. If you think about it, if there are 20 million in each room, that would make it 100 million, the same as the cash number in the challenge letter. Does that mean it's the auction all over again? Or is this Shinsen's inheritance? No, I'm afraid this is. The moment Kirigiri was about to say something, a loud voice came from the hall. We stood up reflexively and rushed into the hall. Yuhane had fallen on the floor opposite the ice pillar. His flamboyant coat laying on the floor like a fancy rug. Kadomi was standing beside him and yelled something loudly. It seems that he knocked Yuhane off his feet. All you had to do was be more honest and hand it over, trash scum. He is holding a silver Zippo lighter in his hand. You brats, look at this. This asshole hid the lighter. In other words, he lied to us. Obviously we're all friends who are chained together, so we have to get along. Kadomi spoke fast and endlessly, then picked up a stack of banknotes that had fallen nearby. That's my money. Yuhane raised his body and stretched out his hand. Kadomi immediately kicked him, and Yuhane became a high-end rug again. It's ours, got it? Kadomi pulled out a bill from the stack of banknotes. Then without hesitation, he lit it with the lighter. The banknotes quickly flickered and burned. Like a magician standing on a stage, Kadomi threw the flames into the air. But unlike magic, the fire did not go out, instead it drew an arc in the air, and then landed near the ice pillar. The fire continued to burn for a few seconds until it turned to ashes. Yep, as expected. Kadomi said with his arms crossed. Flammable liquid was seeped into the 10,000 yen bills. Flammable liquid. I muttered. In other words, that money is the fuel for melting the ice. 100 million yen of fuel. If only one piece can set off that many flames, it is not impossible to melt the ice pillar with 10,000 pieces. But is what's in that little black box worth spending 100 million yen to get? Now then girls, stop staring and get the money out of your rooms. Kadomi pointed me and Kirigiri back to the rooms with his thumb. Can you not arbitrarily advance the conversation? Yukimura, who came out of the room at some point, interjected. And who do you think you are? Getting a little too cocky lately, aren't you? I have no intention of responding to your provocations. Yukimura stretched out a hand and said in a stopping gesture. What you do with the 20 million in your room is your freedom, but forcing it on others is not nice. Yui-chan, don't listen to that guy. What you talking about? You want to say the money in that room is yours? Wasn't the money originally here? It's not your private property. Unfortunately, the money in my room is what I found. I won't let you use it as you please. You fucking. Kadomi murmured, his makeup face twisted like a ghost, and then suddenly bent down on the spot. If you don't listen to me, then this is the only option left. Kadomi reached for the holster on his boot. He wants to draw his gun. I got into position immediately. But the holster is empty. Kadomi hurriedly looked around. But the gun hadn't dropped anywhere. Where did it go? Is this what you're looking for? Yuhane said. He kept his prone position, stood the picture frame on the floor, and aimed the gun at Kadomi through the frame. When did you? Next time you kick someone, you'd better use the foot without the holster. Saying so, Yuhane aimed the gun at the wall and pulled the trigger. The air vibrated, and a small hole opened in the wall. After a moment of silence, the smell of gunpowder began to spread. The two-shot Dellinger pistol ran out of bullets. Hey, what are you doing? In spite of Kadomi's protest, Yuhane stood up, opened the mid-fold barrel of the gun, and forcibly twisted the joint part, which is the weakest part of the structure. As a result, the gun may never be used again. I'm not going to hand over my money either, and I want you to return the bill that was burned just now. Yuhane dropped the pistol and said, Don't be fooled by the money in front of you. You have no idea how much the contents of that box are worth. That's all Shinsen left behind everything that the Crime Victims Relief Committee is all about, you know? The power enough to shake up the world. Are you going to give it up for a mere 20 million? You want to conquer the world? Yukimura said dumbfounded. Go ahead and laugh. I want to dominate more than being dominated. Kadomi spat out that line and then returned to his room. After he entered the room, the chains of his handcuffs were also pulled. Into the room through the hole in the doorknob. Probably intending to pull the rest of the chain as close as possible. Nice save. Yukimura addressed Yuhane. Though I don't intend to thank you. It's okay, I wasn't saving you anyways. Yuhane patted the hem of his coat and said. So, what's next? I did some rough investigation, but I couldn't find any items that could get rid of this ice pillar, except for the bills, of course. I guess we'll just have to chip away at the ice steadily? There's no way around that. Yuhane picked up the gun that had just been discarded, held the handle and smashed at the ice pillar. The shattered ice splashed everywhere. But the palm-sized pistol does not seem to create much of an impact. Let's get to work too. Yukimura led me and Kirigiri to a location farther away from Yuhane. She doesn't seem like she wants to cooperate with him. If I had known this earlier, I would have brought a chainsaw. Yukimura joked. Well, even with a screwdriver, if we take all night, we can chip off a meter or so. A whole night of just chipping ice? We can change shifts while doing it. We have 3 people on our side, so we have quite the advantage. I'll start off then. Yukimura took the screwdriver and, while humming a little tune, began to drive the tip of it into the ice pillar. The amount that can be shaved off in a second is very small, but the ice pillar is indeed being gradually chipped off. If we keep chipping like this, eventually. How many minutes have passed since then? The ice is not even 5 centimeters deep. Yukimura looked very tired and handed me the screwdriver. I took the screwdriver and continued to work in silence. At that moment, Yuhane, who was working opposite the ice pillar, seemed tired of his work and staggered back to his room. Before that, the sound of his hammering on the ice had significantly weakened. After all, the tool in his hand was not suitable for continuous work. Fufufu, so it's us alone in the lead. Yukimura said. But to be blunt, I'm not really interested in the inheritance anymore. It's fine for me to just quit the game. I couldn't help but stop what I was doing. What's wrong? It's so sudden. You've been energetic so far. Because there's 20 million, right? I suddenly got a huge sum of money. It can't last a lifetime, but it's enough for the tuition fees of my 2 kids. That means my life goal has been achieved. Are you going to take the 20 million back with you? That's right. It's dirty money that can't be used publicly anyway, so I have to use it meaningfully. But what about Shinsen's inheritance? I pointed to the black box sealed in the ice pillar. Keeping the cash in front of me is safer than a black box that I can't be certain of its contents, right? Yukimura said simply. Now then, I want to discuss something with you too. If in case you don't need the money in your fridges, I can. You can have it. Kirigiri replies. Wait, Kirigiri-chan. As expected of the little detective princess. You aren't just smart, but generous as well. I will tell my kids about you from time to time. A total of 60 million. If I get this much cash, my family can live in harmony for the time being. In return, tell us everything you know. Kirigiri looked at Yukimura blankly. Of course, I'll tell you everything. What do you want to hear about? Is Shinsen definitely dead? Still obsessing about that one, huh? How much trauma did he cause you? Anyway, my ex-husband who broke up with me is a big wig in the police, and that's where I got the information from. So at least it's not a rumor or gossip. But, are the police's prospects correct in the first place? How can you be sure that the dead person is Shinsen? I asked. We'll see about that, won't we? The police aren't just standing by and watching. Their database at least has a record of Shinsen's fingerprints and DNA information, so I'm sure they will be able to confirm his identity soon. Yukimura said lightly. On the other hand, Kirigiri didn't even move her eyebrows and remained expressionless. If Shinsen really died, what exactly is this black challenge? Kirigiri murmured. I know the answer to that. There is no doubt that this black challenge is a murder case prepared for Kirigiri Kyoko. In other words, it is the curse of Shinsen who remained in this world after his death. Even if I'm gone, the organization will continue to operate as programmed, and the black challenge will continue as usual. Shinsen said so. That said, I'm already hungry. Yukimura glanced at her watch and said casually. I was planning to go back before dinner, so I didn't prepare anything. We have bread and snacks. I say so. Wow, so well prepared. We also have a thermos, so if you like. It's fine because we have pet bottles in the fridges. You'd better not drink that. Kirigiri said. There is a high possibility of it being poisoned. Aren't you overthinking? If the bottles are poisoned, that would make the game boring. But oh well, it's too much of a hassle to go back and get one from the fridge, so I'll take your thermos offer. We finished eating like we were on a picnic in front of the ice pillar. But due to the unusual cold, there was not much appetite. It seems that only by burying ourselves in the work in front of us can we forget about the cold for a while. I ate a bit of chocolate and then immediately resumed the ice chipping work. But that didn't last long. While I was stabbing the ice pillar several times with the screwdriver, suddenly the shaft broke completely from the base. Oh no. Looking at the remaining handle in my hand, I could only sink into despair. The snapped shaft rolled to my feet. RRA, we're in trouble. Yukimura picked up the broken shaft. I'm sorry, it was the cheap kind. We can't continue working now. Looks like it's necessary to reconsider our plan. First, it's impossible to continue working all night in this cold state. Having said that, there's no room for a lazy strategy. Yukimura rubbed her arms as if hugging her own body. We also have the option of burning a little money for warmth. After I said that, Yukimura immediately retorted. A little? How much is a little? 1 bill would not generate enough warmth, so is 10 bills enough? What about 100 bills? Absolutely no. That's too much. You have no idea how hard it is to earn that much. Indeed, that is a common thought. But in this abnormal game, you have to do something outside of common sense to save your life. I have had several experiences like that so far. I wondered if I could convince Yukimura, but I gave up in the end. In fact, it's true that it's pointless to burn a few bills. As the three of us huddled together, pondering what to do next, the door to a room opened and Kadomi stepped out into the hall. He slurped water from a pet bottle, approached the ice pillar. Straight away, and suddenly spilled the remaining water from the bottle. The water instantly turned into white mist and surrounded the ice pillar. The surface of the translucent ice pillar was covered with white frost, and it looked thicker than before. After Kadomi confirmed this, he returned to his room without saying a word. What was that? We looked at each other. He was wondering if the water in the pet bottle could do something, I think. Let's leave him alone for now. Yukimura shrugged. More than that, why don't we go back to our rooms? It's cold anyway. Right now, we can no longer make our slightly shivering bodies do anything. It feels even colder than the time I had to wait for hours on the snowy mountain for that sniper battle. Let's wrap ourselves in blankets for now. Yukimura said that and entered her room. Only me and Kirigiri are left in the hall. I feel like what we're doing is futile. I muttered feebly. Every time we are forced to participate in a game that we don't understand. Why do we have to do this kind of thing? Because we are detectives. Kirigiri said without pause nor confusion on her face. But that face has turned completely pale from the cold, as if she has become an ice sculpture. Is there really a murderer among those three? Did Kirigiri-chan predict anything? Everyone is suspicious. That's for sure. Let's go back to your room too. If this continues, hypothermia will take away even our ability to think. Kirigiri walked straight to my room. We entered the room together. If the door is fully closed, it can somewhat block the cold air. I'm guessing the freezing unit only works in the hall and has no effect on the other rooms. But there is no heating either, so it couldn't get any warmer. At least it's much warmer than the hall. It was cold to stay still, so I casually looked out through the gaps in the curtains. There is what looks like a cliff in front of the window here, and the white ground covered with snow turns into darkness ahead as if it had been cut off in the middle. On the other side of the darkness, the wind is blowing wildly, and a whistling roar could be heard. Snow continues to fall. It's stronger and more violent than before, perhaps because of the wind's effect. On the opposite side of the curtain of wind and snow, slightly to the left, is Yukimura's room. I checked the lock on the window. It's a long-handled crescent lock, a mechanism that can be unlocked as long as the handle is pulled to the horizontal state. I twisting the handle, and the window opened easily. Looks like it is possible to get out from here. But we can't go far as long as we are handcuffed. I closed the window and relocked it. Looking back inside, Kirigiri is observing the bathroom. Have you found anything? No, nothing special. Kirigiri shook her head. I looked at the bathroom from behind her. It is an integrated bathroom with a toilet and a shower joined together. There is no bathtub and the shower space is separated by curtains. The shower is fixed to the wall and cannot be moved. Ah, yes. Hot water. With that in my mind, I turned the faucet. If we collect hot water and pour it on the ice pillar, wouldn't it be able to melt the ice? But no matter how much I turned the faucet, no hot water came out. Maybe the enemy already predicted this kind of plan. This can't be. If there's no hot water, doesn't that mean we can't even take a shower? I said stunned. We were even able to do that at Norman's hotel, but we can't here? Yui-wan-sama, look at this. Kirigiri pointed at the bathroom wall. There is a metal plate with numbers written on it. 22 to 7 o'clock. What's this? It seems that the showers are only available between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. the next morning. Time restriction? It's better than not being able to use it. Anyway, if there's hot water coming out, won't we be able to use it to melt the ice pillar? How do we get the hot water to the ice pillar? There, the pet bottles. Just pouring in a little hot water will have the opposite effect. Then we also collect the pet bottles in your and Yukimura-san's rooms, and keep pouring hot water with the bottles one by one in a relay. What do you think? I wonder if it's going to work. It's better than nothing. We should have faith and try it out. I confirmed the time on my watch. It's just past 6 p.m. There is still some time before we can use the shower. It's quiet in the hall. The other detectives, including Yukimura, have also locked themselves in their rooms. They are either taking shelter from the cold or they are thinking about their next move. Kadomi poured out the contents of the pet bottle earlier. Maybe it was preparations before shower time. Or perhaps he was testing to see what would happen if he poured refrigerator-cooled water, which is warmer than the hall's atmosphere, over the ice pillar. I sat on the bed. It's a simple steel tube bed. There is no headboard nor backrest. There is only one blanket on it. It seems that this game is also a battle against the cold. After that, before 10 o'clock, we carefully surveyed the room, then rested on the bed, and time passed. After 9:30 before shower time, a mechanical voice from somewhere sounded in the hall. 30 minutes until hall lockdown. Kirigiri and I stopped eating snacks and looked at each other in dismay. Hall lockdown. Everyone, please stay in your rooms until the next morning. The mechanical voice finished after repeating the same instruction 3 times. Then Yukimura rushed into the room in a panic. Did you hear that just now? Why, yes. I nodded. No going out to the hall after 10 p.m., is that what it meant? It seems so. As expected of Shinsen, the precautionary measures are also well done. There are still 30 minutes left, and it looks very difficult to get the box within this time, so the competition will be reserved for tomorrow. Yukimura-san, haven't you given up yet? I will naturally take what I can get my hands on. But what's more important right now is to hold on to the cash in front of me. While keeping an eye on Kadomi and Yuhane, I will claim the treasure if I have the chance. But I won't force it. After all, there is still a place I have to go back to. A place to go back to. Yes, her family is still waiting for her. Unlike me and Kirigiri. Of course, Kirigiri also has a family, but as long as she is being haunted by the ghost of Shinsen, she will never go back. At least that's what she is thinking. If Kirigiri's guess is correct, the key to unlock the handcuffs would be in that box. We need to get that first. Then, I will sleep in my room until tomorrow morning. I don't want to say it anymore, but you girls have to be careful. Let's all leave here with a smile tomorrow. Yukimura waved and walked out of the room. Lockdown until morning. The shower tactic failed. Kirigiri said. Ah, that's right. If the hall is locked at 10 o'clock, we can't use the shower on the ice pillar. That means we can only wait in our rooms until early morning. Nothing to do until morning. The night is the perpetrator's turn, so there must be something prepared. Kirigiri said and sat on the bed, then suddenly hugged me. I supported her rag doll-like body. She remained in this position, silent. What's wrong? Kirigiri-chan. I'm hearing the footsteps of the Shinigami. Since this morning, the anxiety in my heart has not subsided. She leaned on my chest and said. It's alright, you've been fine so far. That proves that Kirigiri-chan has already tamed the Shinigami. It isn't your enemy anymore. I don't want to leave it like this. But, as she was mumbling to herself, I embraced her, warming her ice-cold body. We were like that, and a few more minutes passed. Then shortly after, the broadcast sounded again. 5 minutes until hall lockdown. Everyone, please wait in your rooms until the next morning. In addition, if the rules are not followed, the self-destruction procedure will be activated. What? Self-destruction procedure? So that the game will continue when all the handcuffed members are in their respective rooms for the rest of the night. Kirigiri raised her head and said, "It's almost time for me to go back to my room." Kirigiri left my side and got up from the bed. Without saying a word, she moved to the door. Kirigiri-chan. I stopped her from behind. See you tomorrow. Yui-1-sama. She turned her head and just stood there. I approached her and kissed her forehead. I will protect you. After I said that, she looked up at me in disbelief. And, you see, even if we are separated, your left hand is connected to me like this. 3 minutes until hall lockdown. Everyone, please stay in your rooms until the next morning. In addition, if the rules are not followed, the self-destruction procedure will be activated. Yui-1-sama, let's make sure to go back together from here. Kirigiri left those words and walked out of the room. It's time for the hall lockdown. Everyone, good night. It is 10 p.m. At the same time, there was the sound of the door being locked. I tried to open the door, but it didn't budge. I am alone again. The self-destruction procedure doesn't seem to be activated. What will happen if we don't listen to the broadcast? I don't really want to think about it. Looking out the window. The field of vision became blank at some point, and the wind is howling. The lock of the window can be opened smoothly. When I tried to open the window, fine snow blew to my face. It is possible to go out. But if we are tied together by handcuffs, we can't leave the hall too far. Even if we are not, it would be dangerous to walk out to a snowy forest. We are locked in these small rooms. I closed the window and looked for the window of the next room that should be visible across the snowstorm. There is Kirigiri's room. Maybe Kirigiri, like me, is looking for me from across the snowstorm. Kirigiri-chan. Tomorrow morning, we will see each other as usual, right? I went into the bathroom and turned on the faucet. Cold water came out at first, but it quickly turned into hot water. I touched warmth after a long absence, and I couldn't help but get emotional. I sat on the edge of the bedroom space, barefoot, and let my feet soak in hot water first. Immediately, white steam began to appear around me. So warm's just the thing to make me overwhelmed with happiness. The whole bathroom warmed up a little because of the steam. If I leave the hot water like this, I could avoid freezing from the cold while waiting for morning to come. I went back to the bed and laid on my back. When I unconsciously wanted to move the pillow, I found that I couldn't do that. The pillow and blanket are a one piece and cannot be moved. Everything here is fixed in place. To keep the blanket from falling, the blanket was nailed on both sides of the bed and on the side where the feet are. When sleeping, it is necessary to let the body through the opening. If I think of it as a sleeping bag, it doesn't seem that bad. The wind was whistling. The sound gradually turned into a voice calling me. It's like a cry of grief, a cry for help. Tears flowed out naturally from my eyes. Looking back, I noticed that I would often cry while sleeping. It started from that day, from the day my sister was kidnapped. I believe my sister asked me for help from inside the kidnapper's vehicle. While being beaten by the perpetrator, I did hear her voice in my hazy consciousness. Tears naturally flowed out. I was forced to make a decision. I knew if I didn't make a decision there, everything would be lost. I dried my tears and stood up. No time to hesitate. I have to do it. One thing I should do. Stabbing them to death with this knife. No hesitation. And then I stabbed someone. This vivid touch is not a figment of imagination. It's reality. I stabbed them. I stabbed someone. I stabbed a person. What am I doing? Why would I do such a thing? I looked down at the blood on my hands. This, without a doubt, is human blood. I did it. Is this a dream? The smell of blood. The knife that stabbed their body. My hands are trembling. No doubt this is reality. If only it's a dream. But what is to come next will be a nightmare. 1. It's time for the hall to open. Good morning, everyone. 7 a.m. After 3 repeats of the broadcast, the door to the room was unlocked. At the same time, I hurried to the hall. As if she calculated the time, Kirigiri came out of the room next to mine. As soon as we saw each other's faces, we rushed over and hugged each other tightly. Kirigiri's body is ice cold, like it has been seeped in by the night itself. Her face is no better, with thick dark spots under her eyes. You don't look like you slept well. Yui-1-sama smells so good. Did you use shampoo? Ah, yeah. I wish they at least got us a hairdryer. After one night, the appearance of the hall changed slightly. The walls and floors are lightly frosted down to the patio. Maybe it's because the temperature has changed since we entered the building. It suddenly became a world of pure white ice. Whoa, it's so cold. After getting used to the warmth of the room, the hall is terribly cold. I checked the thermometer in the cabinet. It's minus 10 degrees like yesterday. The temperature was maintained to a certain extent. The ice pillar, which is the center of the problem, is also covered in frost and lost its transparency. The hole that we spent time digging has changed back to almost its original state. I've had enough of this ice pillar. It's still better than a gunfight. Kirigiri shrugged. The one who came out of his room after us was Yuhane. The hem of his imposing coat fluttered as he held up the picture frame he is carrying to us. Good morning, gentlemen. I know it's sudden, but I thought of a way to conquer the ice pillar. Oh? Yeah, right. I responded dubiously. No, it's possible for one person to do it, but it's more efficient if everyone worked together. I'm pretty sure it's the ideal answer that the organization has arranged. What do you think? Do you want to follow my plan? If so, whose property is that box? Of course it's mine. After all, I'm the one who came up with the plan. Isn't that simply forced labor? Not really. If I can claim the inheritance, I'll let you be the secretaries of the Detective King. No, it's fine. I replied instantly. Speaking of which, what does the Detective King mean? The one who rules over all detectives is the Detective King. Shinsen was the man who came closest to that. Unfortunately, he died in the middle of his ambition. You don't really want to be Shinsen too, do you? No, as a detective, I have little to agree with his sense of aesthetics. What I found interesting in him is his taste as an artist. Take a look at this bizarre pavilion. You have seen his other works, right? They are works of art, double helixes of architectural beauty and technical functionality. Yuhane seemed excited and rambled while holding the frame in all directions. But the way he uses this overflowing taste is horribly wrong. He's not fit to be a king. The Crime Victims Relief Committee? It is the pinnacle of stupidity, the ultimate waste, a daydream of an unqualified commoner trying to paint unreachable clouds. However, I can meaningfully absorb and transform these works of art he left behind. These buildings should not exist for criminals, but for detectives. I want to use his inheritance in buildings as the foundation of a detective organization. And then I, Yuhane Kanji, will build the detective kingdom that the world craves. Yuhane delivered his speech impassionedly with dramatic movements. It was really bad. But it's not like he's showing us his true self either. If you want to journey with me to the future that I have depicted, you can now. So, what do you two think? Yuhane reached out to us. I've also thought of a way to take out the box. As if shaking off that hand, Kirigiri turned her back to him and said, "Oh, then can you let me hear about that method?" Kirigiri-chan, don't say it. I know. After Kirigiri closed her mouth, Yuhane showed a painful expression. Could it be that he didn't think of a method at all? Anyway, let's wait for Yukimura-san to wake up first. I walked away from my spot to drive away the cold and suddenly noticed. There are traces of my footsteps left on the floor. Because of the frost, the floor became a thin snowfield. Looking around, the footprints of Kirigiri and Yuhane were also left behind. On the other hand, there are no footprints around Yukimura and Kadomi's rooms. In contrast, what was left on the floor are traces that resembled chains being dragged. One end of it is of course attached to my right wrist. If I move to a large extent, the chain will also move. Then a few minutes passed. It was so cold in the hall that waiting quickly became painful. I finally got anxious and walked to Yukimura's room. She won't get angry if I wake her up, right? Yeah. Kirigiri replied with her arms crossed. More than that, I have a bad feeling. Those words made the air freeze. I knocked on the door. Yet there was no reply. Yukimura-san? I'm opening the door. The door is not locked. I opened it with a gentle push. Yukimura is in the bed. She is asleep with the blanket over her chest. Feet towards the door, head towards the window, in a slightly sideways position with her eyes closed. By just looking at her, you can't notice anything other than that she is sleeping peacefully. But at a glance we knew she is dead. A horn-like foreign object is stuck in her right shoulder. It's a knife. Looking only at the part outside the body, it is only about 15 centimeters, which is not that big of a blade. While Yuhane and I were speechless at the door, Kirigiri approached Yukimura cautiously and put her finger on her neck. Confirmed dead. No temperature left. No temperature left. That sentence pierced my chest and made my heart freeze. How could? Yukimura-san, she. I was doing my best to even utter those words. Is it suicide? Yuhane asked. No. If it's suicide, the hand holding the knife would have been exposed outside the blanket, but both of her hands are well inside the blanket. Kirigiri said. Also, even if she wanted to commit suicide, it's strange that she stabbed herself in the shoulder. There are more deadly places too. Ara, what? Is there a corpse? Suddenly a voice came from behind us. It was Kadomi. It took time to put my makeup on. So, the dead is that sassy mother? My condolences. Wonder what's gonna happen to the children she left behind. Kadomi said in a joking tone as he entered the room. I glanced at him coldly, condemning his indifference. He laughed out loud and muddled through. Doesn't look like suicide. The knife only stabbed a few centimeters into the body, and the bleeding wasn't that serious. She wouldn't die from this, so the cause of death must be something else. Besides, there's no blood on the face. There are no signs of resistance or a struggle. Toxin then? Kadomi skillfully examines the body. It wasn't unexpected. He is a number 9 who specializes in murder cases after all. There is a high probability that the knife was smeared with poison. Kirigiri took the black piece of paper out of her pocket and showed it to Kadomi. It is the challenge letter of the Black Challenge. Kadomi folded his arms and looked at it. Caradoxin, scorpion venom, huh? You've got some bogus stuff for us. He said so, leaning closer to the window and opening the curtains. This window's locked. What about that one? Kirigiri opened the curtain on the other side. The lock over there is indeed locked. This way, the locks on both sides of the equilateral triangle are locked. There are no footprints on the snow. Kirigiri looked outside and said. Here too. Kadomi said. So there we have it, a locked room murder mystery. Yuhane said from the door without entering the room. There is no sign of an in or out through the window. The door was also locked from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. No one should have entered this room. Not so sure about that. Kadomi replied with his arms crossed. After all, this is a game created by Shinsen. The perp. Might have been given the privilege of using a master key, which means they can enter and leave the rooms at will. No, that's impossible. With reference to Shinsen's sense of aesthetics, this approach is not fair. Yuhane objected. Shut up, old man. There's no reason to obey rules made by a dead man. I agree with Yuhane-san's opinion. I interrupted without thinking. Using a master key to open locked rooms to kill is not a challenging mystery to the detective. If this murder is still related to the organization, we should consider it to be a puzzle game with a solution. Ryuzoji Geka said the same thing before. The Black Challenge is fundamentally based on fair rules. What I like in Shinsen is his spirit of fairness and impartiality. Ha, you're fools. You think there's stuff like fairness in this world? Are you two fellow members of the organization? Aren't you supporting the killer? That's... You think it was a technique? Can you argue with me how this woman was killed? That's what detectives naturally can do. I said angrily. However, Kadomi just snorted with his nose. You didn't do anything till this woman was killed. You don't deserve to be called a detective at this point. Wrong. Although I thought so in my heart, I couldn't find any words to refute it at all. There is zero chance of the killer using a master key to get into the room. Kirigiri, who had been silent for a while, opened her mouth. We fell silent for a moment as if we had been splashed by cold water and looked at the little detective. Ha? How are you so sure? Kadomi frowned and questioned Kirigiri. There is frost on the floor, so if you enter or leave the room you will definitely leave a trail. But until we entered this room, there was no footprint in front of the door. Therefore, whether the perpetrator has a master key or not, it should be safe to say that no one came in or out of the room. Sorry, but I can't buy that logic. You don't know when the frost was formed on the floor, do you? Maybe the crime was committed before the frost. Or even if it was after the frost could have reappeared after the crime and covered the killer's footprints. Don't you agree? Indeed, as Kadomi said, we can't be sure when the frost started to appear and when it completely covered the floor. When it comes to snow footprints, things like when it started to snow, when it stopped, and how much fell are often important conditions, but the frost in the hall cannot be accurately determined. That's true. The timing of the frosting cannot be accurately deduced. Kirigiri admitted bluntly. See? Don't get carried away, little brat. Even if both our numbers start with 9, the winner's already decided from the rank numbers. Now, don't you ever poke your nose in my business again. Even so, I can still assert that the killer did not enter or leave the room through the door. Kirigiri's vigor was unabated and drew closer to Kadomi. Kadomi grabbed Kirigiri's front lapel. I quickly inserted myself between the two of them. A total of 6 chains interlocked, and it felt like they were about to be entangled. Whatever. You can talk me about it. How do you know the perp didn't use the door to get in and out of this room? The answer is simple. And it is because I monitored it all night. Facing Kirigiri's answer, Kadomi was silent for a while, as if paralyzed. Monitored it all night? From where? How? I asked instead of Kadomi. Just by peering into the hall from my room. The crime scene is diagonally in front of my own room, so if anyone came in or out, I would have noticed them. Even if you say so, how did you do it? There is no gap in the door. There are holes for the handcuff chains to pass through, correct? Kirigiri pointed at the door. The design of a chain is such that no matter how small you make the hole, there will always be a gap. It's from that gap that I peered into the hall as if it's a keyhole. But monitoring all night? Yes. The perpetrator was aware of that, of course. If they were found doing suspicious activities, they would have been identified immediately. But I've got to say, I regret that I could only do that much. And in the end, a victim still appeared. Kirigiri lowered her head with sadness. Who can blame her? She was in a battle with loneliness all night long. That must be the reason why her face is not looking good. She stood up straight and faced the case. A load of bullshit. Kadomi said contemptuously. Monitoring the hall from that little hole all night? Unbelievable. The night was 9 full hours. At these words, Kirigiri just nodded slightly. Kadomi clicked his tongue, not knowing if he has given up on retorting, and walked away from us. Even so, Yuhane said, looking around the room. How did the perpetrator enter this room and where did they get out from if not through the door? They must have come in and out of the window. Kadomi said impatiently. But aren't the windows locked from the inside? Then there is only one conclusion. The perpetrator is still in this room, right? In a perfunctory tone. But that was an unexpected answer. If we consider the possibility of the existence of a third party other than us, an external criminal, then it isn't impossible. Looking around. The closet, under the bed, in the bathroom, all are places where the perpetrator can hide. That's not possible. No, it's too early to say that. Yuhane suddenly looked nervous and said. It's not surprising if there are others who have the same goal as us with Shinsen's inheritance. The uninvited guest found that he couldn't enter the building through the main entrance, so they forced their way in through the window. Then, they killed Yukimura, and now they are watching us with bated breath. Like, here. Yuhane opened the door of the closet. But it's empty and no one is there. Maybe here? He laid on the floor, peering under the bed. There is no one there either. After that, we walked around the room. But whether in the bathroom, in the bed, or in the astronomical telescope, there was no one hiding inside. No perpetrator, how is this possible? Yuhane said with a shaken look. Since there are no footprints left outside the window, it already means there is no possibility of a third party intruding through the window, right? I said. I doubt that. Kadomi said with a deep smile, if the wind was strong, it could have erased the footprints quickly, yeah? Yes, there was indeed an intense snowstorm last night, and it was almost impossible to see outside. Yep. Kadomi said indifferently and moved to the door. He picked up what was dropped there. A pet bottle of mineral water. About half of it is left inside, and the lid is properly closed. I also noticed it from the beginning. After entering the room, that bottle immediately rolled against the wall to the left. At first, I thought it was just junk. What's the problem with that? Yuhane asked. This plastic bottle's been dumped there since you came in? Ah, that's right. Kadomi laughed after hearing this. Aha, I see. I know who did it. Oh, this feels good. It's like I became a detective just for this moment. You know who the perpetrator is? I tilted my head in shock. Emma started accusing right away. You might be thinking I'm hasty, but we still have to figure out a way to solve the ice pillar problem. So we better end this one soon. Hey, Kirigiri-chan. What that man just said. I whispered close to Kirigiri's ear. What do you think? Kirigiri-chan, do you still not know who the culprit is? Yes, not yet. All right. This big window. It's about the size of 2 tatami mats, 3.24 square meters or 24.9 square feet. The lock's on the inside of the room, and it's the half-moon type of lock that's opened by rod in the handle. The handle's vertical when it's locked, and rotates horizontally to open. Using a clock as an analogy, 6 o'clock's when it's locked, and 3 o'clock's when it's unlocked. Kadomi demonstrated with the innermost window on the right side of the room. The window on the left, like the axis symmetry of an isosceles triangle, is just reversed left to right. That means the handle is still at 6 when it's locked, but the unlocked position changed to 9. If you try to open it and have a look. Kadomi said and opened the window. The window doesn't slide horizontally, but is pivoted at a point like a door, and will open when pushed. If it's fully open, there will be enough of a gap for a person to go in and out. The design of the window is clear at a glance. Is it necessary to explain it in such detail? Yuhane interjected. Then Kadomi threw the pet bottle in his hand at Yuhane with all his strength. Because there is still a little water in the bottle, it hit Yuhane on the forehead with considerable momentum. I hate when people say unnecessary stuff while I explain. Understand? If you do, then return the plastic bottle to me. It's important evidence. If it's something important, don't throw it away. I thought so, but didn't say it, since I don't know what will be thrown at me. Yuhane rubbed his forehead, picked up the pet bottle and threw it back to Kadomi. I'm explaining it carefully so that idiots like you can understand. Just keep your mouth shut and listen. Kadomi said this, and then closed the window again. Now, when the body was found, the windows on both sides were locked. This is a fact, yeah? I nodded affirmatively. The possibility of the perp entering and exiting through the door is very low. In other words, we can only assume that the perp used the window. So, how did the perp make this locked room murder work? The key to solving this mystery is this. Kadomi spun the pet bottle upwards and then caught it. It's a very ordinary pet bottle. Why would that be the key to cracking the locked room mystery? I'll explain in order. Kadomi sat on the bed and crossed his legs. The perp approached the room from the outside in the middle of the night under cover of darkness and snow. Of course at that time, the windows were locked and they couldn't get in. So the perp knocked on the window from the outside and called the woman inside the room. With his thumb, Kadomi pointed to Yukimura, who was lying on the bed. Her mouth is closed and said nothing. It's no longer possible for her to ever speak. A strange guy suddenly appearing outside the window would startle anyone. But in the end, this woman still let him in. Yukimura herself let the perpetrator in? Is this even plausible? I don't know what kind of quarrel happened between the perp and this woman, but this is a black challenge. The perp must have had a grudge against this woman because of some incident. In any case, for whatever reason, the perp stabbed the woman. Kadomi acted like he was stabbing a knife at Yukimura. The actual knife is still stuck there. Then, next is explaining the locked room escape technique. Kadomi said with gleaming eyes. First, take a closer look at the handle of the window I just explained. Kadomi got up from the bed and stood in front of the window again, holding the handle of the window lock. If you want to open the window, you must first rotate the handle to the horizontal and then push it open. Kadomi opened the window as explained. What would happen if I let go of the handle at this time? Kadomi demonstrated. The handle lost its support and turned back to the vertical direction due to its own weight. From the 3 o'clock position back to the 6 o'clock position. The shaft of the handle is very loose. So, if you don't support it with your hand, it'll automatically return to its original state. Isn't that what they call an automatic lock? Yuhane said. Unfortunately, if this is the case, then there's no lock room from the beginning. This handle will fall back automatically when you let it go, regardless of whether the window's open or closed. So, for example, if the perp tried to close the window after going out, the lock part will get stuck and won't close. If it is an automatic lock, the handle should only turn freely when the window is closed. Is this caused by a simple malfunction, or was it originally designed to be looser? But if the perp knew about this, then the lock room is solved. They only needed to fix the handle's position once, and not let it turn back. At that time, the perp noticed this plastic bottle. Next, Kadomi clamped the pet bottle to the handle. After doing this, the handle was held in place horizontally. I'm sure you got it now. The perp made a simple automatic lock out of this plastic bottle. With it in this state, they closed the window forcefully. Kadomi slammed the window shut. Due to the impact, the pet bottle that was clamped loosened and fell to the floor. The unsupported handle then became vertical and locked the window. This completes the lock room, Kadomi said while clapping his hands. Beneath the window, the pet bottle fell to the ground. When we found the body, the pet bottle wasn't under the window, but near the entrance of the room. I offered my opinion with wariness. Although I thought there might be something else thrown over, I couldn't help but say. It must have rolled over there, it just happened it didn't roll there this time. Just happened? From the position of the window lock to the entrance of the room, there is a distance of nearly 6 meters. Can a pet bottle drop from that height really roll that far? Anyway, this narrows down the list of suspects. The perp wasn't from outside, but from inside of that is, among us. How can you be so sure? Logic, obviously. Kadomi continued proudly. No matter how stupid this woman was, she wouldn't have let someone she didn't know into the room. So, did a third person, an acquaintance from long ago and unknown to us, come to visit her? If so, who would ever come this late at night, walking through the woods in the middle of a snowstorm? That's insanity. Indeed. So, the first checkbox for the perp is they are from inside. The second checkbox is this. Kadomi raised his arm and wiggled his wrist. The chain of the handcuffs rattled. The handcuffs? Yeah. All of us are chained together. The perp's no exception. Think about it, if the perp has the privilege of removing handcuffs freely, then the perp would have just directly used the master key to enter the room through the door. But the perp didn't do that, and deliberately chose the window to enter and exit. That means, we should consider that there's no perp's privilege. In other words, the perp's also chained. Wait a minute. Kirigiri Shoujo monitored the hall all night, didn't she? It could be that the perpetrator didn't use the privilege to avoid being witnessed by her. Yuhane said. You moron. There's no way this kid monitored all night. No matter how careful she was. Sure. Back to topic. The perp's also in the same state as us. The perp's second checkbox is that they are a person within the chain's reach of the crime scene. If they went out the window, they had to walk a considerable distance to approach the crime scene. In this case, we can exclude the 2 persons in the rooms far from the crime scene. Conversely, the perp is limited to the 2 persons in the rooms adjacent to the crime scene. The 2 adjacent to the crime scene. That would be Kadomi and me. And now you have your answer. Kadomi pointed at me. You're the culprit. For a split second, after the time-stopping silence, all I felt was stares piercing my body like needles. Kadomi's gaze, who regarded me as the perpetrator, the surprised and shocked one from Yuhane, and Kirigiri's, who was just looking at me with no emotion. Wait a minute, why me? I quickly protested. Indeed, from the location of Yukimura-san's room, it is understandable that Kirigiri-chan and Yuhane-san can't reach the crime scene. But if I can commit the crime, so do you, Kadomi-san. Ha? I know I'm not the perp. So you're the perp. That doesn't count. Please prove that you are not the criminal logically. Fine. Kadomi raised the corner of his mouth proudly. You see, this woman let the perp in the room herself, right? Think about it. Do you think this woman would have let me into the room? There is no room for rebuttal. There was no way Yukimura would have let Kadomi into her room. Especially in the middle of the night. And there was a snowstorm outside. So, Kadomi suddenly appearing out of the window, it would induce nothing but horror? She wouldn't have just been alert, she would have never let him in. It's been decided. She's the culprit. Kadomi pointed at me with his index finger. You had a good relationship with the dead woman. You only had to say a sympathetic line from outside the window for her to let you into the room, yeah? And no. I'm not the killer. You say you're not the killer, prove it logically then. Kadomi scoffed. Just like a curse, the words I just said were returned at me. Proof I'm not the killer. I have to say something. Something. If this goes on, I will really be regarded as the killer. All right. Footprints. I suddenly recalled and blurted out. There aren't any footprints on the snow outside the window. If I walked outside, I should have left footprints. It was you who said there was a big snowstorm last night. The snowstorm erased all the footprints. Yeah? What, didn't we start our reasoning on this premise? You really think you can prove you aren't the perp? Kadomi sarcastically said. No way, I can't argue against that. I looked in Kirigiri's direction as if seeking help. Kirigiri shrugged her shoulders and let out a soft sigh. Yui-wan-sama is not the perpetrator. Kirigiri spoke up. Kirigiri-chan. Oh, right. Then can you prove that your One-sama is not the perpetrator? Of course. Kirigiri took out the tape measure from her pocket. By using this. What does that mean? Simple calculation problem. I measured the chain on the handcuffs and it's about 20 meters. From this length we can conclude that Yui-wan-sama couldn't reach the crime scene. Huh? The crime scene's adjacent, yeah? The windows are right next to each other. 20 meters are enough. No, the length is not enough. Kirigiri approached the bed and pulled Yukimura's left arm out from under the blanket. A part of the chain that extends from the handcuffs fell to the floor with a clank. The chain is 20 meters and connects to the handcuff on my right hand. Yui-wan-sama and the victim are sharing this chain. Kirigiri grabbed the chain and said, now then, let's measure the length of the chain from the victim's left wrist to the entrance of this room. Kirigiri extended the tape and accurately measured the length of the chain. About 3 meters. To simplify things, we can omit the numbers after the decimal point. There's still 17 meters. Kadomi said impatiently while putting his hands on his hips. That's right. Incidentally, the central hall is a regular pentagon with a side length of 4 meters. Knowing this, and then calculating it, you will know that it's impossible for Yui-Sama to commit the crime. I see. Indeed, no doubt. Yuhane said convincingly. He is very picky about architecture, and he may have grasped the approximate distance from the design. What do you mean? Kadomi tilted his head. As measured just now, the length of the chain in the room is 3 meters. Then the chain extending to the hall will be at least 3 meters long when it reaches the adjacent room of Yui-Sama. This is the length of the chain when it is taut. Then 6 meters from the entrance of Yui-Sama's room door to the window, which adds up to 12 meters in total. 8 meters left. In that case, it'll be enough to reach the next room, right? No. In this star-shaped building, the distance between the vertices of adjacent triangles is about 10 meters. The remaining 8 meters of chains are still 2 meters short. Roughly calculated, Yui-Sama wouldn't have even reached the window of the next room. If she wanted to stab the victim with the knife, she would have needed a few more meters. Huh? Is that calculation really correct? Kadomi cast his eyes at Yuhane, seeking an answer. Yuhane nodded silently. Then what about this plastic bottle? Isn't it just a leftover drink? Yuhane said. I can't deny the possibility that it was used to lock the window. Kirigiri shook her head slowly. Even so, who used it? Who wanted to create this locked room mystery? Since it's not your One-sama, it can't be someone else. No one can reach here with their chains intact. Then we have to conclude that the perpetrator is not one of us. Yuhane crossed his arms, his face heavy. Could it be an outsider? Kadomi said in a low voice as if on guard. A rival, we have to suspect the existence of a third party. At least we know that person is an acquaintance of Yukimura, and it's a relationship that let them in the room through the window in the middle of the night. You too, can you think of anything? Yuhane asked Kirigiri and me. Well, I remembered the fact that Yukimura's ex-husband is a police officer, but I didn't dare to say it. It probably has nothing to do with the case. Maybe a teammate who was gunning for the inheritance. Yuhane said. Yukimura may have been communicating with her partners without our knowledge. If it's this woman, it's possible. Kadomi agreed. Anyway, it's not uncommon to break up over inheritance distribution. They simply stabbed her and ran away with everything got. I don't think that's true. I whispered, without basis. Just a judgment based purely on impressions. There is not a single bundle of bills missing from the refrigerator. Kirigiri said. If it's for the money distribution, it would have been a priority for them to escape with the banknotes. On the contrary, it's not that the perp didn't take the cash, but that they failed to take M. What do you mean? Yuhane asked. The crime happened in the middle of the night under a snowstorm. Even if they stole the money, it'd be impossible to escape from the forest. It's like committing suicide, so the perp decided to temporarily give up the money and lurk. They must be hiding nearby even now. They want to steal the money while we're not paying attention. I took a sharp look around. The tension in the air multiplied because of the sudden presence of the inheritance thief, and the claim that the culprit is a third party is quite credible. If they hid, then Building B is their best bet. At least they can withstand the cold there. That's it. We should be able to see Building B from the window of my room. Let's go check it out. Kadomi and Yuhane's eyes changed and darted out of the room. I stayed in the room with Kirigiri and Yukimura's body. Kirigiri-chan. Thank you just now for helping me clear my name. I was just conveying the facts and numbers. Kirigiri said coldly. More than that. I'm frustrated. Another person was killed, a life that I could have saved. Kirigiri's small fists clenched tightly. I hugged her and patted her back. I was saved by you. Yui-Sama. Kirigiri whispered. The chains will get tangled. Ah, sorry. I left Kirigiri while paying attention to the handcuffs on my hands. Even so, is it correct to think that an outsider is involved? We can't tell yet. Then, the idea that the perpetrator is hiding in Building B is not necessarily wrong. There was an extra person in the case that happened last time here. When we left the room, Kirigiri quietly closed the door, as if to not wake up the sleeping person inside. Maybe that's her manners to the dead. I suddenly remembered the existence of the floor trap door. Ah, the entrance to the underground passage is open from the other side. If the perpetrator is hiding in Building B, can't they invade from there? I don't know. I think since we put the handcuffs on, it should have been locked to prevent outsiders from entering. But if they can invade. Kadomi and Yuhane returned. Ah, so you noticed too? The perp might have already invaded here while we were distracted by the corpse. Kadomi said anxiously. Perhaps that's why the woman was killed in the first place. That can't be. I was stunned. You know what that means? Right now, we'll thoroughly investigate this building, find the uninvited guest and teach Em a lesson. It's better to check whether the money has been stolen first. Yuhane said. My money is fine, by the way. Then we split up and checked the hall separately. I remember searching around for the hidden criminal like this before. It's a nostalgic memory. Looking back on it now, I am amazed that Kirigiri and I were able to survive without hurting each other. But what will happen this time? After investigating the 5 rooms, no perpetrator was found anywhere, and the banknotes in the refrigerators did not decrease at all. That being said, the possibility of an outsider has not disappeared. Rather, according to the current situation, this possibility is still very high. Those inside are all held in chains. We couldn't have killed Yukimura while chained together. We put an empty pet bottle on the trapdoor so that we can know immediately that someone outside has entered the building through the underground passage. As soon as the door is opened, the pet bottle will fall over and make a sound. That's our plan. A pet bottle standing alone. If this symbolizes the conclusion we will reach, it is a far cry from the heaviness of Yukimura's death. 2. Due to the confusion of the events and the search for the perpetrator, it was already past noon when we came back to our senses. I'm hungry. Kadomi sat in the corner of the hall, clutching his stomach. If I had known this would happen, I'd have brought a barbecue set. We brought bread and snacks and such. I said. I wanted to ignore him, but I don't have the heart to do so. Really? You're not very clever. I shared the food and drinks that Kirigiri and I brought in the hall. There is not much left. Assuming we have to stay here till the time limit of the Black Challenge, it means that we will be locked here for 6 more days. Even if we don't die from starvation, we will be in a pretty bad state. You even prepared drinking water? You girls are pretty cautious. Because of a painful experience. I drank the water in the fridge. It was a bad idea, wasn't it? Is there anything unusual about your body? Now that I think about it, I was really sleepy. Seriously, that 10 o'clock broadcast? When I heard that, I was already half asleep. Is that so? Sleeping pills. Maybe it was luck that you didn't get killed last night. Kirigiri said. How dare you say that, brat? Don't you have respect for your seniors? Empty the pet bottles and fill it with water from the shower at night. If you do this, you won't be troubled over not having water to drink. Fucking brat. Kadomi raised his middle finger at Kirigiri. Come on, now is not the time to be laid back. Yuhane said. Shouldn't we continue working? So that we won't be overtaken by the rival who hasn't shown up yet? What kind of work? Kadomi stood up while biting into the bread. What are you here for? Isn't it to claim Shinsen's inheritance? Even if you say that, there's nothing we can do. Or what? Have you made up your mind to burn money? Then you can use yours first. No, we can think of a more effective method than that. Yuhane winked at Kirigiri. It's almost time to start, isn't it? What you do is your business. I interjected. Kirigiri-chan and I have no interest in the inheritance. It's just that we can't get out of here if we don't get that box. We will work at our own pace. Isn't that all the more reason for the whole team to work together? You get to go back early, and I get to claim the inheritance. It's best for everybody. Where do I fit in? Yuhane complained in a low voice. Fight me. If you win, I'll give you the inheritance. I don't like that approach. Shut up then. Hurry up and get that box out. Okay, how are you going to break this ice? Kirigiri Shoujo, please explain. All right. Wait a minute, Kirigiri-chan. We can't let this situation continue for too long. Yui-wan-sama, let's move on for now, and the case can be solved after that. Wise judgment. Kadomi spread his hands and said. I'll explain how to retrieve the box. Kirigiri approached the ice pillar and said. Since ancient times, people use saws to cut ice. We should use a saw too. A saw? I haven't seen anything like that anywhere. I tilted my head. Oh, I don't have one in my backpack either. Yes, the saw itself doesn't exist. But there is something that can be used as a substitute. Something that can substitute a saw. It's in front of you now. Kirigiri raised a hand and wiggled her wrist from side to side. This chain. A chainsaw. Kadomi suddenly stood up and raised his voice. Damn, that's a blind spot. Chainsaw. Where is there such a thing? Yuhane asked. You're imagining an electric chainsaw, it's not that. In the list of outdoor tools, there's a manual saw called a chainsaw. A thin chain or wire with handles at both ends where the fingers go through. If you put the chain close to the wood and pull it back and forth quickly, you can use friction to cut. It's also called a wire saw. Kadomi quickly explained. So it's no different from a regular thread saw? It's completely different, you daft or something? Thread saws have thread only in the name, they're actually bow-shaped. Since chains are valid too, then we can use these chains and handcuffs as a saw substitute. Kirigiri said. So if we stick this chain on the ice pillar and rub it back and forth, we can cut it like a saw? When I asked Kirigiri that, she nodded. The chains of the handcuffs being compared to the teeth of a saw. This is an unusual idea. However, to escape from this abnormal game, maybe such a strange flash of ingenuity is needed. Let's try it now. Yuhane stood up. Please wait a moment. I also want to hear about the method that Yuhane-san has. The idea is exactly the same as yours, Kirigiri Shoujo. Is that so? Then, let's use this chain. The chain linking Kadomi's right hand and Yuhane's left hand. We held the chain horizontally close to the ice pillar and adjusted the position while stretching it from left to right. On one side is Kadomi, and I held the other. Next, by pulling the chain back and forth in a tug-of-war manner, friction was generated at the point of contact with the ice pillar. After several attempts, the ice pillar was indeed chipped off a bit. Although the two people who are working on it need to coordinate the rhythm, it's still more efficient than digging with a screwdriver. So that's it. This chain binds us but also is an item for the strategy. Kadomi stopped pulling and said. So we really can get the box. But it will take time, and there is also a problem of physical strength. In this cold, there is no way we can work for so long. I'll just tell you now to avoid future disputes, I'm talking that box. Wait a minute. That's not what I... While he was talking, Yuhane's head ate a roundhouse kick from Kadomi. It was fast like a flash. Yuhane turned into a rag and spread on the ground. I listened to your advice, I used the leg without the holster this time. Please stop being violent. I protested. I'll stop helping if there's a dispute around the inheritance. What? You want to take a nap too? I don't mind that, I'll have the other brat help. You want to claim all the inheritance to yourself. That's what I've always asserted. Why would you go to such lengths to get Shinsen's inheritance? I've already told you. I want to dominate the world. I've been used so many times by others in the past, so I want to get back at them. You privileged folks can never even imagine what a life of being dominated by others looks like. Have you ever been in prison for someone else's crime? I was in prison for 5 years. 5 years. But don't you have the talent of a recognized number zero? You obviously have such talent, so why? What's this, irony? Well, it's a mystery why I have a detective talent. But I finally realized that with this talent, I can be on the dominant side. After knowing the existence of this Shinsen guy. You also have your life corrupted by Shinsen? You'll get it eventually. If you have power, you can dominate others. I want to claim Shinsen's inheritance and use the organization for my own selfish interests. Oh, now I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, you can't become a new Shinsen. Nothing compares to his bottomless madness. Huh? Kadomi tilted his head and looked at my face. It was as if he was looking for Shinsen in my eyes. Yui-wan-sama, let's go back to our room. Kirigiri pulled at the hem of my coat. Wait, it's time for a shift change, kiddos. I'll go back to my room to rest, you two better get to work. Kadomi said while carrying snacks to his room. This guy. There's no need to worry about him, let's take out the box and escape from here as soon as possible. Yeah. Kirigiri and I started cutting the ice pillar with the chain that connects us. It was easier to do than when I was doing it with Kadomi. Since it is a collaborative work, it's probably easier to work with someone you are comfortable with. Although reluctant, I gradually began to enjoy this work. Yuhane-san, are you okay? Are you still alive? He is still breathing. Even so, it's so cold. You will gradually warm up if you keep moving your body like this. It's going to be spring soon. Cherry blossoms. I wonder if we will see it. Are you fond of it? No, I have hardly ever seen it, because I'm abroad most of the time. Let's see it together this year. We can see it, together? Yep, and we can go to the beach too. We can put on yukatas together at the summer festival. It would be nice if there won't be incidents where we will go. Kirigiri said with a faint smile. This must be her own style of joke, Kirigiri-chan and me enjoying seasonal events without being involved in cases. A daily life that feels so much fun just imagining it, so fun that I want to cry. We kept cutting the ice pillar with the chain for a while after that. The results are visible, and now part of the column has begun to have a zigzag gap. However, continuing to pull on this heavy chain consumes a considerable amount of physical strength. Oh, I had a bad dream. It brought back memories of when I failed at my job and almost died. It's impossible for us to continue in such a severe situation for 6 more days. We must solve this case as soon as possible. But somewhere in my heart I'm praying. Praying that the end will not come. 3. Looking out the window, it's still snowing. Even if we are freed from the handcuffs, it's dangerous to walk back in the snow, just like the Ghost Mountain Cottage. We are imprisoned and cannot go anywhere. Kirigiri repeatedly twisted the handle of the window lock up and down. The handles are very loose. It's the same in any room. Are you still thinking about the locked room mystery? Why don't you have a little rest? I said in surprise. She ignored my words and suddenly opened the window. Snow blew in immediately. It's so cold. Do you remember what happened here before? Of course. At that time, we checked for uninvited guests by searching everywhere in the hall. Then we opened the dome of the hall and checked whether there was anyone on the roof. Ah, yes. Can you help me investigate the roof as you did then? The dome won't open, so you have to go up through this window. I don't mind. I wonder if I can. I put my foot on the window. Could it be that someone is hiding on the roof? Let's check for now. Roger that. I poked my head out of the window and looked back above my head. The edge of the roof is tens of centimeters above. I would be able to reach it if I jumped up. Be careful. As if being pushed by Kirigiri's voice from behind me, I jumped up from an unstable position. My fingers grabbed the edge, and then I lifted myself like I was doing traps. Then I put my feet on the crescent lock of the window, and finally raised my head above the roof. The roof of the room is flat and covered with snow. Looking at the direction of the hall, I can see the domed roof. Can you go up to the roof? Kirigiri asked. I can go up, but there's nothing of interest here. There is certainly no hidden person. Having said that, all I can see from my field of vision is the roof of this room now. Thank you, that's enough. Yui-1-sama. I got down from the window and went back inside. Kirigiri closed the window. It's not realistic to hide on the roof, I said while shaking my wet hands. The roof of the hall is hemispherical and has no foothold. We can see the rest of the roof from inside the rooms. The 2 adjacent rooms can be seen from the inside. The view is not very good because of the snow, and only the outline can be seen vaguely. Even so, if someone is on the roof, we should be able to see them. I think if you were lying on the roof, you wouldn't be seen from inside. Maybe there's someone hiding like this on the roof? Even if they are taking countermeasures against the cold, it's not easy to stay in the snow all the time. If we assume that someone hiding like that exists, what does that person plan to do next? Planning to invade at night? From where? The window trick won't work anymore. No one will let anyone in, so obviously they will enter through the underground passage from Building B. In that case, there is no need to stay on the roof, they can just hide in Building B. Yeah, that's also true. Speaking of which, I wonder if the trapdoor can be opened. Daytime aside, it must be locked at night, since the night broadcast said hall lockdown. True, but someone outside may not know about this, and they may think they can come in at night and are waiting. Yes. I can't say that's impossible. Kirigiri said this in a low voice, and after a moment of silence, a bitter expression appeared on her stern face. Obviously, she couldn't accept the ambiguous answer in front of her. There is no third party, is what you are thinking? I said to myself. If the culprit is an outsider, the black challenge would make no sense. It's just my impression, but the locked room technique is just a bottle to the window, right? From my experience so far, that would cost at most about 1 million, I think. But a price of 400 million is clearly written in the challenge letter, so no matter how I think about it, I feel like the worth does not match the price. That's one way to look at it. Kirigiri finally spoke. Speaking of the pet bottle, Yui-1-sama also pointed out earlier that it didn't fall under the window, but near the entrance of the room, which is very unnatural. Ah, yeah. Even if it's cylindrical, it's hard to imagine that a bottle that just fell from the window handle would roll nearly 6 meters. There is another abnormality. Eh? There was less water in the bottle. Why do you think that is? Did Yukimura-san drink from it? But Kirigiri-chan already warned her not to. You'd better not drink that. There is a high possibility of it being poisoned. Aren't you overthinking? If the bottles are poisoned, that would make the game boring. I guess she didn't believe what we told her. Yes, and do you remember? After that, Kadomi-san came out of his room while drinking water from the pet bottle and splashed the remaining water in the bottle on the ice pillar. Ah, he did. Yukimura-san saw that, and she thought the water in the pet bottles is safe. It's possible. Yukimura-san was quite daring in her behavior. I think Kadomi-san's action was originally a preparation to put the shower water into the pet bottles for use. But in the end, the hall was locked down and her plan was thwarted. It's the strategy one thought about. If Yukimura-san had drunk the water from the pet bottle, the circumstances of the case deduced up to now would change. Huh? The circumstances of the case would change? Yukimura-san's body, lying well in the blanket on the bed. Don't you think that's strange too? If the perpetrator asked Yukimura-san to open the window, then entered the room and killed her. Then the perpetrator deliberately laid her body on the bed. As you know, the bed is not just covered with a blanket, the edges of the blanket are nailed. It would be very difficult to get the body to lie under the covers. Why did the perpetrator still do that after committing the crime? Why go to such lengths? It wasn't to disguise it as a suicide, so why? The premise itself is wrong. It wasn't that the perpetrator laid Yukimura-san's body in bed, but that Yukimura-san was killed by the perpetrator while she was sleeping. What's going on? Now you understand. At the time of the incident, Yukimura-san was sleeping under the blanket because she drank water mixed with sleeping pills. Sleeping pills? I see, Kadomi-san who drank the water also said that he was unusually sleepy. So that's what happened. The challenge letter says knockout drug, probably a kind of sleeping pills. If she fell asleep because of sleeping pills, the reasoning that Yukimura-san let the perpetrator in through the window is invalid. Yes. Kirigiri nodded. But, having said that, the possibility of a perpetrator from outside cannot be completely ruled out. Why? Isn't the perpetrator unable to come in from the outside? No, for example, there could be people who came here first. What if 5 ambitious people entered the building earlier than us? They registered and entered the building, but they sensed that their lives might be in danger. They didn't handcuff themselves and just went out the window, but one of them stayed and waited for the next group of daring 5 to come. Then we showed up, and after we handcuffed ourselves, the road to the inheritance opened. You mean that person hid in the closet and killed Yukimura-san in the middle of the night? One of the possibilities. I don't think so. Because we checked the rooms to find some tools to deal with the ice pillar. Yukimura-san did the same. If someone was hiding inside, I don't think Yukimura-san would have missed it. Yes. I was overthinking again. Kirigiri raised the corners of her mouth self-mockingly. But if it's not a third party, but someone from inside, then these handcuffs are shackling that possibility. Literally shackling. I looked at my handcuffs, seeing if there is a hidden unlock switch somewhere, but there is nothing like that. Is it possible we measured the length of the chain wrong? I don't think so, probably. Kirigiri shrank her head. Do you want to measure it again? No, rather than that, how about I go straight out of the window and go to Yukimura-san's room? That way, we will know the real length. This is indeed more reliable, but it's too dangerous, and it's already dark. It's okay, leave it to me. If you want to keep moving forward, danger is unavoidable, right? I immediately opened the window and leaned out. The snowstorm immediately surrounded me. It's probably still colder in the hall, but because of the snow and wind outside, the temperature feels quite low. Then, I'll go check it out right away. Wait a minute, as it is now, you can only go forward about 1 or 2 meters at most. Eh? Why? The chain connected to me is being used by about 6 meters because I'm here. I don't get it, but Kirigiri-chan just has to stay in her room, right? That's right. Then wait in your room, I'll go there when it's over. Kirigiri nodded slightly. But she didn't look like she wanted to move. Are you worried about me? No. She denied it immediately. I'm uneasy. She is afraid. She rarely shows her weaknesses in front of others, and she expresses her feelings directly in words even less. Yet still, she couldn't help confiding to me, probably because she is now suffering from an unbearable unease that a person cannot bear. Since you're the detective this time, you'll be fine. Even so, if you are still uneasy, just call my name. I'll definitely come save you, because I'm your hero. Thank you, Yui-wan-sama. After saying that, Kirigiri trotted out of the room after thinking about it. I waited for a while, then set foot on the snow. Near the forest on the right, there is an eerie sound of leaves rubbing together. On the left is Yukimura-san's room, and there is no road. On the opposite side of the building is the cliff leading to the bottom of the valley. I went out in the dark. The snow is up to around the ankles. I don't know if it's because of the wind or the low temperature, but the snow on the ground is very loose and it rustled when I step on it. The wind is getting stronger and stronger. Sooner or later it will turn into a snowstorm, and my eyes will be blinded by the snow and wind again. Step by step, I walked forward. There is still a little distance from Yukimura's room. Both my arms suddenly became heavy. The chains connecting the handcuffs are being stretched, and no matter how much I pull it, it wouldn't move. There is still 2 or 3 meters away from the window of Yukimura-san's room. However, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move forward. It's difficult to even move my arm. Kirigiri's measurements were correct. Suddenly, I felt like I heard a voice calling me from the wind. It was my sister's voice. Or was it Kirigiri's? I rushed back. I jumped into the room from the window and dragged the chains which made a clanking sound and came to the hall. There was no one there, and the air was piercingly cold. I went next door to Kirigiri's room. Just as I was about to open the door, Kirigiri came out of the room. She looked safe and sound, and she doesn't seem particularly panicked. Nothing happened, right? I asked while exhaling white breath shallowly and repeatedly. Yes. Kirigiri said with a slightly surprised expression. What's wrong? You are in such a panic. I was worried. I took care not to let the chains get tangled together and hugged her tightly. Kirigiri lowered her head shyly and was silent for a while in my arms. Then suddenly, as if remembering something, she left my embrace to ask. How was the test? Almost the same as your calculation. I couldn't get to the window no matter what. So it's true that with all of us being handcuffed together, the possibility of one of us being the criminal is very low. An impossible crime. We have seen this kind several times so far, and we have solved them all. Kirigiri said softly. I checked the chains and they aren't anything special. Of course, all of them are made of the same material. One possibility is one of them being made of rubber, but that doesn't seem to be the case. A chain made of rubber, how did you come up with that? All possibilities must be taken seriously. But more importantly, Yui-wan-sama, I found something that caught my attention. Kirigiri took my hand and led me inside her room. Immediately after entering, she turned around and pointed overhead. Look at the door frame of the entrance. What Kirigiri was talking about is the upper part of the wooden frame surrounding the door, the equivalent of the bottom of the upper door frame. Usually, I just walk under it, so I never looked up. But looking carefully at it after being pointed out by Kirigiri, I do notice a gap that looks like a crack. However, unlike a natural crack, the line is too straight that appears exactly parallel to the door. What's this? I have seen something similar in the hall. After the grill fence around the ice pillar disappeared, the same gap appeared on the floor. It's a gap left to prevent the iron grill from friction when it goes up and down. I looked again at the gap I found in the door frame. Could this also be an iron grill? I think so. It may now be stowed in the upper part like a shutter. Wait, is there something like this in everyone's room? Yes, I confirmed that Yukimura-san's room and Yui-wan-sama's room are the same. An iron grill at the entrance of the room. It's a bit disturbing. It's like a prison. But why? The door was locked last night, and the iron grill didn't come down. Maybe it's not meant to lock us up. Wasn't the iron grill in the hall also set up as a security mechanism? It suddenly occurred to me. Yeah, like the security mechanism of the iron grill in the hall, the iron grill in each room may have been down. Then they opened when we completed the registrations in the underground passage. To protect the inheritance from intruders who entered without proper procedures? Yep. Pretty level-headed reasoning too, right? It makes some sense. Kirigiri said. But even knowing that, there is absolutely no link between it and the case. I sighed in fatigue and sat staggeringly on the bed in Kirigiri's room. It's better to rest for now. Kirigiri said. Kirigiri-chan, you haven't slept at all, have you? It's okay. Kirigiri sat next to me. Ambush tactics are one of the basics of a detective. Thanks to that sniper training, I have been able to keep watch for hours on end. That grand farce wasn't in vain then. I said half-jokingly. Yui-wan-sama, what did you do last night? I was momentarily confused by the sudden question. How can I put it? I fell asleep as soon as I got in bed. You fell asleep? Kirigiri looked into my eyes and asked. Why ask such a thing? No, the sound of the wind was too loud. I couldn't sleep well. In that case, did you hear any strange noises at night? Strange noises? Like something groaning. Groaning? You mean Yukimura-san? No, not that, a more mechanical sound. Kirigiri seemed to have thought of something as she was talking and froze with an open mouth. What's wrong? Are you okay? Mechanical. That's right, it wasn't the sound of wind, an animal, or a person, let alone a ghost. It was the sound of a machine. Did you find out something? We have heard a similar noise before, and it was here at the Sirius Observatory. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? Can you make it clear to me? Last night, when I was monitoring, I heard a strange noise. I didn't pay much attention, and I regarded it as the wind, but now that I think about it, it was more like the sound of a machine. The sound of a machine, what was it like? When we came here before, we were able to open the ceiling of the dome. Do you remember the sound at that time? No, I didn't have time to listen, at all. It was like the sound of an engine starting. Well, I don't get what you mean. You were saying that you heard that noise, which means that someone opened the ceiling of the hall in the middle of the night? No, the ceiling never opened. Although I couldn't see the ceiling from the door gap, if the roof was open, the snow would have blown in and easy to notice. Then what was the mechanical sound that Kirigiri-chan heard? I don't know yet, but this is the only thing I'm certain of. At night, due to a mechanical drive, part of this building moved. And that may have something to do with the murder. Part of the building moved. I was reminded of Libra Girls Academy. In that building that the Crime Victims Relief Committee used as a crime scene, a special mechanism was used. That locked room mystery was also very unusual. Come to think of it, there was something strange about the structure of that locked room's doors too, and that ultimately led to a hint for the solution. In this case, the iron grill stored in the upper part of the doorway on the interior side may be a hint to solve this case. I approached the door again, trying to make sure there was nothing wrong with the gap. At that moment, Kadomi kicked the door open from the other side and roared into the room. You're slacking off here, brats. I almost got hit by the door and accidentally fell on my rear. Break's over, get to work. Kadomi looked down at me and said. I glared at him defiantly. But since he is an opponent impossible to defeat by pure strength, I gave up further resistance. Yui-wan-sama, let's go. Kirigiri also moved to the hall frankly. That ice pillar appeared in front of us again. Yuhane is standing beside the pillar. It looks like he was cold too. Why is there only so little progress after so long? How hard can it be to cut through 1 meter? Kadomi said anxiously. I guess incompetent slaves need the existence of the ruling class after all. It's like they're showing us how elegant imperialism looked like this is some sort of a king's tomb. A king's tomb. The impression I feel from this serious observatory is perhaps exactly that. It's not so much Shinsen's hidden vault as it is the place where his twisted soul sleeps. It is maybe because this is his tomb that I can feel his presence around me. We, imprisoned in the king's tomb, continued to take turns cutting the pillar. Kadomi just sat in the corner and gave instructions for the actual ice-cutting work. It was only me, Kirigiri, and Yuhane who alternated. The horizontal cut on the ice pillars is indeed approaching towards the center. Girls, it's almost time for dinner. Yuhane, it's not yet time for you to change shifts. You'll continue working with me. At some point, Kadomi became in position of rationing the food we brought. Kirigiri and I received bread and left the hall for the time being. After a while, we went to my room. Kirigiri and I sat side by side on the bed, eating a lonely dinner. Kirigiri-chan, is it okay to keep doing what that guy says? The stuff involving Yukimura-san hasn't been solved yet. I sighed while eating the snack bread. Kirigiri broke the chocolate piece by piece and ate it. They seem to believe in the existence of a third party, or do they want us to believe that? If one of those two people is the perpetrator, it's very likely that he will deliberately direct our attention to a third party. The premise that the culprit is from inside should be made clear first. We also need solid evidence for when we make inferences in the future. Evidence, huh? If we have that, we won't need to work this hard. We have something like that. Eh? The mineral water that Yukimura-san drank, if that has sleeping pills in it, the reasoning that Yukimura-san invited the outsider in will be fundamentally disproved. Indeed. We still don't know if there are sleeping pills in it or not. I don't have any test reagents with me. I can drink it to find out. And no way, don't do it, okay? You can't just test stuff with your own body. It's okay, I'll just drink a little. It's not about the amount. The black challenge list also includes lethal drugs, right? What if the water is poisonous? Indeed, you can kill people by mixing poison in drinking water. It might be easier to achieve the objective if you aim for total annihilation from the beginning. But the organization won't sell such a hand card to the murderer. If they do, they might end up killing the detective. That's just when the organization follows the rules, right? Didn't you say we don't know if the rules are strictly followed now? That's not worth talking about. There is evidence right in front of us, yet you don't want to get it. This is too negligent. After saying that, Kirigiri stood up and walked out of the room. Did I make her angry? I obviously didn't want to quarrel. I ran out of the room after Kirigiri. Hey, wait a sec, you. It's almost time to switch. I ignored Kadomi's words and walked towards Yukimura's room. Kirigiri is already in Yukimura's room. Standing next to the bed where the corpse is sleeping, pet bottle in hand. Only the light on the ceiling dimly illuminating her, her petite shadow imprinted next to the body. Did you drink it? I rushed into the room and asked her. She lowered her eyes and shook her head. I gave up doing it. Why did you change your mind? If I'm going to risk my life, I might as well collect clues to the answer so that someone else can take over if I die. Don't treat your life this cheaply. There is no more important answer than life. Who would be happy with a good ending where you are dead in? When I said that, she lowered her head. Hey, Kirigiri-chan. Don't walk alone, rely on me a little more. It feels like Yui-wan-sama always stops me whenever I want to move forward, never mind. Kirigiri said that, a smile appeared on her face, and suddenly lost her balance and fell to the bed. Kirigiri-chan. I quickly held her in my arms. Did she actually drink the water from the bottle? It's okay, I didn't drink it. Kirigiri finally regained consciousness and said. However, even when she tried to stand up, her feet didn't have the strength to. I reached out and touched her forehead, which is very hot. She hasn't slept since yesterday, she has barely eaten, and was forced to perform heavy physical labor in severe cold. On top of all that, she is also investigating a murder as a detective, fighting against the ghost of Shinsen who was following her like a shadow. Let's go back to your room. I had no choice but to pick up Kirigiri and Princess Carrie and left Yukimura's room. Damn kids. Time to sweet Kadomi lost his words for a moment after he saw us. What happened? She's dead? Did you do it? I think she's overworked, can you give her some rest? Of course. A slave who can't stand up has no value. Kadomi made a gesture of expulsion. Let her sleep in her own room. I don't want to get caught in that self-destruct thing. Yes, thank you very much. I went to Kirigiri's room and put her on the bed, by then she had fallen asleep with shallow breaths. Did she really not drink the water from the pet bottle? No, I should trust her. I reluctantly returned to the hall. Then, under Kadomi's instruction, I resumed the ice pillar cutting. I'm reluctant, but I don't want to be locked up in this place for a long time. I suddenly realized that this job can be done by one person. Just wrap the chain around the ice pillar, then grab the intersection with both hands, and pull it in a staggered way from left to right. But if I say that, I may be forced to work alone, so I didn't say it. Every 15 minutes of work, Yuhane and I spent another 30 minutes in our rooms warming up our bodies, repeating ice pillar cutting without saying a word. Kadomi just stayed in his room and came to check on the situation from time to time. Without realizing it, 10 p.m. is already here. 5 minutes until hall lockdown. Everyone, please stay in your rooms until the next morning. In addition, if the rules are not followed, the self-destruct procedure will be activated. Ah, already. We're almost there. The cut on the ice pillar is still about 30 centimeters away from the box. At least it should be finished tomorrow morning. Yuhane crossed his arms and said with satisfaction. This is the beginning of my reign. You all, don't touch the ice pillar tomorrow until I say it's okay. Yuhane and I didn't specifically respond, but returned to our respective rooms. On the way, I went to Kirigiri's room, where she is lying quietly on the bed. I was concerned because her hair ribbon was wrapped around my neck, so I gently untied it and placed it by the pillow. 3 minutes until hall lockdown. After hearing that broadcast, I hurried back to my room. Tomorrow, it will definitely be over. There's nothing wrong with what we have done, I know that. It's time for the hall lockdown. Good night, everyone. Good night, Kirigiri-chan. I touched the left handcuff attached to her. I will fight the night alone for you. 1. It's time for the hall to open. Good morning, everyone. I rushed out of the room as the broadcast sounded. The hall is whiter than it was yesterday. The frost adhering to the floor and walls solidified like an ice cube. The building is gradually being eroded by frost, and everything is frozen. Even the air is frozen white and extraordinarily clear. I went toward Kirigiri's room, just as Kirigiri came out of the room. The 3-strand braid that's usually braided is now loose, and there is no hair ribbon. Her face looks much better than yesterday. Thank goodness, you're fine. I hugged her tightly. Yui-wan-sama too. I put my hand on her forehead and checked her temperature. The fever has gone down a lot. I'm sorry. Kirigiri frowned, biting her lip as if she felt remorse from the bottom of her heart. I was negligent to collapse from fatigue. Without physical strength, you can't be a good detective, that's what I was taught. You shouldn't push yourself too hard. You are a middle school student and your body is still growing. That can't be an excuse. Don't blame yourself. Instead of that, look at the ice pillar, it's already been cut down a lot. The ice pillar in the center is the same as last night, except that it's covered in white by frost. The cut made by the chainsaw stopped just before reaching the black box. The box is fine, and there were no intruders. As we thought, there is no third party, right? On the frosted floor there are no footprints of anyone but ours. There is no special change around the entrance of the underground passage, and the pet bottle placed on the trapdoor was not knocked over, it remains as it was. If that's the case, let's go check if the others are safe too. Yeah. I really don't want to confirm. I could feel the presence of death. Silence. I expected a dead body on the other side of the closed door. That's because I've experienced the same silence too many times in black challenges so far. Once this door is opened, there is no turning back. Kirigiri-chan. I said to her. But she opened the door before turning back. Kadomi is asleep under the blanket. On his right shoulder, a protrusion can be seen. Like a small tombstone, it symbolizes his death. Dead. I could only murmur in a low voice. There is almost no bleeding, only the surrounding blanket is slightly dyed red, and only the tip of the knife is stuck in, the same as last time. There is no signs of resistance and the bed is neatly made. Kirigiri walked into the room, and I followed her inside. He is already cold, Kirigiri said after touching Kadomi's neck. No makeup. Judging from his appearance, he must have been stabbed while asleep, just like Yukimura-san. And after being stabbed, he didn't seem to get up or resist because of the pain. There's a high chance he ingested sleeping pills. Sleeping pills? We know that the water in the pet bottles contains sleeping pills. I looked around at the floor. There are no plastic bottles. I checked the bathroom and found 3 empty pet bottles lying on the floor. The locks of the windows on both sides are locked from the inside. Kirigiri confirmed the windows and said, there are no footprints outside. There was only a little wind and snow last night. I don't think that amount could have erased all the footprints. The pet bottle to lock the window trick wasn't used this time. A pet bottle that fell from a window wouldn't have rolled into the bathroom so easily. It is possible to fix the handle of the lock in place with, for example, the snow outside by making it into a spherical shape, but there is no trace of melting inside. It is necessary for us to rethink the idea of the perpetrator entering and exiting through the window. But if it wasn't the window, then where did they come in from? It's hard to imagine it was through the door. The door was locked at night, and the frost on the floor was spotless as far as we saw. And there was no trace of anyone coming in or out. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I looked back. A perfect locked room, huh? Yuhane is standing in the doorway. We were quicker to take our guard before feeling happy that he is still alive. Considering the possibility that he is the killer, there is no other attitude to take. Do you think I'm the culprit? Yuhane said as he opened his hands in a pretentious manner. In my point of view, one of you is the culprit. No, maybe both of you are the culprits. We didn't care about what he said. Kirigiri and I stepped back to keep a distance from him. The cold air became even more tense and strained, so tense that I felt needles all over my body. After a long silence, Yuhane spoke up. You want to monopolize the inheritance? We don't want any inheritance, we said that at the beginning. I said. We were summoned by the Black Challenge and came here to fight the Crime Victims Relief Committee. 2 kids, fighting that organization? What an unbelievable thing to say. Yuhane said with his arms crossed. Because he is standing at the door of the room, we have nowhere to run. But if what you're saying is true, it's fair to say that my interests are aligned with yours. I'm here to get the inheritance. If you're not interested in it and really just want to play puzzle games, how about we don't interfere with each other and each pursue their own goals? Yes, no problem with that. Kirigiri said, narrowing her eyes. Provided that you are not the culprit. Very well. Yuhane said in an exaggerated tone and entered the room. We moved deep into the room, trying to stay far. He approached Kadomi's body and pulled out the knife that was stabbed in Kadomi's shoulder. Since there is no evidence to prove that you are not the perpetrators, Yuhane pointed at me and Kirigiri with the tip of the knife. Let me do the bare minimum self-defense for now. Is this how adults act? I said sarcastically, and he spoke with a sneer. It's just in case. I've learned from past failures to act cautiously, and I'm still good at conducting proper detective work. The reason why I got a 0 was precisely because of my excessive prudence. Anything is fine. Please just stop wielding that knife. Whoops, that was rude, Yuhane said exaggeratedly. Then about future matters, it's just a proposal, but I will continue to work in the hall to get the inheritance. I would prefer to have your help if possible, so that I can keep an eye on you too, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but I would hate if the box gets switched out or something. So I think I should be the only one doing the finishing touches. Yes, please do that. I said without hesitation. But I also can't just ignore you girls, and even more so if you're the murderers. Can you both stay in a certain room until I get the box? If you can keep this deal, I won't hurt you with this knife. As he spoke, he pointed the tip of the knife at us. The blade that's dyed red and black with blood kept flashing coldly as if mocking us. Understood. Kirigiri replied immediately. Is that okay? Kirigiri-chan. I also want an environment where I can concentrate on my reasoning without being disturbed. So we indeed have the same interests. What a reasonable young lady. But a deal is a deal, no interfering with each other. You must remember that if you break the deal for even a moment, you will never see the inheritance again. We have a deal then. He talked as if he has the upper hand. She was not wrong when she said he wears clothes that the word uncool doesn't even begin to describe. It's the type I hate the most. Then, I'll get back to work. Yu Hain said. Because I'll work alone, it may take a long time. But I should be done within today, don't worry. Please wait a moment. I said hurriedly. If you want us to be locked in a room, my room would be better than this one. There are also clothes and food over there, which is much better than spending a long time here with the dead body. All right, move then. Yu Hain urged us with a knife. Kirigiri and I walked out of the room and moved towards mine. Can the two of us stay together? I asked. Yes, it will be easier for me to surveil you both this way. After all, he wants to keep us locked up. Ah, right. I'll go into Kirigiri-chan's room once because there's something left there, okay? Before I heard the reply, I entered Kirigiri's room. Yu Hain said something behind me, but I turned a deaf ear to it. I picked up the ribbon on the bed and went back to the hall. Don't act on your own. I ignored him and entered my room, where Kirigiri is already waiting for me. Now then, help yourself out. As I said that, I closed the door. I sat on the bed side by side with Kirigiri. Did you bring that one on purpose? Kirigiri pointed at the ribbons. Thanks. I'll tie it for you later. I replied with a smile. Are you sure this is the best course of action? That man is free to do whatever he wants, and since he is the last survivor, that means he is the murderer, right? Even if he is the murderer, we still can't explain the locked room killings. The doors were locked, and there were no footprints on the floor in the hall. The windows were also locked from the inside, and there were no footprints in the surrounding snow. How did the perpetrator break into the rooms, stab the victims with the knife, and then get out of the rooms under these circumstances? And everyone, including the victims, were handcuffed together in a circular ring. It's too difficult to assume the murderer is from inside. Yui-wan-sama, how was last night? What? The strange noise, did you hear something like an engine running? Ah, yeah, that. I heard it too. I remember it was about 3 o'clock at night. The low noise continued for a few minutes. I thought it had stopped, but after a while, the same noise came back again. It went on for a few more minutes, that's all I heard. Yes. I think the noise I heard the night before was the same as that. Too bad, I could have investigated more last night if I hadn't collapsed. I thought Kirigiri-chan would say something like that, so I investigated for you. In fact, last night, I imitated Kirigiri-chan and monitored the hall from the doorway gap. As expected of you, Yui-wan-sama. Well, to be honest, although there were times when I was dizzy, at least while I was monitoring, there was no suspicious person moving around in the hall. Then when I heard the strange noise, I kept my eyes focused on the hall, but I didn't see anything moving either. And of course, the ceiling of the dome stayed the same. But something must have moved, and that should have something to do with the locked rooms. Yes, but how can something move to make the locked room set up? Is there like a hidden door in the perpetrator's room, which can be opened with some kind of mechanism? If the perpetrator and the victim's rooms are connected by a secret underground passage, it would be possible to commit the murder, right? Yes, but let's leave the perpetrator's room aside for now. There was no secret door that can be used as an entrance in the victim's rooms. The rooms are not very big, so it is impossible we overlooked it. Well, even if there is a secret passage, it doesn't make sense unless the chain length can reach it. If we think about it this way, the entrances of the locked rooms will be gradually ruled out. For example, it is impossible to go from the window to the roof, then to the crime scene, because the length of the chain is not enough. Alright, so, when I heard the mechanical noise, I was looking down the hall at first, and then I looked out the window the second time I heard it. I thought there might be some changes outside, but there was nothing, like the whole hall wasn't rotating or something. That was what I was expecting at least. Yui-wan-sama's ideas are always exaggerated. No, it's very ordinary. Just look back at the previous black challenges. I feel like an entire building this size moving is something that can be done easily. The cost this time is also extremely high. Moving the building. Kirigiri suddenly stood up and pulled the curtains a small slit. Looking out the window. It's always snowing. I stood beside her and said. It was also snowing the day I met her, and it was snowing when I first came to the Sirius Observatory. It started from that day. Time seems to have stopped. This place may have been sealed by winter. There will be no next season, an eternal winter. I want to see you smiling under a cherry blossom tree. Being shy in your swimsuit. Not in this sealed world. On the other side we can see Yukimura-san's room, correct? Kirigiri asked. Ah, yeah, that's the room I went to in order to check the length of the chain. Look, my footprints are still there. The footprints left in the daytime yesterday are still there, which means that if someone entered or exited from the window during the crime last night, there should be traces left. But outside of Kadomi's room, there are no footprints like that. As expected, the possibility of the window being the entrance is zero. I stared blankly at the sky and could see heavy snowclouds bobbing across the valley. Kirigiri has been staring somewhere. Have you found anything? The roof of Yukimura-san's room. Kirigiri pointed with a finger. Could it be that someone is hiding there? I looked at it with frightened eyes. But nothing is there. Needless to say, there is nothing worthy of special mention. No, that's not what I mean. The snow on the roof, isn't there too little? Is it? Looking closely, it does feel like the snow on the roof of the room is a very thin layer. Kirigiri moved tangentially towards the opposite window, pulling the curtains back. Looking at the room next door, there is Kirigiri's room. As I thought, the snow on the roof there is thicker. I can hardly see it. Maybe it's a natural phenomenon due to the wind near the valley being stronger? My words didn't seem to reach Kirigiri's ears. She stared out the window and stood there for a few minutes. She might have seen something that I can't. In order not to disturb her, I quietly left from her side. Suddenly concerned, I checked the state of the hall from the door gap. I can't see Yu Hain, and I don't hear the sound of ice being cut, which most likely means he hasn't started his work yet. Is he resting in his room? I went back to bed to check the rest of the food. Candy, chocolate, and a little bit of snacks left, and only about a third of the thermos. If Yu Hain doesn't get the inheritance and escape soon, we will be forced to survive as victims of snowy mountains. Soon I was hungry, so I opened my bag of cookies. Kirigiri sat back on the bed with a serious expression. Perhaps now, in her little head, her neurons are glowing like stars of a galaxy. I like her face when she does that. I took a cookie and put it to Kirigiri's mouth, and she nibbled on it unconsciously. It was funny, like feeding a bird. Kirigiri-chan, did you understand something? I did. She suddenly stood up and went to the astronomical telescope this time. She started turning the turntable pedestal around in all directions for a while, as if she is playing with a toy. Is the astronomical telescope the key to solving the case this time too? I asked, and Kirigiri just tilted her head vaguely. When I turn the pedestal, it feels a little bit stuck with something. Maybe it's damaged? Hard to say. Kirigiri lowered her head thoughtfully. Kirigiri-chan, it's time to eat some sugar, right? If you don't have enough nutrients, your mind will become dull, so take a break and eat something. Yeah. We began our usual tea party, which we have held many times in my dorm room before. The two of us shared the remaining black tea and breathed a sigh of relief. It felt somewhat, like returning to our daily life. Come to think of it, before I met Kirigiri, my daily life was empty. From that day, since the murder of my sister Mayu, I just lived in a void, relying solely on the title of detective to give me purpose. Because if I didn't do that, I would not have been able to sustain myself. At that time, I was probably killed together with my sister. Maybe it wasn't my sister, but me who was kidnapped and killed. To get rid of these thoughts, I had to rely on the heroic image of the detective, an ally of justice who reaches out to those who seek salvation. I thought becoming that kind of existence would be at least a kind of redemption for my sister. But of course, someone like me can't be a hero. At the end of the day, I just wanted to save myself. At that time, the person who appeared in front of me was Kirigiri. She is a real detective. Of course, she doesn't think she's a hero at all, but the people she saved sure do. So, she really is a hero, a detective without compromise. She will certainly save many people in the future. So, no matter what happens to me. Yui-1-sama. Kirigiri suddenly looked at me. Help me braid my hair. Yeah. I went around behind her who was sitting on the bed and stroked her hair. I gently grabbed her hair, which flows like water, and started braiding it. I washed it well this morning. Nice. I'm really grateful to have met Yui-1-sama that day. She said this all of a sudden. Where did this come from? If it was someone else, I may not be in this world by now. I might have died long ago because of my involvement in Shinsen's games. That's not true, you are a great detective. You really don't understand. For me, Yui-1-sama is the great detective. I'm not happy to be flattered like that. That is not true. I am very happy. I wonder if I'm helping you in any way. I finished braiding the left braid and tied the ribbon. Next is the right side. As I was thinking that, I wanted to touch her hair, but for some reason my hand came up empty. Yui-1-sama. Kirigiri looked up at me uneasily. Her face is looking bad. I feel dizzy. She said that, picked up the thermos next to her, and took a sniff to confirm something. Why? She murmured in a weak voice and fell on the bed. Kirigiri-chan. I held her hand tightly. 2. I feel like I shed a lot of tears while sleeping. Why am I crying? Is it because of something sad? Or is it because of a dream about my sister? The reason is not very clear. Tears are all over my face. When I tried to wipe my face, I suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of incongruity. I have Kirigiri's hand folded over mine. On the back of that small hand, there is a wound where a bullet swept through. That scar may remain for a lifetime. I feel heartache at the thought of that. I straightened up. We were lying on the bed, with snacks scattered around us. The thermos had rolled onto the floor, creating a liquid-like stain on the floor. Looking at my watch, it's past noon. Before I know it, a long time has passed. Suddenly, I smelled a strange odor and looked toward the door. White smoke is drifting in from the crack of the door. I immediately took a deep breath and reached out to shake Kirigiri. Kirigiri-chan. Get up. Kirigiri stood up while moaning in pain. She wiped her eyes, stared at me blankly, and finally noticed the smoke in the room. What's happening? Kirigiri murmured incoherently. Her consciousness doesn't seem to be fully awake yet. I stood up and made up my mind to open the door. The tragic state of the hall came into view. Tons of burning flames are surrounding the ice pillar. Because of the heat emitted by it, the ice pillar looks quite thin while retaining its columnar shape. Its surface also began to melt, and the water reflected the light. The flames are not only around the ice pillar, but dotted the entire hall in small piles of fire. Looking closely, I can see that what's burning is paper money. The banknotes scattered everywhere are lit, burning fiercely. The burning flames ignited the surrounding walls and floor, and the crimson mountain of flames gradually reached the ceiling. Fire! It's on fire! I shouted. Kirigiri-chan, we have to escape quickly. The handcuffs. Kirigiri said. As long as it's still on, we can't escape. Even so, let's go outside and stay as far away as possible. Look, Yui-1-sama, there's no longer a box in the ice pillar. As Kirigiri said. The black box that was in the center of the ice pillar is gone. Kirigiri stood up, tried her best to move her unsteady feet, and walked towards the hall in the center of the flame vortex. Kirigiri-chan. It's too dangerous. The black box. If we have that, we should be able to take off the handcuffs. Kirigiri said that and walked out of the room. I followed after her. We immediately got surrounded by thick smoke and heat waves. The pure white world that was supposed to be covered in frost has now been dyed a rich vermilion. The concave mirror on the ceiling is reflecting the nightmarish image, showing a drawing of hell. Like it's the end of the world. Opposite the ice pillar, at the foot of the volcano where the huge flames gather, someone has fallen there. The ornately patterned coat is spread out on the floor, and the flames have begun to spread there. It's Yuhane. He fell on his back near the trapdoor, with an empty pet bottle on the ground at his feet. He is in the flames, staring motionless at the ceiling. Only the right eye is open. Something long stick-shaped has pierced deeply into his left eye. Is this an arrow? Kirigiri squatted beside Yuhane, reaching out to touch his neck. However, the fire on his coat intensified, and Kirigiri couldn't help but stand up and back away from there. Yuhane was caught in the flames. That's when I suddenly noticed. Yuhane is not wearing handcuffs. Kirigiri-chan. Yuhane had taken off the handcuffs. Because of the heat wave, the howling of the wind covered the hall, so I had to call her out loud. As I thought, he got the box and managed to get the handcuffs off. He seems to be holding something in his hand. Yuhane is holding a small black card in his hand. But the flames that are burning his clothes are now about to burn that thing too. I lamented in despair. Without that, there is no way to remove the handcuffs. Ignoring my panic, Kirigiri crossed the flames and approached Yuhane. From my point of view, it was like she jumped into a sea of fire. Then she reached her hand into the fire, grabbed Yuhane's hand, and pulled out the black card he was holding in his hand. Kirigiri-chan. It's okay, she said and returned to me. It should still work. And not that. Your hand. Her snow-white right hand is dyed a touch of red. This is trivial, let's get out of here quickly. Kirigiri left the center of the hall and moved to the front of the room with less fire. She confirmed the black card she just got. What is this? There are no switches or buttons or anything like that on it, nothing like the remote we imagined, just a black card. Were we tricked? But it's a fact that the handcuffs were removed. This must be the key. Kirigiri brought the card closer to her handcuff. At that moment, with a beep, the handcuff opened and fell from her wrist. The thing that fell to the ground looks like a small creature that has died with its mouth open. It works. I cheered. We can finally get out of here. Kirigiri removes her other handcuff. It looks like the card-shaped electronic key is valid for all handcuffs. Kirigiri prepared to hand it to me with her free hands. At that moment, the noise of objects twisting sounded from overhead. Looking up, I saw flying sparks raging. Then the ceiling broke, and the cracked pieces fell down. Watch out. I shoved Kirigiri away sharply. Part of the concave ceiling mirror fell there, stabbing into the floor. My screaming face was mirrored by the aluminum plate, distorted like a monster. Immediately afterwards, with a snapping sound, part of the burning roof fell. And finally, about a third of the dome collapsed, easily knocking over the ice pillar and collapsing across the hall. Kirigiri-chan. Are you all right? Kirigiri and I were separated by the debris. Yes, thanks for saving me. Kirigiri's voice came through the wall of the concave mirror. Yui-wan-sama, I'm going to throw the key from under the debris. You have to catch it. All right. The black card was thrown through the gap formed under the concave mirror. I looked across from that gap and saw Kirigiri looking back. Kirigiri-chan, you go out first. Use the window of my room. What about Yui-wan-sama? I can't go over there because of the debris. I'll get out from somewhere else. Let's meet outside. Understood, we definitely will. Yes, definitely. We nodded to each other and stood up. I put the black card on my handcuffs and it quickly fell off. The handcuffs that robbed us of our freedom and brought about an unsolvable mystery, we are finally free from it. There is no time to linger. As the ceiling fell into the hall, the flames continued to spread as it found its next prey, and the fire grew stronger. The black smoke grew thicker and thicker, gradually rising towards the snowy sky. Thanks to the ceiling being gone, I was not caught in the smoke, which was good luck and misfortune. While avoiding the flames, I opened the door to a nearby room. It's Yukimura's room. She is lying on the bed as before. The flames will burn her up sooner or later. I thought about what to do to move her body outside, but I realized there is not enough time. Instead, I opened the refrigerator without thinking. Here was the money her children need. I thought of at least taking some money out, however, there isn't a single bundle of bills in the fridge. I stopped thinking about secondary matters and decided to leave the room. I opened the lock and jumped out the window. In front of me is the cliff, and cold wind is blowing from the bottom of the valley. But it is a good remedy for my body that was surrounded by heat just a moment ago. Yui-wan-sama. There is a voice. She had left the building and moved towards the direction of the forest. Turning around the previously crimson hellscape, she stood alone in that white world where everything is still. Kirigiri-chan. I ran towards Kirigiri. I lost count of the number of times I hugged her since arriving here. When I looked back, the Sirius Observatory has been reduced to a blazing fire. The sound of debris collapsing or something bursting could be heard everywhere. It sounds like a creepy monster is making a dying cry. The black smoke that the monster is desperately exhaling flew up and soon blended into the gray sky. In the end, everyone still died. I murmured. Of the 5 detectives who visited the observatory, none of them left alive except me and Kirigiri. The same as last time. Kirigiri said while looking at the burning observatory. It's just the 2 of us left. Hey, Yui-wan-sama. What is it? Where's my ribbon? Kirigiri asked while stroking her hair. Only the left side of her hair is braided into a 3-strand braid. Oh right, I lost consciousness while braiding her hair. I forgot it in the room, sorry. It is probably being devoured by the flames now. But then again, why ask such a question now? Will you tie it up for me again? Of course. All right, thank you. While saying that, Kirigiri suddenly hugged me. After about 5 seconds, she slowly adjusted her breath and stepped away from me. Kirigiri-chan, what's wrong? What was that just now? A last memory. A last. The fine snow fluttered and fell between me and Kirigiri. Only one side of the 3-strand braid is swaying in the cold wind, as if mapping her state of mind that does not know what made her so lost. I already know who the culprit is. Right. She finally has the answer. I already left behind the coldness of the ice and snow touching my skin, and the sound of the flames burning behind my back. The only thing I'm worried about is her lips are quivering slightly. Let's go to a place with a roof for now. Building B isn't far from the main building. We won't have to worry about fire there. No, I won't take long. Listen to me, and if you think I'm wrong about something, please tell me. Kirigiri did not move from the snow. I can feel the cold and firm will from that small body. I nodded in agreement. That's all I can do. So far, we have seen several locked room murder cases in the Black Challenges, yet the conditions of this case are particularly difficult even among them. The windows were locked from the inside of the rooms, and all the doors were locked. There was no sign of anyone going in or out from outside on the snow, and there were no footprints on the floor in front of the door. I watched the hall when the first killing happened, and I can confirm that no one used the door to get in and out. Thinking back on it, I still feel it's impossible for the people inside to commit the crime. In addition to the locked room conditions at the crime scene, everyone was handcuffed and chained together. If anyone tried to approach the crime scene from the outside, they wouldn't have been able to because of the chains. Yes. The presence of the handcuffs and chains makes the mystery even more difficult, so we have to put that matter aside and consider it later. So then, how are you going to unveil this locked room mystery? The key to solving the mystery was lying around in plain sight. Lying around? It's the pet bottles that was the only clue left at the scenes. Yes, but the person who denied the method of creating a locked room by clamping the pet bottles on the handles of a windows was you, right? Yes. If the pet bottles were used to create the locked rooms, it could have fallen under the window, but in the second locked room, the bottle wasn't inside. Then, why are you saying that's a clue? The pet bottle was showing us what happened that night. What happened that night? It was originally in the refrigerator, and Yukimura-san drank half of it. The lid was tightly screwed on, so she may have planned to drink it later. In this case, what would you normally do with the pet bottle? Put it back in the fridge? Yes. Or if you want to drink it quickly, you would put it nearby, or maybe you just think it's a hassle to put it back in the refrigerator, so you just put it close to you. Like the headboard of the bed, on the dresser. In any case, don't you think it's strange that the pet bottle was near the entrance of the room? Well, if you ask me. I think it's hard to imagine that Yukimura-san herself had some kind of intention in leaving it lying around there. If that's the case, who moved the pet bottle near the door of the room? And for what purpose? The perpetrator who invaded the room didn't notice the bottle on the floor and kicked it off, or something? Of course there is that possibility. But that would mean the perpetrator had already invaded the locked room. How did the perpetrator get inside? The mystery can't be solved like that. Who else but the perpetrator can knock over the pet bottle? The bottle fell on its own. If you think so, you can see through the mystery of the locked room. Fell on its own. I got this inspiration when I saw that there was not a lot of snow on the roof of Yukimura-san's room. Why was there only a little snow on her roof? Why did the pet bottle in her room fall down randomly? Why? I don't get it at all. Because it was tilted, the room as a whole. That's too absurd. No, Yui-Sama also heard that engine-like noise, right? Even so. When the room was tilted, the fulcrum was the base of the isosceles triangle. That is, the part of the room in contact with the hall is the side of the ceiling. With that side as the axis, the whole room was a structure that can be lifted diagonally, just like the body of a dump truck. But I don't know if it was a hydraulic cylinder ground installation, or if it was like a car door, with the cylinder being installed in the point of contact with the hall. Wait a minute. Back 100 steps. The room was lifted up. Even if that's true, then what? Can this really solve the mystery of the locked room? Of course, it can. Just keep tilting the room like this, and when you reach 90 degrees, what will happen is that the lock of the window will open. The lock handles that lock the windows were very loose. It was sagging under its own weight when it wasn't supported. Normally, if the handle is vertical, it is in the locked state, and if the handle is horizontal, it is in the unlocked state. But if it's tilted 90 degrees, the direction of gravity will also change, the horizontal direction will become vertical, and the handle will naturally be unlocked. If you think about it the other way around, the entire room was tilted so that the windows can be unlocked without touching the locks. Then did the perpetrator enter the room from the outside by opening the window of the vertically standing room? Where everything was vertical. Yes. That's why the prepared furniture were all fixed to the floor. If it weren't fixed, it would have all fallen down. At that time, the entrance side of the room became the bottom of the room. The pet bottle that wasn't fully empty just fell down to the entrance. So that's how it was. But you guarded the hall all night and you didn't notice the room opposite was lifted up? Even if the room was moved, the wall and door on the side of the hall remained the same. The wall connecting the hall and the room was a double. However, from my investigation, the door did not look like a double structure. So door that stayed on the hall side, and the entrance to the room that was moved was empty. However, if the room was vertical, the person and things inside the room may fall from the entrance to the outside. Therefore, an iron grill shutter was installed at the entrance. Like a net to prevent falling out? And with that, the truth has become clear. The perpetrator tilted the room vertically, unlocked the window, and entered from there. At that time, the window was at least 6 meters above the ground. Therefore, people from the outside could not get in or out. After all, the switch that can tilt the room was installed inside the building. Furthermore, the switch was the turntable astronomical telescope. It had the same structure as the dial lock of a safe, and once rotated in a specific way, the switch would be activated. In conclusion, the person who could have activated that function was a person inside. So, the perpetrator was able to raise the victim's room by operating the astronomical telescope in their own room? That's right. Even if that can be done, it wouldn't have been possible to reach the window of the victim's room since it's high up. That was not a problem. Because the perpetrator just had to raise their room too. The perpetrator's room too? You can quickly reach the window even if the room was vertical if you use the astronomical telescope as a foothold, which would make it possible to go out through the window. You mean they got out from the window of their room that was vertical and jumped to the window of the victim's room? That's right. How could such a thing be possible? I wonder. For example, if the rooms were vertical to the side of the hall, the windows of adjacent rooms would be quite close. It would be the same as a flower bud. When a flower blooms, the adjacent two petals get separated, and if they shrink inward and close together, they will be tightly overlapped. The same thing happened to that star-shaped building. That's kinda. The perpetrator's conditions are clear. First, it's someone from inside. And second, Kirigiri, who hadn't stopped talking so far, suddenly choked. Behind us, the sound of debris collapsing continued. But the heat of the flames couldn't get here either. The icy cold wind blew swiftly past the hair of Kirigiri and I. Kirigiri, what's wrong? Go on. Having said all that, you understand now, don't you? I won't understand if you don't make it clear. The perpetrator's condition is a person who stayed in a room next to the victims. Originally, even the person in the next room would not have been able to reach because of the chains and handcuffs, so the crime was impossible, but if the rooms were turned upward, there would be a shortcut. No need to walk tens of meters on the snow. From window to window, through a gap of about 1 meter, you can reach the next room. Kirigiri raised her head and looked at me. In these aggressive eyes, wet pupils can be seen. In Yukimura-san's case, next door was Kadomi-san, right? That man took sleeping pills the day before, so he fell asleep at night and couldn't do anything. Yui-Sama also saw him drinking water from the bottle. I'm sure there were sleeping pills in the pet bottles in all rooms. The purpose was to make the target drink it so that they wouldn't notice the fact that the room was tilted at nighttime. Ideally, it would be best if they slept in the bed, and of course Yukimura-san did that. The blanket was also fixed with nails to the bed. Therefore, even if the room was tilted, Yukimura-san wouldn't have fallen down, but stayed under the blanket. Which means she became an easy target. But the room was still tilted at that time, right? In that case, how was Yukimura-san killed? The perpetrator entered the room through the window and used the astronomical telescope or bed as a foothold to approach the victim. Even so, it probably was difficult to stab the victim directly with the knife in their hand. That's why the knife was coated with venom. If for some reason the length of the chain was not enough, or it was difficult to stab directly, it would be enough to just let the knife fall towards the victim. The same venom was used in a past case where a knife fell to kill the victim. Yukimura-san's body was only slightly stabbed by the knife, that's why. In that case, the bleeding was less than ideal. If there was a lot of bleeding, we may have noticed the room becoming vertical based on the direction of the blood flow. Kirigiri as usual calmly spoke her reasoning. I don't even have words to counter-argue with. This way, there is nothing more to explain. After killing the victim, the perpetrator returned to their room and restored the inclination of the rooms. If the rooms were restored to their original state, the windows would be automatically locked, and with that, the locked room was completed. The murder case, which looked impossible, was solved at once. This is a sight I have seen several times so far. But my point of view is different from before. From now on, the sight is the same as that first time. Do you want to say that I killed Yukimura-san? I had to say it. If it said, she and I would become a suspect and a detective. But it had to be said. If this continues, Yui-san will go to a place from which she cannot come back from. What Liko said is now becoming true. He wasn't wrong. I am now taking steps towards where I cannot go back from. Kirigiri lowered her head and digressed from her reply. Yui-sama, when did it start? What do you mean? When did you get in touch with the organization? This time it was my turn to digress. I looked up at the sky and held back my tears. I don't know what you're talking about. I know this day would come eventually. But I thought it would take much longer. That's why I was planning to leave you before things turned out this way. If I worked in some distant country, the Crime Victims Relief Committee wouldn't have interfered anymore, and they wouldn't have needed to use you. Yuyama-sama and I would have always been like this. Even if we never see each other again. At least our relationship wouldn't be over. If only we didn't chase after the shadow of Shinsen. Kirigiri lowered her head, as if writing a letter in the snow at her feet, carefully selecting the words and saying, Kirigiri-san, do you really think I'm the culprit of this black challenge? I don't think so. She shook her head slightly. But, the answer my reasoning points to is you. Why? Are you really the perpetrator? Tell me, Yui-wan-sama. Kirigiri raised her head and looked into my eyes. It's as if she wants to find the truth there. Then let me present a counter-argument. I made up my mind. What about Kadomi-san's case? If that trick had to be an adjacent room for it to work, I should be excluded. Because next to Kadomi's room were Yukimura-san and Yuhane-san. From the conclusion, it was Yuhane-san who killed Kadomi-san. He used the same locked room technique. Of course, his purpose was Shinsen's inheritance. He wanted to kill him before the inheritance was monopolized by Kadomi-san. But the reason why he was able to use the technique prepared by the organization was because you instigated him, Yui-wan-sama. You mean I prepared all that? That's right. You indirectly hinted to him about the structure of the technique. Since all of us were taking turns chipping ice during the day yesterday, you were able to talk to him secretly when I wasn't looking. That's impossible. Even if Yuhane-san knew the locked room technique, he couldn't have used the same trick to kill Kadama-san. Why? If Kadomi-san was awake when the room was tilted, it would have definitely caused a big commotion, right? Kadomi-san might not have been a heavy sleeper. No. Just like Yukimura-san, sleeping pills were used. Yesterday, we distributed the food and drinks we brought from the dormitory to everyone. Yuhane-san mixed the water containing sleeping pills from the refrigerator into the tea we brought while we were working in shifts, and then made Kadomi-san drink it. Even so, it's not yet possible to say this technique is feasible. The problem is the murder weapon. If he was just a copycat, how did he get the weapon? From what I saw, the knife used to kill Kadomi-san and the one on Yukimura-san's body were of the same type. Was it also prepared by the organization? If I'm the real murderer, I would not have given him one of the murder weapons, because doing so would have made me suspicious. Therefore, it's impossible for Yuhane-san to commit the crime. There's no issue regarding the murder weapon. He just had to quietly pull out the knife from Yukimura-san's body yesterday. I don't know whether it was taken for protection or for a murder plan. Are you trying to say that the knife was reused? Yes. In that case, wouldn't there be no knife on Yukimura-san's body? If anyone had entered Yukimura-san's room, they would have found out immediately. After we found Kadomi's body, he immediately pulled out the knife from the body and took it with him. It's true that he acted hostile against us, but it was deliberately done to prevent me from discovering that the murder weapon was reused. If he put the knife back on Yukimura-san's body immediately after that, the plan would be complete. He did this just to make it appear that the two murders were caused by the same perpetrator. That's why the same knife and same technique were used to create that locked room. You mean the perpetrator imitated techniques of previous black challenges? This hasn't been done before. Yes. It's not difficult to think that he would kill for the sake of the inheritance. That is, a deliberately prepared copycat. After all, if Yui-wan-sama is the culprit of this black challenge, the motive should be revenge for her younger sister's kidnapping. The two main detectives who were trying to solve the kidnapping case were Yukimura-san and Yuhane-san, so it's not hard to imagine both of them being involved directly in the kidnapping. But even if there was a reason to kill those two, there was no reason to kill Kadomi-san. You're still reasoning based on the premise that I'm the real murderer. I thought you believe in me. I do believe in you. That's why. I'm desperately searching for the truth. Kirigiri said aloud in a rare show of emotion. I'm doubting not because I want to convict you, it's because I want to believe in you. You are my Yui-wan-sama after all. Kirigiri-chan. I'm at a loss. What must we do to be saved? What can I do to save her? What should I do as a detective? As Samadare Yui, what should I do? The resolution chapter isn't over yet. Yuhane-san's case hasn't been explained. Didn't he also die in the end? What happened to him? Let me hear your reasoning. Right. Kirigiri brushed the hair from her cheeks. The incident began after Kadomi's body was found this morning. Yui-wan-sama and I were ordered by Yuhane-san to be locked in our room. Then I lost consciousness. I drank sleeping pills. There were drugs mixed in Yui-wan-sama's thermos. But that doesn't prove that I mixed it. It could be Yuhane-san who put it in yesterday. Yes. In any case, it's a fact that I was drugged unconscious. The question is, what happened in the meantime? Why was the hall on fire? Yuhane-san used an impermissible method to get the inheritance as soon as possible. He took out the banknotes from the rooms of the dead and burned them. As a result, he finally succeeded in taking out the box from the ice pillar. Inside the box, there was probably only the black card. But for him, there may be some important data stored there. Then he noticed that the handcuffs could be taken off with that card. After that is when he was killed. The left eye looked like it was stabbed by an arrow. Yes. Judging from the situation, we can assume that he was attacked with the arrow from the front. So it was an arrow shot, but there was no bow anywhere. Yes. However, while I didn't find any arrow when I explored the building, I think it was brought in from the outside disguised as something else. For example, a ballpoint pen could have been used as a shaft, and the arrowhead could have also been hidden in an eraser. You mean I brought in the disassembled arrow mixed in with the stationery? Just one possibility. What about the bow? Kirigiri-chan, you have seen the items in my backpack many times. You know there was nothing in it that could have been used as a bow, right? Yes, I admit that. Then how did I manage to kill Yuhane-san? If you don't have a bow, you can always just attack the victim directly with the arrow in hand. But it's obvious that no matter how much of an opening you had, he would have resisted. He wouldn't have allowed you to approach him in the first place, since he locked us up to keep an eye on us while he monopolized the inheritance. Then it's impossible for me to kill him. If only that's the case. Kirigiri murmured. Rather, it was only after witnessing his death that I began to suspect that Yui-wan-sama might be the culprit. Why? Looking at the body that was shot by the arrow, the first thing that came to my mind was the murder case at the Takeda Haunted Mansion. In that incident, the technique used was to create a big bow and arrow where there was no bow and arrow. The same thing happened here. How could? Are you saying that I reused the techniques used in the past? If it is an effective killing method, it is not surprising to be used many times. Even so. In that technique, the double door was used instead of the bow. Rubber bands were used to connect the left and right. Doorknobs, although there were no doorknobs here, the bow can be created by using the chains. Place the arrow on them, and if you draw the bow from the direction of the door opening, from inside the room, you can shoot the arrow into the hall. Is it really possible to do that? Is it possible to create a bow that is powerful enough to kill a person like that? If venom was applied to the tip of the arrow, even if it's just a scratch, it can temporarily paralyze the opponent. It is possible to kill a person as long as it connects. No, but do you want to say that I shot that bow? Next to the unconscious Kirigiri-chan? Yes. After all, the only person who can come up with the idea of such a bow is someone who have experienced the Takeda Haunted Mansion murder case. Even if that technique was repeated, does that immediately mean I'm the criminal? Wouldn't that be the same technique because it was provided by the Crime Victims Relief Committee in both cases? Also, aiming to the hall at Yuhane-san from my room is impossible. Because there was the ice pillar in the center of the hall, and that was an obstacle. Yuhane-san fell on the opposite side of the pillar, didn't he? Up until yesterday, it was indeed impossible. Since the arrow can only fly straight, it would have only hit the ice pillar no matter what, but it was possible this morning. To answer how, because we chipped off the ice pillar to take the black box out. The ice pillar was dug deep enough towards the center that a channel was formed for the arrow to pass through. And not true. I drank black tea from the thermos and passed out with you. What evidence do you have to prove that I'm the murderer? Evidence. Kirigiri touched her hair uneasily. Her right hand is still a little red, which made my heart ache. The evidence is the string on that bough. String? Something that wouldn't be discovered by anyone. It can be brought to this observatory without looking unnatural, and is long and strong enough to replace a bowstring. Something only Yuyona-sama can prepare. Only me? It's the ribbon. Kirigiri touched the ribbon tying her hair. It was a pair on the left and right, but now only the left one is still there. If you think about it, when did the organization start to consider using Yui-sama? When did Shinsen start to formulate this plan? Even the seemingly unrelated series of events with Johnny Arp and the sniper battle may have also been preparation for purchasing the ribbons. Wait a minute, wasn't you the one who chose these ribbons? The one who chose that store was Yui-sama. Kirigiri-chan. There is no room for a counter-argument. Her logic is complete and cannot be denied. Kirigiri took a step closer and looked at me, who was at a loss for words, with an angry expression. Was it that important to you to avenge your sister? We have seen so many people who perished so far from being imprisoned by their vengeful hearts. Yet still, you took that step? You can't understand the hearts of others. No matter how perfect your reasoning is, you can't understand other people's feelings. That's your weakness. I'm trying to understand. I've never in my life tried this hard to understand. But even so. I'm sorry, Kirigiri-chan, this is all I can do. I embraced her. It was a very sinful act, and even though my hands are stained, I couldn't help but do it when I thought of all the time I have spent with her. Kirigiri buried her face in my arms. And the promise to braid my hair? She asked. One day, for sure. The sound of the building collapsing came from behind me. We embraced for what seemed like an eternity. Kirigiri then raised her head. The agents of the organization are coming, and the perpetrator whose plans have been exposed will be eliminated. Yeah. I shrugged. But the cameras and microphones that determined that should have been burned along with the building, so they won't be able to confirm for a while. Even so, it's impossible to escape from them. Kirigiri took a step back and took out handcuffs from her pocket. It's what she once called a memento. It's the bond between me and her that was forged during the first case. Then she handcuffed my wrist. What is this? I won't let them do what they want. You are my responsibility, and I will bring you to justice. You can't do that. And that's not the job of a detective. No, it's the detective's job to risk their life to turn in the criminal, so let's stay together till the end. She tried to put the other handcuff around her wrist. No, you can't. Kirigiri-chan. I cannot put you in a dangerous situation. I tried to knock her away. But at that moment, a strong wind blew by. I was pushed from the back by something. Then just like that, I lost consciousness, and when I came back to my senses, I found myself buried in the snow up to the tip of my nose. What happened? Did I fall? Just as I was about to get up, I felt a sharp pain in my back. Kirigiri said something loudly, crouching beside me and trying to pick me up. Why? Why? She is very shaken. Yui-sama, don't move. The arrow on your back is... Arrow? The sharp pain coming from the back is because it was pierced by an arrow? But who was it? Unable to get up, I twisted my body reluctantly and looked toward the burning building. I saw a figure slowly approaching our way. His charred shirt is being dragged on the snow, staggering like an undead. His clothes and body are burnt all over, and it was hard to tell who it was at a glance, but I was able to roughly infer who he is from how his hand is covering his left eye. It's Yuhane. He is still alive? He is holding something in his right hand. That's a crossbow? Why is there something like that? Kirigiri said in a trembling voice. There can't be such a thing. Kirigiri-chan, run away. I barely made a sound. It's great that she didn't handcuff her wrist. She still has a chance to escape by herself. Yuhane is approaching slowly, with the sound of his clothes being dragged on the snow. Give me back my inheritance. It was like a cry from hell. Kirigiri-chan. I took out the black card from my pocket. That guy's goal is this. I will use it to stop him. You should take the opportunity and escape. No. The situation has changed. Kirigiri said forcefully, sounding like she is on the verge of tears. I must start again from scratch. I have to reason again from the beginning. After saying that, Kirigiri took the black card from my hand. Then she ran to a spot about 5 meters away from me and held up the black card facing Yuhane. Is this what you are looking for? Kirigiri said loudly. Yuhane stopped and looked over. Kirigiri is planning to lure Yuhane away, to let me take this opportunity and escape. Yuhane's steps quickened. Does his tattered body still have that much strength left? He slammed into the snow and ran, straight towards me. Yui-sama. Kirigiri let out a faint cry. Yuhane, with the same momentum, kicked me with the sole of his shoe and stomped on me. Then, as expected, he pulled out the arrow that had pierced my back. Ayoff. I yelled out in pain. Sprinkles of blood scattered on the snow. Stop it. I heard Kirigiri's desperate scream. Yuhane took the arrow he pulled out of me, put it on the crossbow in his hand, and reloaded it. Since there is only one arrow, it looks like he gave more priority to this than the black card. Don't move. Yuhane turned the crossbow towards Kirigiri. Kirigiri was trying to get close to Yuhane, but he is still a few meters away. She stopped and looked at Yuhane with remorse. The two faced each other at a distance longer than an arm's length. At this distance, Yuhane, who has the crossbow, has an overwhelming advantage. Yuhane's face was burnt by the fire, so I can't see his expression clearly. His clothes are almost torn, and his exposed skin has turned reddish black. It is incredible he is still alive. The arrow should have pierced through his left eye and into the head. Does that mean it wasn't a fatal wound? That's when I suddenly noticed. There is an old V-shaped scar on his thigh visible through his torn trousers. All right. I'll give you this card. Kirigiri said, holding the card high with both hands. But don't shoot us, or I'll tear it right here and now. Are you trying to negotiate? Yuhane said in a hoarse voice. From the left I held by his hand, red black blood dripped down like tears, dyeing the snow under his feet scarlet. Throw it here. No, I'm not letting go of it until we're guaranteed safety. I advise you, don't anger me. Yuhane said, adding a bit of hatred to his voice. I already feel like destroying everything. That's why. I crawled on the snow and looked up at Yuhane. He is pressing his left eye with his left hand, and in that hand, I saw something shiny. A knife. It was the one pulled from Kadomi's body. There is blood on its tip. He is pretending to cover the wound to hide the knife in his hand, biding his time. Kirigiri-chan. Be careful. His left hand is. Before I could finish speaking, he threw the hidden knife at Kirigiri. Kirigiri reacted to my voice and quickly took a stance. But it was a moment late. The knife flew towards Kirigiri's chest. She couldn't escape the throwing trajectory anymore. It's too late. Kirigiri immediately put her left hand in front and covered her body. The knife silently pierced into Kirigiri's palm. With a painful expression on her face, she pressed her left hand that was stabbed by the knife with her right hand and knelt there. If the knife was the murder weapon used to kill Kadomi, it should be coated with venom, although it has been used multiple times. I'm not sure if the effects of neurotoxins have completely disappeared or not. Kirigiri-chan. At some point, the black card escaped from Kirigiri's hand and landed on the snow. However, Yuhane turned a blind eye to this and focused only on hunting down Kirigiri, who was kneeling on the ground, and aimed the front end of the crossbow at her. The arrow is aiming at Kirigiri's forehead. Kirigiri finally raised her head and realized that death is imminent. Unfortunately, you are a no-dot. Yuhane's finger started pulling the trigger. At that moment, I handcuffed his ankle. It was Kirigiri who had just handcuffed one of my wrists and was going to put the other on herself. The empty one was buried in the snow, and I finally remembered its existence. Me and Kirigiri's memento. This way my right hand is connected to his left foot. I lifted my wrist vigorously, and Yuhane had trouble maintaining his balance and started slipping. The crossbow's aim was deviated from Kirigiri's body, and he couldn't pull the trigger as he wanted. I stood up with that momentum. The chain of the handcuffs is about 1 meter at most. When I stood up, Yuhane's feet were naturally lifted into the air, and as a result, he fell face first to the ground. Damn. What is? Yuhane was at a loss because he couldn't understand what's happening to him. Without giving him time to think about it, I pulled my wrist with all my might and headed for the burning observatory. Ayawa. The handcuff is digging deep into my wrist. A sharp pain is coming from the wound on my back, and I know that my blood is seeping out. Even so, I can't stop. I kept dragging these tens of kilograms of weight as far away as possible. To protect her. Yui-wan-sama, wait. When I came back to my senses, the call from behind has gotten farther away. I am worried about her condition, but there is no turning back now. Fortunately, there is snow on the ground, so even with my little strength, I can barely drag him. You bastard, stop. Yuhane turned over to a face-up position and fired the crossbow at me. The arrow pierced my back again. But the pain has only become the fuel that drives me even more mad. Ayo. Stop. Stop. Yuhane began to struggle violently. I ignored him and finally made my way back to the Sirius Observatory. The flames are swirling up in the air, and the heat wave almost scorched my cheeks that were wet from snow and tears. How many children have you kidnapped so far? Out of the corner of my eye, I looked at the burning observatory as I continued on across the snow. What? That 0 you got was self-made, right? I was admiring that rank. What are you saying? Gradually, I began seeing the void. The wind is getting stronger and stronger. It is as if Kirigiri-chan is trying to stop me. However, I cannot stop here. There is darkness in front of me. A deep valley stretching across, and in front is a cliff leading to hell. I can only imagine what the bottom of it looks like from the howling of the wind. Are you? Stop. Yuhane tried to stand up. But things didn't go the way he wanted, perhaps because I'm in control of one of his leg. But his body is already full of burns, so he was barely able to stand in the first place. 7 years ago, you killed a girl named Sammy Daremayu, remember? I turned to him and asked. What are you talking about? In that case, there were a lot of detectives who did their best to help her. I don't remember everyone's names, but you were among them. Was it for money? For fame? Whatever it was for, there was no need to kill her. Then why did you kill my sister? Right, at that time, it's true that I joined the search. But did you misunderstand something? Do you think I'm the kidnapper? What evidence do you have? I remember. On that day, I was a little later than usual getting home because I was behind on my arts and crafts project for a carved printing. When I got home, my sister was missing. At that time, my sister had been kidnapped and was forcibly taken to the van parked in front of the house. My sister must have been calling me for help in the car. No, her mouth might have been gagged, so she couldn't make a sound. I wonder which is the truth. But her voice still echoes in my head. At that time, if I was a little more vigilant. Returning home without any suspicion, I didn't even notice the presence of the kidnapper approaching from behind. I looked back, and suddenly stars scattered in my field of vision. I found myself on the floor with my hands on the floor. The back of my head felt as hot as if it was on fire. Tears welled up naturally. I was beaten by someone. A huge pillar-like shadow fell on the floor beside me. I thought I would be killed. For the first time, I felt the horror of death. I have to get up. If I don't face this fear head-on, it's all over. I was forced to make a decision. I know that if I don't make a decision here, everything will be lost. I dried up my tears and stood up. No time to hesitate. I have to do it. I grabbed the perpetrator's leg tightly, resisted desperately, and scuffled with the perpetrator. In that extreme situation where death was looming, I realized that there was only one way to end it. Stabbing him to death with this knife. When I came to my senses, I was holding a knife in my hand. It was the carving knife I used in the project. No hesitation. Then I stabbed someone. That vivid touch was not a product of imagination. It was reality. I stabbed someone. What am I doing? Why would I do such a thing? I looked down at the blood on my hands. It was, without a doubt, human blood, and I did it. Is this a dream? The smell of blood. The knife that pierced the kidnapper's body. My hands were shaking. All that was undoubtedly real. The perpetrator ran away from my house with the carving knife stabbed in his thigh. The wound on your thigh is the evidence. I pulled the handcuffs and lifted Yuhane's feet up. There is an old scar on the same spot where the kidnapper was stabbed by me 7 years ago. The unique V-shaped scar is undoubtedly the trace left by the triangular knife I used to carve with. Oh, that was you then. Is this some kind of coincidence? Or did someone plan it? You admit it? No, you're wrong. Money? Fame? That kind of thing didn't matter to me at the time. It's just, your sister, she was a yes dot. Yuhane said this, grinning with his burnt mouth. My mind went blank. This guy absolutely cannot be forgiven. I have to end his life. There is no other way to save this filthy creature but to pay with his death. Yui-1-sama. Don't. Kirigiri's voice. She is still on the opposite side of the observatory, unable to stand up, still kneeling on the snow. Probably because of the effects of neurotoxins. Despite this, she managed to drag her body desperately to catch up. Kirigiri-chan. I said to her loudly so not to be drowned out by the wind. You didn't do anything wrong. So please, continue to. At this moment, a huge explosion sounded from the observatory, the ground began shaking under my feet. The next instant, the observatory was surrounded by huge flames, and everything exploded right after. The burning walls, pillars, dome, glass windows, astronomical telescopes, all turned into fragments of different sizes, flying in all directions. Then a strong shockwave hit me, and I couldn't resist the overwhelming force. I was blown into the air like a dead leaf, despite the dozens of kilograms of weight hanging from the other end of the handcuffs. Behind me was the cliff. It did say that a self-destruction procedure was added. So it looks like that wasn't just a simple threat. When I was about to fall into the bottom of the valley, I saw Kirigiri's figure. Thanks to the distance between her and the observatory, she was not blown away by the shockwave of the blast, and she was looking my way with a stunned expression. You did nothing wrong. I shouted. So please, continue to. Live with dignity. 3. Tears are no longer flowing. It must be because I have run out of a lifetime worth of tears. My cheeks are wet because of the snow. I tried to brush the snow off my face, but suddenly I felt an inexplicable sense of incongruity. My right hand can't reach my face. I feel a pain in my wrist. When I regained awareness, I noticed I am wearing handcuffs on my wrist. Looking down the chain extending from the handcuff is someone's foot. All I can see is that foot, and the body is buried under a mountain of debris. I don't know what happened, but he can't be still alive. I can't see the sky. But the snow is continuing to fall. This is the bottom of the valley. I fell into hell. It is a place clearly out of reach of the sun, but the surroundings are dimly radiating light. It is because of the burning debris scattered everywhere. And I guess I was blown to the bottom because of the explosion of the observatory. I want to move my body, but I can't do it at all. It seems that I too have the same fate as the man with only a foot left, Yuhane. My legs are caught between the burning red and smoking rubble, so why can't I feel the heat and pain? I wanted to think about it, but decided not to. My vision is blurry. Oh right, my glasses. I can't see what's going on around me because I don't have my glasses. Am I still alive? Have I lived my life correctly? If I was a better detective. If I was not a high school girl with no strengths, but a talented genius. I would have been able to protect her. It's regrettable. In the end, I still couldn't protect anyone. Yui-1-sama. Yui-1-sama, where are you? There's a voice. That's Mayu? Mayu should have died a long time ago. Does that mean I am dead? Mayu is calling for me desperately. Speaking of which, when I was a child, we used to play hide and seek like this. She would call me desperately when I was mean and hid for a long time. Yui-1-sama. The rubble was removed and I was able to see her face. Hee hee, you found me, huh? Hold on, I'll help you out. She tried to remove the rubble that is holding down my lower body. Was it part of a pillar somewhere? It's simply a huge charcoal piece now, and with her strength she can't lift it no matter what. Not only that, her hands are burnt red. It must be painful for her just to grab things. She must have searched everywhere to find me. She pushed away the burning rubble and came to my side. Thank you. That alone is enough to save me. Mayu. Stay with me. Yui-1-sama. Her voice. I opened my eyes. In my hazy vision, there is the figure of Mayu. After her hands gently touched my face, my vision suddenly became clear. It was like magic. But it isn't my sister Mayu, it's Kirigiri Kyoko. Kirigiri-chan. Thank you. My glasses, you helped me find them. Yui-1-sama, we will both go back home alive. Please. I'm sorry I treated you as the criminal. Please let me correct my mistake. If I don't, I'll be. You did nothing wrong. So hold your head high up. Ah. Cherry blossom petals. It's so beautiful, Kirigiri-chan. You are so. 1. Kirigiri woke up in bed. She smelled the scent of disinfectant. There is an 4-pole standing beside the bed, and the tube extending from there is connected to her wrist. This is a hospital room. She felt pain. When she looked at her hands, she found it under several layers of snow-white bandages from the wrists to the fingertips. Along with the pain, her memory slowly recovered. But it was a very ambiguous, unfocused fragment, like the blood seeping out of the bandages, blurry. While staring at her hands, there was a knock on the door of the room. The person who appeared there is a girl who looks like a high school student. Yui-1-sama. Memories came flooding back all at once. Even though her consciousness was almost blown away by this torrent, Kirigiri closed her eyes and endured it. In this silent darkness, the months she spent with Samidare Yui flashed by. She finally calmed down and opened her eyes. Standing there is not Yui, but a stranger high school girl in a sailor uniform. You are awake. I'll call the nurse now. She said with a smile, pressing the call bell. Who are you? Kirigiri wanted to ask, but couldn't make a sound. But the other person seemed to sense what Kirigiri wanted to say from her expression. My name is Nazuna Toketsu. She bowed her head respectfully. This is my first time meeting Kirigiri-san, but I have heard a lot about you from Yadariji-san. Yadariji. We were involved in the same incident in the past. At that moment, the nurse came, took Kirigiri's body temperature and blood pressure, then confirmed the status of the 4 ring bandages. About your physical condition, the attending doctor will explain to you later. Please wait a little longer. The nurse said so and left the room. Passing by her, another high school girl in a sailor uniform and a tall man walked in. The man with the sunglasses and suit looks familiar. It's the detective she met in the Takeda Haunted Mansion case, Salvador Yadariji Fukuro, who helped her solve some cases. You had been very reckless again. He said this, checked the position of the chair with the white cane in his hand, and sat down. The girl in the sailor uniform took his elbow and supported him. As you can see, that incident made my eyesight deteriorate. My eyes were already very sensitive to light, so it did not make much difference to my daily life. For work, I hired these two to help. I will introduce myself again. I'm Nazuna Toketsu. She is Tsukiyo Nada. Both of us are second-year students at Sainten Academy, and we are now helping Yadariji-san with his detective work. The prudent red-haired girl is Nazuna, and the long-haired girl wearing a headband is Tsukiyo. These two names have been mentioned by Yui. They are the high school girls who were involved in the Libra Girls Academy case. You're still a middle school student. Don't be cocky just because your rank is higher than me. Tsukiyo said as she hid behind Yadarigi. You should thank us. It's us who saved you. Do not mind her. We did not do anything to be thankful for. Yadarigi said with a smile. Rather, we should apologize to you. If we had arrived at the Sirius Observatory a little earlier, we might have prevented the incident. The Sirius Observatory. Those words made Kirigiri's heart ache. In her mind, the moment of the final explosion still lingers vividly as a photograph. The expanding flames and scattered debris. And the figure of Yui falling down the cliff, blown by the blast shockwave. Let me start by explaining the reason why you are here. Yadarigi said, pushing up the frame of his sunglasses. After we got the news of Shinsen's death, we headed to the Sirius Observatory where his inheritance was sleeping. Because I felt that if we could get that inheritance, it would be like getting a stepping stone to reach closer to the center of the organization. Ah, don't get us wrong. Nazuna interjected. Yadarigi-san is working with the goal of eliminating the Crime Victims Relief Committee. Anyway, when we arrived at the scene, I was presented with an unbelievable sight. The Sirius Observatory no longer existed. There was only what looked like the remains of the observatory scattered on the ground. Yadarigi and the others found bloodstains on the snow there. They followed the trail and found that it continued to the cliff of the valley. At the base of the cliff, countless rubble had piled up, some of which were still emitting faint smoke. We did not find anything that could be called an inheritance. Just when we gave up and wanted to go back, we found you lying next to the rubble. Yadarigi pointed to Kirigiri and said, suffering from hypothermia, with severe burns on your hands, to be honest, I thought you were dead. It is a miracle that you survived all that, even though I do not believe in that kind of stuff. What about Yui Wansama? Kirigiri asked him. That was the first sentence she uttered in this room. About her. Yadarigi said this, lowered his head, and spent a long time looking for the right words. That silence was already the answer. Kirigiri could easily guess what he was going to say next. It was too late for her. Is that so? Kirigiri stared at the white curtains. No panic, no crying. This was a surprise Nazuna and Tsukiyo. Hey you. You don't feel sorry for her death? Do you even feel sadness? Tsukiyo kept asking. Are you still human? Are you still a detective? She probably touched a sore spot in with her words as her voice began cracking at the end. Stop it. Yadarigi stopped her. But. Tsukiyo ended up crying alone, so Nazuna had to comfort her. Am I still a detective? Kirigiri asked herself. I'm, as a detective, may already be dead. I'm not originally a detective with the intention of protecting or helping anyone. I was born a detective. That's all. But the time I spent with Yui made me feel more and more powerless. My pride in being born as a detective might actually just be mere arrogance and complacency. As a result, I couldn't save, nor protect anyone. I couldn't even protect the closest people to me. The fight against the Crime Victims Relief Committee is not over. Yadarigi said. Although Shinsen is no longer alive, his legacy is still being carried on by the organization. Not only that, the fallen detectives were scattered all over the world at the time of Shinsen's death. They do not have the cheap ambition to jump in at the mention of the inheritance. Instead, they are cunning and hiding while waiting for the next leader to show up. Whenever the call is given, they will expose their true nature and run amok. So, although it wasn't something that should be said at such a time, Yadarigi continued on. I want you to join us in hunting them down. We need your strength. Yadarigi persuaded in a calm voice. But Kirigiri just shook her head. What can I do now? Kirigiri Kyoko died. On that day, with her. 2. When she was discharged from the hospital, the cherry blossoms had already withered. For Kirigiri, the spring was coming to an end in white curtains and loneliness. Even after being discharged from the hospital, the bandages on her hand were temporarily prevented from being removed. It was lucky that the nerves were not hurt, or so the doctor said. But Kirigiri doesn't feel lucky when looking at her broken hands. The day she got out of the hospital. Kirigiri got on a bus. It's the bus that she has been on several times with Yui. The destination is the detective library. She put her elbow on the window and looked out at the flowing scenery while reviewing the events that happened at the Sirius Observatory. In Kirigiri's mind, the case is not over yet. The problem is the existence of the crossbow. Yuhane was injured by a bow and arrow or something similar, but if there was a crossbow somewhere in the Sirius Observatory, it is necessary to re-reason. Because the premise that the only person who could have shot the arrow was Yui is no longer valid. The main building had been searched and no crossbow was seen. However, without being limited by preconceived notions, by carefully lining up the events and calmly sorting out logic, the correct answer can be found. So where was the crossbow hidden? Probably in the underground passage. At the bottom of the stairs from the underground passage to the main building. The glass panel on the buried lamp set on the floor was made of ice for some reason, and there is a high probability that the crossbow was hidden under that ice. And it was not just simply placed, but also set as a lethal trap. For example, the crossbow was fixed with the tip of the prepared arrow facing the stairs. When visitors come, the ice panel would block the view, so the crossbow under the floor would not be detected. But the ice panel would melt. Did it melt naturally, or did it take advantage of the heat of the lighting? It should have at least been adjusted so that the ice panel would disappear in half a day. Then, when someone opens the trapdoor of the main building and prepares to go down the stairs, the arrow trap would be activated. Thinking about it carefully, Yuhane, whose left eye was wounded by the arrow, had fallen near the trapdoor. The pet bottle on the door had also been knocked over. Although the pet bottle may have been knocked over when Yuhane was on fire. But in any case, the trapdoor was opened by him. How was he able to open the door that could not be opened from the inside? That's because he took the black box out of the ice pillar and got the electronic key card. That black card could not only remove the handcuffs, but also unlock the trapdoor. He got the inheritance and wanted to get out quickly. He could have gone out through the window, but he probably didn't want to be tracked. He noticed that the trapdoor could be opened, so he got the idea of going through the underground passage and out from building B. But when he opened the door and was about to go down the stairs, the arrow flew up from below. It was a simple trap made with a trigger and wire. Just as someone had planned, Yuhane was knocked down by the arrow. So, who set that trap? Yuhane himself, who was shot by the arrow, can be excluded. Yukimura or Kodomi. Either of them could have been behind it. But it is also true that they were the victims. If it was a trap with the black card as the key, then the person who set the trap was a person from the organization. If that was the case, they should have known that the room would be tilted to more than 90 degrees, and in that case, they should have avoided being killed by the locked room technique. But they all became victims of the technique. So they were not the ones behind it. Who remains is Samidare Yui. But she was not the one who set up the crossbow. Because she handed me the screwdriver and tried to help me open that ice panel. If she knew the crossbow was there, she would have understood that that behavior is fatal. Yui was unaware of the existence of the crossbow. So, at least she was not the culprit of that black challenge. But can it be asserted that it wasn't her who shot the arrow at Yuhane? It is conceivable that it was because she did not know about the existence of the crossbow that she used the ribbon as a bow and shot Yuhane. For example, she shot the arrow to hold back Yuhane, who wanted to get the inheritance, and hit him by chance. No, it is hard to imagine that is the truth. The problem is the arrow. If Yui shot Yuhane, it would mean she hid the arrow beforehand. After that, the arrow was used by Yuhane with the crossbow, and it was Yui's turn to be shot by the arrow. Yuhane knew that there was a crossbow in the underground passage, so he took it out as a weapon. If the arrow was brought by Yui, how did it fit the crossbow hidden in the underground passage? The arrows of crossbows vary in length and weight depending on the manufacturer. If the arrow is different, the crossbow will not be able to shoot normally. The arrow that hit Yuhane was originally set on the crossbow in the underground passage. This is a natural inference. In other words, Yui did not shoot the arrow. After Yuhane got the black card, just as he was about to go out through the trapdoor, he fell into the trap and was shot. Based on the previous inference, the person who planted the crossbow that shot Yuhane was not among the 5 people gathered at that place, including Kirigiri. Was there a third party after all? Someone other than the 5 people must have been actively involved in the case. Moreover, judging from the type of the trap set, there is a high probability that that person did not appear on the scene. Furthermore, that person must have been someone from the organization. Who that person was is obvious now. Shinsen Mikado. While in the hospital, Kirigiri received a phone call from her grandfather, Yuhito. The regular contact was resumed after it had been interrupted. Yuhito was detained by the police as a suspect in the murder of Shinsen. Through that phone call, she learned that Shinsen's death was certain, and that Yui was also there at the time of his death. I don't know what the two of them talked about, because there wasn't even time for me to ask questions. But I can imagine that it was not an easy conversation. If Samadar-kun hadn't told Kyoko about it, it's probably a topic related to you, Kyoko. Kirigiri felt left behind. The world is spinning without her. Yui had gone ahead on her own. Why didn't she talk to me about it? I wanted her to tell me no matter the reason. The scenery from the bus gradually turned into a quiet high-class residential street. It's an incredibly unpopulated street. The next stop is the front of the detective library, the front of the detective library. The bus announcement sounded. Kirigiri-chan, you want to press the bus stop button? I didn't say I wanted to press it. Then is it okay if I press it? Feel free to do so. Let's press it together. 1, 2. Just press it already. Foo-foo, kidding. Kirigiri pressed the button by the window. Soon the bus stopped. Kirigiri got off the bus and walked towards the door of the detective library. As she walked along the wall, she sorted out the events again. If Shinsen was secretly operating in the shadows, the circumstances of the incident would change greatly. At the time of the incident, Shinsen was already dead, so it was impossible for him to be the perpetrator. There should have been a perpetrator other than him at the Sirius Observatory. Instead of saying that Shinsen was behind the scenes, it is better to say that it was his curse. Using greed to the maximum to push his criminal plan, still being so tenacious after death, it's eerie. Perhaps Shinsen asked Yui to play the role of the perpetrator in the Black Challenge. Because of the kidnapping incident of her sister, Yui has a reason for revenge. Kirigiri expected that they would use that one day, but there was no way to respond to it. You can't understand the hearts of others. No matter how perfect your reasoning can be, you can't understand other people's feelings. That's your weakness. When I remember that sentence, the pain in my heart becomes more unbearable than my hands. Did Yui hope that I can understand her heart? Did she want me to understand how she felt? I still don't know if she agreed to participate in a Black Challenge or not. But I can assert that she was not the culprit of that crime. The basis for this is the sleeping pills. She and Kirigiri drank black tea from the same thermos. There were sleeping pills in that thermos. At first, she thought that Yui was pretending to be unconscious after drinking sleeping pills, but now it can be logically determined that she did not attack Yuhane, which means that she also drank the sleeping pills without knowing it, and then passed out. Who mixed the sleeping pills in? Everyone had a chance. The food in the hall was left unnoticed on several occasions during the shift-changing periods. From this conclusion, it must have been Yuhane. He started planning to kill Kodomi in the daytime the next day, and the sleeping pills were prepared for this. He mixed sleeping pills into plastic bottles and thermos while taking a break from the ice-cutting work. Kirigiri and Yui didn't drink water that day. Then, at night, Yuhane tilted the two adjacent rooms, Kodomi's and Yuhane's rooms, upwards at the same time, going back and forth through the windows. Regarding the locked room technique, as reasoned before. For that to succeed, the victim must have been unconscious. That way, Yuhane killed Kodomi. So far, it is the same reasoning as before. So what about Yukimura's murder in the first night? If the rooms are not adjacent, the locked room technique does not work, and in that case, if Yui wasn't the perpetrator, only Kodomi is left. But he undoubtedly drank the mineral water with the sleeping pills on the first day, so he was unconscious that night. It wasn't Kodomi who killed Yukimura on the first night. And certainly not Yui. If so, then the premise is wrong. That locked room technique can only work if the perpetrator and the victim's rooms were adjacent to each other. That is what Kirigiri thought at the beginning. But was it really so? For example, what if 3 rooms were tilted at the same time? The perpetrator's target was Yukimura, who was a room away from him. Usually, the perpetrator would not be able to even reach the next room because of the chains. However, if the room sandwiched between the perpetrator and the target was also tilted, so the 3 rooms were tilted at the same time, a path to the locked room can be formed in the air. On the first night, Kodomi was in the middle room. But because he took sleeping pills, he couldn't even notice the tilt of the room. Yuhane used this method to kill Yukimura. Although it was a shortcut to the crime scene, the length of the handcuff chain should have only barely reached the target room. But it was for that purpose that the venom knife was made. As long as the window of the target's room can be reached, the rest is just pointing the knife at the victim and letting go. No one other than Yuhane could be the perpetrator. This is the logical answer. Nevertheless, why did I assume that Yui was the culprit? Maybe this time the murder case at the Sirius Observatory was designed in such a way that whether or not Yui accepted the Black Challenge, she could still be considered the perpetrator. If she was willing to be the perpetrator, the Black Challenge would have proceeded as planned. If she refused to be the perpetrator, or if she accepted the role of the perpetrator but did not execute it well out of hesitation in order to ensure the smooth progress of the plan, a pawn must be set in advance to push the case forward. That pawn was Yuhane. However, it is unclear whether he was aware that he was being manipulated. That is the curse left by Shinsen. Why did he do such a complicated thing on purpose? Kirigiri asked the spirits. Did he want me ruined? Did he want me to experience the humiliation of making a major mistake as a detective? In that case, he already got what he wanted, didn't he? Treating an important person as a criminal. Then, killing her. The path of reason should have been corrected at any time. The reason I couldn't do that was because the other person was Yui. The road I walked with her. The time I spent with her. The places I wanted to go to with her. The things she liked. Her smile. She cannot be the perpetrator. Emotions prevailed over logic. And so, as a detective, I had to deny that. It was only natural to deny it. At the point where I started to worry like this, I may have lost my balance with reason. As a result, I failed to notice that the final answer was distorted. I took the assumption that she is not the perpetrator as my emotional conclusion and discarded it. I screwed everything up because I wanted to carry out my will as a detective. If that's the case, it would have been better not knowing about her from the beginning. If only I hadn't tried to understand someone else's heart. Yui-1-sama. Why didn't you deny it? 3. Kirigiri passed through the gate of the detective library and entered the Western-style building. The scent of old wood and books made her feel a little nostalgic. She submitted her registration card to the counter to apply for renewal. The old man in his 50s took the card and started to operate the computer inside with slow movements. Ah, there's an update. Would you like to make the change? Kirigiri nodded. After about 5 minutes, the clerk brought the newly changed card. Kirigiri Kyoko DSC number 910. The number 0 is engraved on the card. But Kirigiri's expression didn't change at all. There is nothing to be happy about and no one to share this joy with. It's just that it's easier now to be noticed by the scouts of Hope's Peak Academy. That's all, the number has no other value. But now, I can't find what I want to say when I meet my father. If I go and see him like this, he would probably misunderstand that I came for comfort. Just thinking about that future is a little annoying. Is there a message for me? Kirigiri told the staff member, not expecting anything, but thinking, just in case. Ah, there is. Yui's birthday was August 31st. As I flipped through the file, a white envelope appeared between the pages. The front of the envelope is again in familiar handwriting. Did you find it? It's as if I can hear her voice. Kirigiri picked up the envelope and put the file back in its place. She moved to an empty reading room, took a deep breath, and opened the envelope, illuminated by the light coming in from the dusty windows. There are several sheets of letter paper folded inside. Beyond the familiar letters, her smile appeared. To Kirigiri-chan. You are reading this now. That means it's all over. How was my last case with you? If only I could have gone back unscathed. Why did I disappear from your life? You may be confused about this. But I can't tell you the details. Use your good reasoning to try unraveling it. I must be somewhere in that answer. You have said this before. Being a detective and being alive is the same thing. After I heard that, I thought to myself, what a heavy load you are carrying. But you still look so serene. You don't complain and only walk straight ahead. You look very awe-inspiring as a detective. Even though you are younger than me. At some point, I began to wonder if there is anything I can do for you. Hey, Kirigiri-chan. Your heavy burden. Have I shared even a little? Or did I make you feel heavier? Maybe you are now thinking of giving up being a detective. You must be carrying too much weight on your shoulders. Then take a break and look back. There will be someone there who supports you. It's almost time to part. I'm sorry, Kirigiri-chan. I've caused you so much trouble. I knew from the beginning what words to write on the last line. Goodbye is the second to last. With that, you already know what the last one is, right? Thank you for everything, Kirigiri-chan. Samidare Yui. We arrived at the Sirius Observatory on the morning of the 18th. According to the presumed time of death of Yuhane, half a day had passed since the explosion of the building. That means, Kirigiri-san, you lied in the snow at the bottom of the valley for at least one night. Kirigiri walked along the fence and back to the bus stop. A quiet road without pedestrians as usual. Kirigiri stood at the empty bus stop, looking at the end of the road. Tears could no longer be held back in her eyes. Emotions should be unnecessary for detectives. I was doing well until now. Tears are trickling down my cheeks. No matter how much I wipe it, it does not stop. The bandages are soaked with tears. Kirigiri finally knelt there, crying out of pain. I'm sorry. Yui-1-sama. Kirigiri called out Yui's name over and over again while sobbing. You said if I call you, you will come to save me, right? You said you will come to save me. Yui-1-sama. Yui-1-sama. 4. When the rainy season came, the bandages wrapped around Kirigiri's hands could finally be undone. The burns themselves had largely recovered, but the appearance hasn't returned to its original state. The doctor said that it would be better if the plastic surgery is repeated. But I feel that removing these scars would be like turning a blind eye to the mistakes I made, so I couldn't easily say yes to that. After the bandages came off, I'm finally able to braid the 3-strand braid with my own hands. But I don't braid the right side, and just leave it as it is. Although she said one day, it probably will never happen, it's like a little spell now. On a rainy day, Kirigiri visited Yui's grave. It took 5 hours to get there by changing trains and buses. Halfway up the mountain, her eyes saw a small town below. Is that the town where Yui was born and raised in? Yui's tomb is casually standing in the corner of the cemetery. I'm a little relieved to see that there are still new flowers here, and that others come to mourn her. Kirigiri placed flowers in front of the tombstone and clasped her hands together. Please continue to watch over me in the future as well. After saying that, she stood up, her hands wearing black gloves. Then she contacted Yadarigi on her mobile phone. Let me help with what you said last time. Let's get rid of every single fallen detective in this world. 5. A few years later. Kirigiri is looking out the window of Hope's Peak Academy classroom. With her gloved fingertips, she brushed her hair, which was flowing in the wind, behind her ear. The 3-strand braid is only on the left side, like a spell. Although I certainly don't believe in that kind of unscientific, irrational stuff. But I have a feeling of being watched over. Perhaps it's Kirigiri's activity that played a role, and the fallen detectives have almost all disappeared now, as if spring has come and the world has calmed down. But the battle isn't over yet. Behind this piece, Kirigiri's ears clearly hear the footsteps of the Shinigami that's holding its breath and biding its time. The phone vibrated and a new commission email is received. Kirigiri left the classroom and called the number listed in the email. The client is a rich man who lives in the next town and hopes to entrust her to solve a murder that happened in his home. I see, no problem. While talking on her cell phone, she turned the corner of the hallway. At that moment, a boy appeared from the corner and bumped into Kirigiri head-on. Both of them fell on their rears. Sorry. The boy said loudly in a panic. It's on me, I was focused on the phone call. Just then, a black ball broke through the glass window and flew into the hallway. It swept past Kirigiri at an astonishing speed and crashed into the hallway wall with a thud, as if it had been shot from a cannon. Upon closer inspection, it's a shot-put ball. Sakura mistook the shot-put ball put for a handball and threw it out. On the opposite side of the broken window, Kirigiri's classmate appeared. Is everything okay? Yeah. Yes. Kirigiri stood up and re-examined the shot-put ball buried in the wall. If she hadn't bumped into him and walked normally, she might have been directly hit. Since she was distracted when she was on the phone, there was no way to avoid it. Kirigiri-san, you dropped it. He picked up the card that had fallen on the ground and handed it to Kirigiri. It's the detective library registration card. It fell off. Thanks. That's the detectives. It's none of your business. Saying that, she passed by him and walked along the hallway. I don't intend to establish a relationship with others even if they are in the same class. If I understand others too well, they lead me to make a misjudgment. Even more so if I hold on to feelings. When Kirigiri was about to leave just like that, he spoke up. Kirigiri-san, are you going to do your detective work next? Kirigiri ignored his voice and continued walking. Could it be the murder next town? Hearing this, Kirigiri couldn't help but stop and look back. I may have witnessed the criminal. Could there be such a coincidence? Kirigiri folded her arms and tilted her head. Who is he? I remember it's a boy who enrolled as super high school level good luck. His name is Niji Makoto. Okay. Let me hear what you have to say, Niji-kun. Postscript. This book series began 7 years ago. As you know, to us, she was a foreigner, a transfer student who came to class one day. She had an inhospitable atmosphere and a face with a brooding appearance. She was once described as mysterious, and as advertised, she was a person who never let anyone know who she was. For 7 years, I tried to get various things out of Kodaka Kazu-san, who said to know her well, and observed her words and actions. In the end, however, I couldn't tell what she was staring at with her faraway eyes as she stood by the window. Nevertheless, the fact that we have reached the 7th and final entry in the series is no doubt due to the support of the fans who